We're in day 2 in Wisconsin for the Taylor Schabusiness trial. She's on trial for the murder of her boyfriend slash lover slash longtime best friend. I'm not really quite sure what it is at this point. Apparently, from some of the witnesses' testimony yesterday from family members, they've known each other since maybe like middle school, high school. They've been friends. And Taylor Schabusiness is married. She does have a very young child with her husband. But Shatharian is her lover, I guess. I believe during the time when this happened, we actually looked it up yesterday, her husband was in jail. So he's not involved in any of this. So right now, Law and Crime's calling it lover. Maybe we'll go with that. I don't know. I just said longtime lover, best friend slash boyfriend. Not really quite sure. But we're in day 2 right now, and we're going to get started with the detective. He's doing cross-examination. This is the beginning. Now, the cross-examinations have been kind of like, kind of like a lot of like repetitive stuff, repeating what the detectives did, repeating what the witnesses did. So we'll kind of jump around with the cross-examinations. I mean, honestly, Taylor's lawyer, it's kind of tough. There's a huge uphill battle for him. And the only thing he could really fight for in court is just saying that Taylor is not competent. Taylor's mentally insane, da-da-da-da-da. But apparently, from what I've read yesterday, this trial has 2 phases, and we're in phase 1 right now to determine whether or not Taylor is guilty of this crime. And then phase 2 will be whether or not she... Oh, my God. The earthquake? Shiro. Oh, Shiro. Okay. You just moved my entire camera setup. Okay, Shiro. Phase 2 will be whether or not she is mentally responsible, I guess, for this. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Hi, guys. How are you doing today? How's it going? I don't know. We read the Facebook message that the husband left for his wife. Definitely some really interesting high simp energy. Hey everyone, how's it going today? All right, we're going to jump into the court right now. I already watched this, but so I kind of know what parts to jump around to. But if you guys are just tuning in, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to drop them in. I'll try to answer them as we go. And then, I have to pin the message again. All right, we'll pin the message in case no one knows. In case some of you guys don't know what this case is about. So again, this is one of the detectives that arrived on the scene. He's being cross-examined right now. And we're not going to listen to the whole thing because, like I said, it's just a lot of repetitive stuff. But we'll jump around here and there. Let's see where we're at.
In the driveway.
Oh, sorry. Forgot to do headphones. So here's some examples of just like him asking the detective like about all the different cars that are in front and then who parked where and blah, 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 blah.
Before the doctor to arrive, and then we started to process the basement.
In the driveway, were there cars parked?
There's 2 cars.
What kind of cars, you know?
There was a red Jetta parked closer to the garage, and there was I think a dark RAV4.
Were they parked by the side door?
Yes.
Yeah, so what the cars are parked, what cars they were.
Did you see any gold colored minivan there?
I did not.
And the gold color minivan is a van that's going to belong to Taylor Schabusiness.
Driveway.
I recall 2.
What was the other car?
I'm sorry?
What was the other vehicle? You said a Jetta? Right?
There was a Jetta and I think a RAV4, if I remember correctly.
Did you see a Forester, a Subaru Forester parked there?
I don't recall that.
Yeah, so it's just like asking about the cars, who's parked where, stuff like that. All right, let's jump a little bit to the next one.
I'm only about that exhibit 33, that dog collar, correct?
Yes.
You opened it up and we were able to see it. That dog collar has 2 rings on it, correct?
Yes.
Do the rings, are they able to go into each other where you could?
So maybe he's asking about the dog collar because apparently this is a dog collar that Taylor had used to strangle Shad with while they were in a sexual act.
Right.
My understanding of the dog collar is you have to pass the chain through to join the rings so that it can be used as like a pincher dog collar. One of the chains that was by the pub table had already been done that and was a loop. And then the chain that was on the entertainment center was not looped through, so it was...
Hey, Grammy Hunt.
Okay.
Welcome.
The chain that you showed us, it had 2 loops and you couldn't put them through each other. Is that fair?
I didn't try it, but I think you passed the chain through to marry the loop of the collar.
Are you saying that there would be a separate chain?
That chain was as I found it.
Okay. And with that chain, the 2 rings, you're not going to be able to pass them through each other. Is that fair?
I didn't try to do it, but my understanding would be you could not. You'd have to pass the chain through to get the loop.
Okay.
So yeah, that's that line of questioning. And then it kind of gets to the part where the defense lawyer kind of gets a little bit gory with all the remains and different body parts in different areas. And I didn't really see the point of that. I feel like it just made Taylor look even more worse, but not a lawyer.
The Jimmy Choo bag, that was on top of the entertainment center?
It was.
And what led your attention to that?
There was some red tissue and blood, not blood, red tissue on the zipper and on the side of the bag.
Okay. And inside the Jimmy Choo bag were different body parts, correct?
There were.
There was a lung,
The doctor identified the object as the lung, yes.
piece of liver,
He identified the liver.
patella tendon.
The doctor.
See, I didn't really, when I was listening to this, I was like, why is he listing everything? Is that really necessary?
That and identified that.
Pieces of skin or fatty tissue.
Yes, sir.
If it was like the state that was listening, I can understand because they want to show the jury the severity of the case, I guess. But for the defense attorney to go over this again, it's kind of like, I feel like this would make it really queasy for the jury.
And there are lots of bags in there, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
wildlife.
There was a pink and black Under Armour backpack that was found, correct?
Yes, that we referred to as container 3.
That was on the floor by the mattress.
Yes, it was at the, I guess I'll call it the foot of the bed, but it was off the end of the bed between the bed and the entertainment center.
And in this container 3 were plastic shopping bags, correct?
There was.
There were some body parts in there,
There was.
skin, fatty tissue, muscle,
Yes.
left lung. A left lung, correct?
I don't recall. It's very likely yes.
Okay. Pelvis,
Judge,
Yes.
I'm going to object. I don't know
Yeah, me too. Me too, State. I'm like wondering, why are we going into so much details about this?
the relevance of asking the specific questions about this. I frankly think it's unsensitive to the crime victims who are present. I don't know that it assists the jury in any way to go through the specific body parts that are located
I agree.
in each of these containers.
well, my client is charged with mutilation of a corpse, so I think the state's got to prove up their case. And I think the jury just needs to hear whatever information is out there. I think it's relevant, but I can move on.
Well, I'm going to find that it's really,
Yeah, maybe move on.
to the extent you believe it's relevant to the state in making their case, you've already gone into it, so.
Sorry, I don't know why the judge never fixes his microphone. The judge did a really good job all the other days to put his microphone to his mouth, or not the other days, but yesterday in day one. But now the microphone, I don't even see where the microphone is right now. It's really far away, and I can barely even hear the judge. Hi, me. How are you doing today? Hold on, I saw a message. So sorry about Steve. He was a beautiful boy. Rest in peace. Yeah, I'm so sad. I don't know. It's been maybe like 2 weeks now, and we're going to go to the vet today, settle the bill, and I'm going to try to get all the documents and stuff, all the paperwork, the test work, the blood work, the x-rays and stuff. And yeah, just to have it, and close. I don't know. I have like a file of like all his medical stuff. So just to close it all out, I guess. But yeah, I'm just like really sad. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. I mean, I love it when you guys bring up Steve. I love talking about him.
I'm satisfied that we need to move on. I'm going to sustain the objection.
Did you find any notes or journals on the entertainment center?
There was a bag on the entertainment center that had some journals in it, yes.
Did it have anybody's name in there?
My recollection is that when we kind of swiped through it, it appeared to be just at face value that they were probably Mr. Therian's writings.
Was it confirmed?
I know we collected them, and in the event we needed to look through them later, but we didn't.
I know that yesterday you testified about the shower. Did you take a look at the shower drains?
I did.
Did you find hair in the shower?
I'm sorry.
Did you find hair in the shower?
There was hair in the drain and at the floor drain.
Was it your understanding that Mr. Stephen Hendricks and Tara Pakinich and Ava Wheelock all used that shower, including Mr. Therian?
I don't know who used the shower.
I don't know why that would matter, I guess, but I don't know, contamination or something. It's like, oh, other people in the house use that shower as well, where Shad Therian may have been dismembered, where little bits and pieces of him was found, but I don't know. There are just some lawyers, like, in the Lori Vallow case, I feel like some of the lawyers there were just like, okay, no cross-examination, not going to ask anything. So I don't know. Apparently, Bruce River did a video on this. I would love to
Now,
see his
you,
analysis on
Also
that.
searched a Chrysler minivan, correct?
I was present for the search, yes.
That was at the Green Bay Police Department Evidence Storage Facility,
Yeah,
correct?
so it's just kind of like this, him basically just repeating everything. Next, we're going to go to, this is the medical examiner, I believe.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Vincent Trinchita. My name is spelled Vincent. My last name is spelled Tranchida.
Okay, and with that, the witness is yours, Mr. Lizette.
Good morning, Dr. Tranquita. Can you tell the jury how you are currently employed?
Good morning. I'm currently employed as a deputy medical examiner for Dane and Rock counties of Wisconsin.
And how long have you worked in the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office?
I began my employment at the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office on July 1st, 2011.
You are currently the deputy medical examiner there. Have you held other positions at the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office?
Yes, I have.
And what other positions
So I like him because he speaks pretty clearly. Is the audio okay for this one?
have you held?
I was previously chief medical examiner of the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office for approximately 12 years.
And the decision to no longer be chief and to now be deputy, is that a voluntary decision on your part?
That is correct. I've stepped down to assist with family care.
And Dr. Tranquita, what was your position or employment on February 23rd of 2022?
Hey, Tam.
I believe at the time I was serving as a deputy medical examiner for Dane County.
And what was Dane County's relationship with Brown County at that point in time?
At that point in time, Brown County did not have a medical examiner's office, so we were providing coverage and assistance with forensic services for Brown County.
Oh, cool. I got the captions back.
Doctor, can you discuss briefly your educational
Tim.
background that is related to the position of medical examiner?
Of course. I did my pre-medical school training at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I went to medical school at Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit, Michigan, where I received my MD. I specialized in anatomic and clinical pathology and did a residency at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor.
Hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to skip through his qualifications and go straight to it.
Is it fair to say that when you were working,
She notified our office that there was a suspected homicide in Green Bay, and as part of our policy, the medical examiner on duty responds to the homicide scenes. So at that point, we mobilized and began driving up north to attend the scene of the investigation.
do you recall, Doctor, about what time you would have arrived at the scene of the investigation on 829 Stony Brook?
I thought day one was bad, where she was kind of sitting there and smirking a lot, and we were kind of like examining her face and stuff. She legit just like straight up laughs and like throughout the trial. I don't know. I'm trying to pay attention to the witness, but I can't help but just see her kind of just like chuckle off to the side and laugh here and there. I don't know. It's just so weird.
I cannot recall. I believe it was morning, though.
Do you recall who was
Yeah,
on
just
scene, or were there
horrible,
other parties on
inappropriate
scene when you
body
arrived?
language.
Yes, there were.
And
Yeah, worse than
what
Amber's.
types of other parties were present when you arrived?
Our investigator, Petra Schwab, was present, as well as law enforcement.
And what did you do upon arrival?
Upon arrival, typically what is done is we speak to the officer in charge, and we try to get as much preliminary information as is known when we arrive at the scene. Once that information is known, we wait until there is approval for clearance and access to the body, that we won't contaminate the scene or destroy any evidence on our approach. We donned Tyvek suits, gloves, masks, and face protection so that we don't contaminate the scene and also that we are protected. And then we entered the scene to do our examination of what's happened.
Do you recall, Doctor, making any of your own observations upon entering the residence, and then more specifically upon entering the basement area of the residence?
Yes, I do.
And what were those observations initially?
We arrived to what appeared to be a typical suburban residence. We entered through the front door, and we were directed down to the back of the house, through the kitchen, to a set of basement stairs. As we approached down to the base of the basement stairs, we were notified or alerted to a bucket that was present to the right of the stairs. We were then also directed that there was the possibility of additional human remains in other parts of the room as well.
And I guess before we get into the specific locations of the human remains that were collected, did you make any notations overall of that area of the basement where the remains were ultimately found?
I did.
And what were those observations?
As I entered the room, I was surprised,
Hey,
given the
Nacho.
preliminary information that I had, of how little blood was really very visible on first inspection. Subsequently, as I made my way through the room, we were able to find traces of blood at various points throughout the house. Throughout the room in the basement. On some furniture to the left of the bed, or against the wall on the left, there was a dark blue bag. There was also evidence of drug paraphernalia, including a glass pipe and a baggie. There were also cleaning supplies, Clorox wipes, and I believe a bottle of Shout detergent. Adjacent to the bed was a pink and black backpack, and towards the head of the bed as well was a blue tote. On top of the bed, which was a box spring, I believe, and mattresses, were a number of crumpled sheets and bedding.
Doctor, I believe you mentioned essentially in the room the four main containers where human
Jared says, coming off a sadistic, remorseless woman that enjoys the dark arts, what I'm more interested about this case is the it's going to be the psychological evaluation and stuff like that, which I guess will happen in the second phase. Because part one is just like some gruesome details, hearing from the family members and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm more interested in hearing about like what they think about her demeanor and stuff like that, because she's actually pretty. Right now, I just think she's just a POS, and she's just probably just really sadistic. I don't know, just an awful, gross person. But yeah, we'll see.
Remains were located. Is that consistent with your recollection?
With my little information that I have from watching her for
That is
9
correct.
hours
The
already.
room, yes.
Okay. So we've got the bucket, the blue bag on top of the
I think she's
dresser,
medicated.
the pink and gray bag on the floor, and then the tote. Are those the 4 locations where human remains were located in the room?
That is correct.
And can you just briefly describe the process that was used by the medical examiner's office to collect those remains?
Yeah, I think she was aware as well. And I think that she was just like high off her kite with drugs. And it's just so confusing why she did it.
Of course. These containers that contain the human remains.
But there are some
were
people you
photographed
can't
as
really
they were,
explain.
As they sat in their location. We then documented the external appearance of the containers. After that, a evidence sheet was placed out on the floor to try to collect any trace evidence that might be present either on the bag or within any of the bag's contents. I then opened each of the bags, removed the contents, and laid them out on the evidence sheet for inspection.
And can you describe for the jury sort of big picture on a scene like this, which is, I presume, unusual, what sorts of things you are looking for or attempting to ascertain as you're walking through the room and finding remains in various locations?
As I go through a room and evaluate the room, I'm looking for evidence of a disturbance, a struggle, or an altercation. I'm looking for signs of biological material which may tell me where a body part may be located. I'm also looking for evidence that may have contributed to the death. In other words, instruments, objects, weapons, evidence of drug paraphernalia. In this case in particular, I'm also looking for places that a body may be concealed, or that might be evidence of movement of a body from one location to another.
Doctor, you mentioned some of those things like weapons or the instrumentality of the crime. Were those things noted on your investigation or observation?
Yes, they were.
Hey,
And
Jeannie.
what was noted specifically?
On a black standing table besides the bed, there was a gray metal chain. On the dresser on the left wall of the basement, there was also a gray metal chain. Recovered from some of the containers as well were multiple knives, some of which had a bent blade and one of which had a broken tip.
Specifically as it relates to the human remains that are located, as you're collecting those items, are you sort of conducting an inventory or attempting to ensure that you have everything that you need with respect to the body that was cut up?
Yes, I am. I'm trying to recover as much of the individual as possible to try to ascertain that as much evidence as can be gained has been collected.
As you were going through the room, did you note that it was possible you did not have the entire body present in that room?
Yes, I did.
Did you note specifically what was missing?
On my inventory, I believe I was missing the right thigh, specifically from about the waist to about the knee. I believe that I was missing as well I was also missing the left thigh and left leg.
At some point in time, were you made aware that portions of the body may be at another location?
Yes, I was.
Did you travel to that other location?
Yes, I did.
And where was that?
This was a police storage unit offsite.
You know, it's really horrifying for a mom to find her son's head in the bucket. I'm just so glad that they didn't decide to explore the rest of the basement, that they saw the bucket and then went back upstairs and then called police. Because had they, you know, for me, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have like searched around the basement, like what's going on here? And then like, is there someone here? Is she still here? Like, I don't know. And then just imagine like just going through the entire basement and seeing other things and like the shower and all that stuff. Like, oh my God.
What did you do upon arrival there?
Upon arrival to the police storage unit, I was directed towards a van or minivan that was in the storage unit, and I was told that there was a possibility that there might be additional body parts within the storage van.
And did you actively participate in attempting
Yeah,
to
I think my
recover
sister's
the
dog is
body
like on
parts from the van?
trazodone right now. I think that's what the
Yes, I
vet
did. The
prescribed.
process was similar. I donned a Tyvek, gloves, protective mask, and a protective visor. We laid out an evidence sheet, and then we went through the contents of the van to determine if there were additional body parts.
And were body parts located?
Yes, they were.
What did you find?
I believe we recovered the right femur or leg bone of the thigh of the decedent. We also recovered a portion of left thigh, and we also recovered a portion of left leg from about the level of the knee to the ankle.
And doctor, was there anything noteworthy about the parts that you recovered from the van?
When they were recovered from the van, they were placed in, I believe, a crock pot box. There was evidence of skeletal trauma, including sawing, chop injuries, start and stop injuries of the bone consistent with dismemberment.
Anything else about the amount of flesh that remained on those items that were recovered from the van?
Specifically, the right femur had been defleshed. In other words, the skin, soft tissues, and muscle had been removed from the bone so that it was largely stripped down to the bone itself.
Doctor, I want to talk about the evidence recovery process and the chain of custody.
That's wild. I wonder if she has any history of, we know she has a history of like violence because of her past, like, you know, charges and arrests and stuff like that. But I wonder if she has a history of like torturing animals or anything like that. Like, I don't know. I'm just so curious, like, what else has she done in the past?
As it relates to the human remains, can you describe what that process is?
Very important in the nature of evidentiary work is maintaining a chain of custody. In other words, that the location of the remains and the custody of the remains is documented for each step along the way. At the scene, the evidence is photographed in the presence of witnesses. It is placed in a secured and sealed evidence bag, and then on the outside of the bag, we attempted to write and document which container which pieces came from, to attempt to recreate or be able to follow the story of the evidence as it goes from the scene through transport all the way to the medical examiner's office. When we use a secured body bag, what we mean is it's an intact body bag that's labeled on the outside, and then we also place a security seal, which is intact and numbered. We photograph and document the seal to show that the seal is intact and that the seal that was placed at the scene is the same seal that we're cutting at the medical examiner's office.
Hey, Doggy Deb, welcome. Thank you so much for joining Tier 1. Welcome, welcome. I don't know why YouTube does this. I feel like when you use the emails, they should know that's already spaced out. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I appreciate it and welcome. And I love your profile picture. Oh, tacos are the best. I'm actually having a huge liking to cats right now, too. But we can't have cats because someone's allergic. But welcome. Thank you so much for your support.
And then, do you recall what specifically the process
Enjoy
was for
emails.
transporting the remains to the Dane County Medical Examiner's office for autopsy was?
Yes, I do. The transport driver was notified, the driver was mobilized, and then the driver took custody of the body bags, loaded them in the van, and then the driver and the body was escorted back to the Dane County Medical Examiner's office.
So then, doctor, ultimately, did you perform an autopsy on the remains that were recovered?
Yes, I did.
So he's going to go extensively into the autopsy report. It's going to kind of get repeated a couple times. So he's going to go over it generally, and then they're going to at some point admit pictures in. We're not going to be able to see those pictures. They're going to admit the pictures in, and the next phase is him actually going over it again with like a body diagram. So it's a lot of repetitiveness here, and I'm just going to kind of just forward through to the part where he just like has the body diagram up. But I don't know if you guys want to, there's a part where they're going back and forth with the judge regarding whether or not to show pictures, I think, of the head in the bucket to the jury. And I think like other photos of Shad, and Taylor's like sitting there laughing. She's like giggling. Was it this part?
Publishing the jury.
Objects to exhibits 74, 75, 76, more prejudicial than probative, relevancy, and duplicitous arguments.
Overruled. You can publish in the jury.
You're allergic? You have a cat? You got a short-haired one? I keep him for my face. It's not bad, luckily. Oh, it's like to have worse allergies. My friend has like 2 corgis, and she developed allergies to them afterwards. So she just gets like allergy shots.
While we're waiting for this to fire up, could we have a sidebar with counsel?
Oh, God.
Issue I need to take up with the attorneys, so I'm going to excuse you. We're going to take our mid-morning break right now.
All right, they're going to take a little mid-morning break.
Back to this demonstrates the indicia of strangulation, which is ultimately the doctor's determination as to the cause of his death, and can describe why he believes that the strangulation occurred prior to his death, and it actually shows a small portion.
Was it the Facebook statement that I read yesterday, Madison? It was like, my queen, my Schabusiness hustle shuffle queen or something like that. Can't wait for you to get out. And it was just madness. I don't know. Maybe he was high on something too.
Portion of the remainder of his body, which demonstrates different coloration. So it's a highly relevant photograph that the doctor is capable of describing. And I wanted to head this off and have the court address that issue outside the presence of the jury. I can mark the photo and provide a copy to the court so that you have an opportunity to view it.
Okay, why don't we do that? Let's get it marked, and I'll take a look at it. Mr. Fairley, presumably you see it.
And I would note that you're using diagrams.
Julie, is there an objection?
Making objections to photographs that I thought were, that should not come into evidence. But we're in a trial now, and, you know, as a defense attorney, you don't know what the state's going to present as evidence. This picture I would object to on behalf of my client. We already have a picture of what the victim looked like when he was alive. That was already presented by the state. Now they're presenting a second picture. I would argue that this picture, if it has any relevancy to the case, it's highly prejudicial. It's an autopsy picture. I don't believe a lot of people on the jury have ever seen something like this before, and it could shock their conscience and create horror in their minds. So
I thought it was kind of normal for the jury to see autopsy photos, even though it's like gruesome. It is relevant to the case because you see what happens to the victim and the aftermath.
I would object to it, Your Honor, on all of those grounds. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, KK. Oh, what's
Doctor,
the cat's name?
Exhibit 77 was a photo that was taken at your office during the course of the autopsy, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, the issues the court has to address in these kinds of objections relating to prejudice versus the probative value is really a balancing kind of a test. And the issue that's being addressed with the court, what this is being offered for, is to demonstrate the means of death and which is an important part of the case, of course. And I ruled earlier at the hearing in June that I was not going to permit the exhibit of the crime victim's head in the bucket. This is a different, really, set of circumstances. This is a photograph taken in the process of an autopsy. We have the coroner here, who's really a witness that's an important piece of this case, frankly, for both sides of the case to hear from. And this is a photograph taken in the process of him doing his job, and one that I think, given what I've heard by way of an offer of proof, is going to be useful in him describing the means or the method of death of the victim. I'm satisfied for those reasons that although there's certainly prejudice to the photo, many things that come into a trial are prejudicial to one side or another. I'm satisfied the probative value in this case outweighs the prejudicial effect. I'm going to allow the photo to be to come into evidence, and then the doctor can explain what's shown on it and why it's relevant to the case. So that's going to be the order of the court.
Your Honor?
Yes.
With respect to the court, just as further additional argument,
Want to further argue my decision?
No.
Go ahead.
Your Honor, though, it's just kind of, in my opinion, sort of highly unusual that this picture, of the deceased would be presented to the jury when the doctor can easily testify about, the cause and
So the camera just panned away, but she was like smirking there a little bit.
manner of death. The picture isn't going to really add too much, in my opinion, but I totally respect the court's ruling. I just want to make sure I made all my arguments to the court.
Sure. And I understand that. Photographs can be helpful to juries in understanding what witnesses are testifying to. For example, I think that argument could be made probably regarding every single photograph that's been entered into evidence, and that is, well, we can tell you what it looked like, and so you don't need to see a picture of it. Photos can be helpful. They can. And so I understand that argument. The doctor could just simply describe everything, but the question is this going to be helpful to the jury, and will the prejudicial effect outweigh the probative value? I don't think so. I do think it'll be helpful to the jury, and so for those reasons I'm going to do it.
I really hope if the family members are there, I hope they don't see her laughing like this. I don't know. I would be so fucking upset if I was the family members.
Allowed to be admitted. So that's the order of the court.
I don't know. I might jump over that thing. We'll strangle her.
Before the council takes a brief recess, Mr. LeVay.
Just briefly, so on the issue of the photograph, while we are showing it to the jury, I would ask that the media not show a copy of that photograph on the live stream.
I will enter an order that the media is not permitted to show that photograph on the live stream or take a picture of it in any other fashion. Anything else?
No.
I don't know what she just mouthed there just now. I'm not a lip reader.
On the live stream or take a picture of it in any other fashion. Anything else?
No.
You said, oh, well? Oh, well?
Anything else before break?
No.
Very good. Then you can step down. Doctor, we'll take a break. I think we've taken up about half the break already, but try to be back in 5 or 10 minutes. One recess.
Okay, so we're going to jump to this part right here where we have the body diagram and he's going to talk over the details. So just so we don't have to listen to like first time, second time, third time, because we've already listened to it a couple times already, but this is going to be the final detail from the medical examiner.
Yes, it does.
And could you note what's of importance from your medical perspective as to these diagrams?
Of course. This is the front page of what's referred to as my autopsy notes. And this allows me a front and back view of the body to depict findings. Also, a spot at the top where I can enter the general demographic features, in other words, weight of the body as it's recovered, approximated age, frame, hair color, eye color, what's the state of the postmortem changes, such as rigor mortis or livor mortis. And then with the front and back diagrams, I'm able to show sort of general findings. In this case, because there were so many sharp force
Wow, she's like really paying attention to that diagram.
injuries and injuries of the head and neck, I saved them for separate diagrams. And this is more for general findings. The most relevant ones that I want to kind of emphasize on is there is marked congestion of the head and neck, but the rest of the body is relatively
Right,
pale.
Tam?
There were some contusions or blunt force trauma injuries.
like I'm starting to
of
get
the
that
remains of
sense
the
as
body.
well.
There was a contusion on the upper aspect of the left side of the chest, a contusion on the upper aspect of the right side of the chest. There were abrasions of the right upper extremity. There was a contusion or bruise of the anterior aspect of the right knee, and there was a collapsed blister on the left heel. He also had a gray metal ring that was present on the little finger of the left hand.
Doctor, on the screen, are we now showing page 2 of Exhibit 79?
Yes, we are.
And specifically, I draw your attention to the top right-hand corner of that. There's a depiction or a drawing. What is that?
In the top right-hand drawing is a picture of the surface of the decedent's tongue. With my crude art skills, I apologize.
Oh, right
But
here.
I'm depicting where the arc-like abrasions are present on the tongue, and that's at the tip, those curvilinear interrupted abrasions. There was a contusion of the right side of the tip of the tongue, or bruise, and then on the back and middle aspect of the right side of the tongue, there were two parallel, very patterned, very regular indentation rows consistent with a potential ligature being pressed against the neck. Being pressed against the tongue.
Doctor, based on your prior experience with strangulation cases, is that something
Yeah, contusion is a bruise.
that is typically seen or ordinarily seen where there's a potential ligature strangulation, that you may see ligature marks not only on the neck but also on other parts of the body?
Yes, it occurs when the ligature shifts during the assault. If the ligature shifts, often the victim or the decedent will try to get their chin underneath the ligature.
Hey,
I can
Ray.
sometimes see injuries across the chin, across the lower lip, or inside the mouth as the ligature is shifting in position before it's placed again on the neck.
Doctor,
Yeah, regarding the tongue contusion, he gets a little bit detailed about that.
you mentioned that you were present on scene and had the opportunity to observe two metal dog chains that were collected by law enforcement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And did you note any consistency between those chains that were collected and the marks that you observed on Chadtherian's body?
Yes, I did.
And what was that?
When I'm observing injuries or trying to interpret injuries, I'm looking for patterns. Anything that I can use to convey to an investigator, hey, you may want to look for this at the scene. In this case, we had very organized, repeating, interrupted indentations on the surface of the tongue, very evenly spaced apart. This would not be inconsistent with the pattern of a chain and the chain links as a twist, leaving separate corner impressions on the surface of the tongue.
Wait, what? The chain link was on the tongue?
Doctor, does the screen now depict the third page of Exhibit 79?
Yes, it does.
And could you describe for the jury the significance of these particular diagrams?
Because there were so many findings, I separated out the head and neck diagrams to a separate diagram. This diagram depicts multiple different views of the decedent's head and neck. Similar to the photograph, we can see that there is congestion of the head above the level of decapitation. In other words, there's purplish discoloration or cyanosis or plethory of the upper aspect of the neck and head, consistent with congestion. On the right side of the decedent's face and nose is an abrasion. There are contusions at the left temple, just above the ear, and at the right temple, just above the ear as well, or bruises. Once I dissected down the neck, I found hemorrhages of the muscles of the neck on the left side and right side of the neck. I also found sharp force injuries of the outer aspect of the left eyebrow and outer
Oh, wait until we get to the cross-examination. Some of the questions asked are ridiculous.
aspect of the left upper eyelid, and then also on the left side of the tip of the nose. I believe that these are also post-mortem artifact because they're not hemorrhagic, there's no redness, there's no swelling. This is consistent with cutting a body that's already been dead. Across the neck, I am depicting the point of decapitation of the decedent. This was roughly at the level of cervical vertebra C5, C6. We have about 7 cervical vertebrae, so it's just above the base of the neck. Where we have complete decapitation. In other words, it's going completely through the neck, and the head is separate from the remainder of the body. There are also a number of sharp force injuries above and below the level of decapitation, consistent with multiple cuts attempted as the person is trying to get through the neck.
Do we get any communications between her and Shad by any chance? Like, are we going to see some text messages or anything like that? Like, I just wonder if there was just like an insane amount of hate that she ended up having towards him, or she just did it because it was fun.
Now, Doctor,
Or maybe something else.
does the screen show what is page 4 of Exhibit 79?
Yes, it does.
I don't think I will ask you to describe every injury that's denoted on this particular diagram, as we would be here a while, but could you describe generally what is depicted in this diagram?
Of course. This is a front and back view of the decedent's body.
I don't know if it's like, I think I'm like leaning more towards not like hatred, maybe leaning more towards the like, she was just having some messy fun with his body afterwards.
I'm attempting to show the points of dismemberment.
The female
as well
praying
as
mantis.
points of sharp force injury that are present. The contusions I've also included here to try to show where they are, or bruises and abrasions. But for the most part, I want to focus on the sharp force trauma. In particular, in this case, we have the head has been decapitated at the level of the lower neck. The back has been largely flayed and defleshed. In other words, the skin of the back has been removed. Also, the muscles of the back have been removed so that we have exposed rib cage and spine. The torso, so extending from about the neck to the groin, has been bisected or cut in half at the level of the lumbar vertebra or the vertebra of the lower spine, so that we have access to the inside of the torso, both the pelvis and the upper aspect of the chest and abdomen. We have attempted amputations at the level of the right shoulder.
Now, can I bring something up really quick? If she was really like if she didn't know what she was doing was wrong, wouldn't all this have just taken place on the bed, and wouldn't the entire place just be extremely bloody? But the fact that she probably strangled him on the bed, maybe sexually assaulted him on the bed, but then I'm assuming she dragged his body to the bathroom. Because again, when they first arrived there, it wasn't like a ton of blood everywhere. It wasn't like, a dismemberment scene. There was some blood on the mattress. There was some, blood here and there and stuff. But like, she must have known what she was doing, because if she wanted to drag his body to the shower where cleanup would be easier, I mean, that to me kind of shows that she would plan on cleaning it up afterwards.
And right elbow. We have numerous cuts and stab
I don't know. What do you
wounds
guys think?
of the extremities. When we get to the abdomen and thighs, we have areas of skin removal where flaps of skin have been removed. Where we get to the right thigh.
She put a bucket under his head when she cut it off. Was it because she didn't want blood to get everywhere? And she cleaned it up. I don't...
All of the soft tissue has been removed, so we're down to the bone. In other words, all we have is exposed femur for the length of the femur. When we get to the lower extremities, the left lower extremity has been amputated to the level of the knee. The kneecap or patella was recovered separately. We have another amputation from the knee to the level of the ankle, and the left foot was recovered from within the left chest cavity.
Bruce's
Placed within
video?
there.
Let me see.
At the right lower extremity, we have, again, the femur, which has been largely defleshed, but I was able to reapproximate the pieces of muscle and pieces of skin to recreate what was there. And then we had the right knee to the right foot still intact.
Doctor, based on your training and experience, what kind of amount of time would be necessary in order to create this sort of disruption to a body?
Objection, speculation,
Overruled.
foundation.
Overruled.
It is my medical opinion that this would be quite a few hours. We have decapitation, we have dismemberment, we have transection of the torso. Subsequently, internally, the body has been eviscerated. In other words, we have entered inside the body through various cuts, both at the abdomen and between the ribs, where the victim's organs have been removed, largely one by one. We have castration of the decedent. The decedent has been castrated as well. We have cutting or sawing through chop mark injuries of the bones. It is my medical opinion that this would have taken quite a great deal of time.
Oh, you know what? I think I read this on stream. Yeah, I think I read this on stream actually. But I think at some point I glossed over the parts where it was a little too much. Or I read it, I just maybe mentally forgot or something. Schabusiness stated the plan was for her to bring all the body parts with her, but she got lazy, only ending up putting the leg/foot in the van, and she forgot the head. Schabusiness made comments that she didn't mean to kill the victim, but as she was choking him, she liked it, and she just kept doing it. Schabusiness also made a comment that she was not prepared as killing the victim was random. Schabusiness stated that she had the victim's body on the bed in the basement. She pulled him to the edge of the bed, put the black bucket underneath the victim's head as she was cutting the head off. Schabusiness also talked about using the bucket and tote to catch the victim's blood, and that she would use the shower in the basement to dump out the bucket. Schabusiness was asked if she thought it was the right thing to do, and Schabusiness' comment was that she did it anyways, referring to the victim. Yeah, I think she just, I just think she just doesn't care. POS.
Attempting to denote here as opposed to on the previous exhibit.
Again, I don't want to overload one particular set of diagrams. So in this set of diagrams, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show the points of skeletal dismemberment. In other words, where on the skeletal system the body has been taken apart. So here I'm illustrating that the head and neck have been severed at the level of C5, C6. I have that the torso has been severed at the level of about L3, L4 of the lumbar spine. I've shown that the pelvis has been cut
Right-waisted?
right at the pubic bone and separated open. I've shown that there is attempt to sharp force trauma at the distal right arm or right humerus, and also at the proximal right forearm or right radius and ulna. I'm showing that we have amputations or severing of the left femur, both just proximal to the hip and at the distal left femur. I've shown that the left kneecap has been separated, and I've also shown that the left lower leg has also been separated at the distal tibia and fibula. At the right lower extremity, the right hip socket has been opened and separated. I have severing of the right lower extremity at the level of the knee, and the kneecap on the right side is received with the lower leg.
Doctor, you had mentioned attempted dismemberment or attempted amputation. Can you describe what you mean by that?
Of course. There are some areas where there are cuts through the muscle and cuts through the skin, but they do not completely transect the limb or extremity. So there's evidence of cutting deeply into these tissues in the postmortem state, but not complete transection, so they are still attached. On the bones, there's multiple evidence of sharp force trauma to the bones, even in areas where the bone is still in one piece. Evidence of previous attempts to cut or saw through or transect the bone. These pieces of bone were
I'm going to
collected.
non-responsive.
Wait for another question, Doctor. Go ahead.
Doctor, is it typical that in the course of your investigation into a death that you would ask for toxicology to be performed on the decedent?
Yes, it would.
And was that done in this particular case?
Yes, it was.
What were some of the challenges that you faced with respect to toxicology?
The largest challenge was the amount of disruption of the vascular system. This body was essentially bloodless. So what I did is at the scene, I collected a hemorrhagic fluid that was present in one of the containers where the body was kept, with the hope that some of this was blood that was drained from the decedent's remains as they sat within the container. And these were submitted for toxicology. In addition, I saved tissues as well, should there have been a need for that.
Based on
I don't know. Can you also inject meth? I thought you can inject everything. I don't know. People be injecting a lot of things nowadays, right? I heard they were injecting, or she was, I don't know if they or she were injecting like trazodone. Were they injecting meth as well?
your training and experience, are there concerns about the accuracy of the toxicology based on how you had to obtain the fluid for toxicology?
Yes, there are.
If I remember correctly, I think meth kind of smells like ass, doesn't it?
This was hemorrhagic fluid that was collected from in this case, the bucket, where a portion of the decedent's remains were recovered. Whether this all represents the decedent's blood, somebody else's blood, substances that may have been present in the bucket before the decedent was placed in there.
I know meth is typically smoked. I just don't know. Maybe people just be injecting it nowadays. Yeah, there was a glass pipe on the dresser.
Whether the blood is entirely blood or a combination of blood and cerebrospinal fluid and vomit and other fluids, whether there is water present in the bucket as well. So as a result, these findings are noted, but they should be taken in that context and with those caveats.
And in terms of the toxicology report, what substances did you note from the fluid that was submitted for toxicological testing?
From the fluid that was submitted, we found cocaine. We found cocaine metabolite benzoyl ecgonine. We found methamphetamine. We found amphetamine. We found delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol, or the active component of marijuana.
Marijuana.
And I believe we also found nicotine, which is present in most tobacco products.
Now, doctor, you found a number of those substances in the fluid. Are those substances, in your opinion, contributory to Shatharian's death in any way?
I do not believe so, no.
I think you mentioned this earlier, doctor, when you were describing the general process of the autopsy. But is swabbing of the body something that you typically do?
When I suspect that there may be the involvement of another individual within a death, yes, swabbing is something that I typically do.
And is that something that was done in this particular case?
Yes, I did.
Can you describe the process for swabbing and then the process for maintaining the integrity of the evidence that's collected in those swabs?
Of course. Before the body is cleaned or altered in any way, while it is still resting on an evidence sheet, what I do is I collect DNA swabs of the external surfaces of the body. Typically, I'll go for areas where I suspect the greatest possibility of contact. In this case, I believe they are all listed on pages 14 of the autopsy report.
Yeah, she is married, which I was very shocked to hear. I didn't dig into her like past life before this, so I found out yesterday when we were covering this. Someone in chat brought it up. But I mean, these are her Facebook pictures, you know? That's her right there. That's her smiling right there with their husband.
Now, doctor, you...
Oh shit, hold on. With her husband. That's her right there. Green Bay Packers fan. On Facebook, Schabusiness wrote that she's married 100%. Heart face, kisses, family over everything. Kiss, heart face, 100%. I don't know, man. Someone that uses like this many emotes. I don't know. I'm scared. King, Warren, Hart, Taylor, Blackheart, Mateo. I think is the name of their kid, which I don't think either of them have custody of or had custody of before. Crown, Moneybag, Schabusiness Way, Moneybag. On Facebook, Schabusiness' husband uses the name Warren Schabusiness, but says his real name is Warren Shabau. My wife, Taylor Schabusiness, might be locked up for a long time / forever, but it doesn't change the fact that she's my wife. I'm going to stand behind her no matter what. F anyone who has said anything to say about my empire, because right now all that matters is my wife is okay. He wrote in a post, blaming the murder on drugs. What is this? Now taking in beadwork orders, dream catchers, dog tag logos, and more. Wait, who is this? Oh my gosh, Schabusiness used to make dream catchers? Oh man, you'd be having nightmares. I don't know about it. Maybe that's her kid right there. According to a bail motion filed by her defense attorney, Schabusiness is the mother of a 2-year-old child named Mateo Coronado. Her son lives in Texas with his paternal grandparents. Child's father, Warren Shabau, is currently in custody at the Federal Detention Center. She married Warren Shabau on February 14, 2020. She wrote in January 2022, I got hitched to show them my commitment, loyalty, and dedication to them, that I was never going to be how I used to be. Then they turn around and F on me. There's no way I'll ever go into another relationship. Can't trust no one. That same month, she wrote, double cross my loyalty. That's one thing you'll never get back. Steaming emoji face. Let's play. It's Taylor right there. In November 2021, she shared pictures of an infant on Facebook. Happy Thanksgiving from my family to yours. Heart and turkey. She tagged Warren Schabusiness in one post. Warren Schabusiness wrote, I do trust my beautiful wife. I would do anything to protect her. Stay strong, baby boo. I love you. I don't understand also, why do people type like this? Capitalizing the first letter of every word. That's time consuming. For Queen Taylor Schabusiness. He's currently locked up on federal charges for methamphetamine. Oh, he's got her name tattooed on his neck. He wrote on Facebook, my name is Warren Shabau, but I'm the one that blessed Taylor with the last name Schabusiness. Either way, I'm currently locked up on federal charges because I was framed. Anyways, I beat a conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine charge and pled to a possession with intent to deliver, which is the best deal I could get. According to Shabau, so I was sentenced to 28 months because I already had 25 months at the time of sentencing. With this being just said, just know I'll be out by January 2024. Is he out now? Wait, is it? No, not yet. He'll be out soon, but possibly November or December this year. So plan on Warren Schabusiness to be out soon. Wait, how is he Facebooking? Who's giving him like a cell phone in jail? Now you know a little bit more, Warren, and trust me, come my release, there'll be lots more to know about myself and my wife. Hashtag free my wife, Taylor Schabusiness. Hashtag loyalty over everything. And we read this yesterday. It's cringe. A woman responded to Warren's post. I love you, cuz, but as everyone knows, drugs were in her life before Shad. I hope she has a better defense than that. I will say that the system failed her as a child, that they should have to pay for that in order to be the person she is, and she's taken out of the situation. She may have had a chance at life. Maybe she had like a rough like family upbringing or something. Shabao also has a state criminal history in Wisconsin, convicted of armed burglary, theft, operating while intoxicated, disorderly conduct with a domestic abuse modifier, resisting an officer, marijuana dealing between 2010 and 2020. Mother and brother of Taylor Schabusiness both died young. In 2022, Taylor Schabusiness' brother Arturo was killed in a motorcycle accident. It says AJ survived by his father, sister, which is Taylor, nephew. Okay, I think we're done. Yeah, I don't really know much about her history or anything like that.
So it included the left and right sides of the forehead, the left and right cheeks, the left and
They
right
tape
sides
like
of the
this
chin,
right away.
the left and right sides of the neck,
Yeah.
both sides of the chest, what was left of the skin surface of the abdomen, what was left of the skin surface of the back, the left and right arms, the left and right forearms, the left and right wrists, the palmar aspects of the left and right hands, the dorsal aspects of the left and right hands, the skin of the left thigh, the skin of both legs, the skin of both feet, and then I took oral, penile, scrotal, and rectal swabs. And then of all the fragments of skin that were recovered separate from the decedent, I swabbed the skin surfaces of those as well. So those were 12 separate fragments of skin were each swabbed. After that, they're air-dried, packaged, and given to law enforcement.
And that process was followed in this case with respect to the integrity of the evidence.
That is correct.
Is it typical that you obtain a swab that's intended to be either a swab or some sort of evidence that is intended to be a
Yeah, go
known
ahead.
sample
Waste your
for the
time. It's
deceased?
time consuming.
That is correct.
What is the typical process for that?
Typically, we collect what's referred to as a DNA card, which is a blood spot card that is air-dried and then subsequently can be used for DNA testing.
Do you know if that was used in this case?
Yes, it was.
Do you know if you also did a buccal swab in this case, or a swab from the inside of the mouth of the decedent?
Damn.
That's correct. That was with my oral swab that I took earlier.
Dr. Trankita, good morning.
Cross-examination now.
Did you determine the time of death and the date of death for the deceased?
All right, let me just spoil it for you really quick. His questions. There's like a couple questions here when he starts asking where I'm just like, oh, why do you really want to go down that road?
At best, I can determine approximately how long a person has been dead.
Are you sure the victim died not of by methamphetamine? Are you sure it wasn't something else that killed the victim?
But in terms of determining the time of death and the date of death, we list the time where they're examined by a medical professional.
This particular case,
I think
You were
she's 25,
contacted
turning
by,
26 this year.
the Brown County Medical Examiner, or Petra Schwab, correct?
She was our Petra Schwab was our lead investigator at the time. That's correct.
Okay. She's not a medical examiner, but she's a director, correct?
I believe now her title is Director of Operations, correct?
And she contacted you to secure your assistance with the investigation in this particular case?
That is correct.
Were you contacted on February 23rd of 2022?
I believe that is correct.
Okay. And you were briefed on some of the issues or what may or may not have happened, correct?
That is correct.
And then you traveled from Madison to where the location on Stony Brook Lane, or where did you go?
That is correct. I traveled to the home on Stony Brook Lane
Okay.
in Green Bay.
And do you recall the time that you got there, roughly? Was it in the
Unfortunately,
morning?
not offhand. I believe it was in the morning, but it's difficult to say.
Okay.
It's been a while.
All right. Fair to say that the facts with regards to this case or the circumstances were quite unusual based on your training and experience. Is that fair?
Could you describe what you mean by unusual?
You don't often see situations where there are body parts all over, correct?
So where I thought he was going with this was, oh, well, if you don't usually see cases like this, then are you sure that your expertise here is really relevant? Because you don't really have much experience with dismembered body parts. I don't know. I thought that's where he was trying to go or something.
I think my line of work is unfortunately very different from others. Fragmentation of people is very common. Motor vehicle accidents, train accidents.
That's a good answer.
People who have jumped from tall buildings or been hit by a subway train. That's not unusual for me. It's something that I see quite often.
How about, a severed head in a bucket and body parts in different locations? Is that unusual for you?
I would say it's not a common occurrence. That's correct.
It's different, correct?
Correct.
And would you agree that those particular facts make it a little bit more challenging when you have to do your autopsy and your testing and your swabs and your analysis? Is that fair?
In what sense, sir?
In the sense that you essentially have to try to understand the global picture. Is that fair?
That's correct.
And so on this particular date, February 23rd of 2022, you went to the Stony Brook Lane property, to the house, and you went inside?
That is correct.
You conferred with several detectives, correct?
That is correct.
Ms. Schwab was there, is that fair?
That is correct.
And you found human remains in different locations, correct?
That is correct.
You found a head and a penis and testicles in a black bucket, correct?
So
That is
here we
correct.
go again
Please
with the
And then you
details.
found some other body parts in a duffel bag called a Jimmy Choo bag on a entertainment center, correct?
I believe so, yes. I believe that was the dark blue bag on the dresser. I'm not very familiar with bags, unfortunately, but yes, I can say color at least, yes.
Okay, sure. Inside that blue bag, as you say, there were lots of plastic shopping bags in there, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Was it hard or difficult to understand what you were actually looking at when you were removing these items from the bag due to having plastic bags inside?
I would say no. I'm fairly comfortable with plastic bags. They're often seen at scenes. And then the recovery of the individual pieces, identifying them, of course, is something that I do fairly regularly. So I was able to start saying, okay, this is clearly a piece of this is clearly a piece of that. As we began to gather the inventory, that becomes a very important part of determining if the entire body is present or whether there might be other pieces at another location or destroyed.
As you moved along in the basement of 829 Stony Brook Lane, you moved towards a pink and black Under Armour backpack, correct?
That is correct.
And there were more human remains in there, correct?
That is correct.
And did you know that these remains belonged to one person, or did you have a concern that, did you have any concerns about that?
Very much. My goal was to determine whether or not there might be more than one person present. So in other words, if I found, for example, two patellas from the left side, or if I found two left arms, then I would be concerned that there might be more than one decedent present.
And then, as you went through the basement, did the detectives follow you? Did you take the lead, or how did that kind of work?
Typically what's done is the law enforcement has the jurisdiction or the investigation of the scene, of the surrounding circumstances. But the body, the investigation of the body and the examination of the body
Wait, was Ed Gain also a cannibal as well?
falls under the jurisdiction of the medical examiner. So in this case, also because our goal is to try to prevent contamination and preserve as much evidence as possible, we took the lead where we are wearing Tyvek suits and gloves and masks and trying to collect things in as clean and preserved a way as possible. So we took the lead on that, and law enforcement remained in the background.
This wasn't a perfect situation as far as the basement was concerned because there was lots of clutter down there. Is that fair?
Yeah, I can never really see where the defense lawyer is going. That's why I want to hear Bruce Rivers' take on it. Maybe he also hates Taylor Schabusiness deep down inside, but he wants to make sure that they're not going to declare a mistrial because she had ineffective representation or something like that. So maybe he's just trying to do his very best, to make it look like he actually worked really hard, which he probably did, to make sure he's asking questions and stuff like that. In case she wants to call for a mistrial later on. I don't know. Maybe he's just playing it safe. I don't know.
That's
Nipple
correct, yes.
belt.
There was like a table, Pac-Man machine, all kinds of other items, correct?
The hell's a nipple belt?
That is correct.
You recall seeing 3 mattresses stacked on each other?
Yes, I do.
Lola,
And then there was another container.
I'm with you.
Was it such that it was a blue tote?
Yes, it was. I believe it was towards the head of the bed.
And there were human remains in the blue tote, correct?
That is correct.
And on top of the tote, there was blankets or clothing items. Is that fair?
I believe there were, yes.
So fair to say that some of these items that you were attempting to collect may have been
They were like grade school friends. I don't know. I thought they were best friends, but I don't think they're best friends. I think they knew each other from grade school. And then maybe she was just like, I don't know, they just did drugs and like they just like fucked each other.
Tampered with or tainted in some way because of other items being put on top? Or plastic bags being utilized?
In what way, sir?
If you could just answer my question with due respect.
I mean, he's trying to, but he's like, we're just confused, Mr. Lawyer.
If my interpretation of tainted with means
Where
that
you going with this?
DNA evidence could have been lost, potentially, or DNA evidence could have been contaminated, I would say that certainly any object that would have come in contact with the remains could potentially transfer or wipe away DNA evidence.
Okay.
So, for example, if the plastic bags had other people's DNA on it, that can be transferred onto the skin surface or body surfaces. If the tote bag had other people's DNA on it, that also can be.
Like, if we were questioning whether or not she did it, I can see why some of these questions are relevant, but she did it. So I don't really understand, like, I don't know, the tainting, the transfer of DNA, maybe it's someone else's, like him bringing it up that like, oh, well, there's other people in the house that also showered in that shower drain. Like, I don't really understand where he was going with any of this. Because she did it. We know she did it. She said she did it.
Transferred onto the body surfaces of what's been placed in there. If the bedding or bed sheets also had other people's DNA on it, that could be, or hair samples or fingernail clippings, that also could be transferred onto the body surfaces. So if I understand the question correctly, I think that's about as good an answer as I can give.
You answered it. I appreciate that.
Perfect.
Did you see evidence of drug usage down in the basement on Stony Brook Lane?
Yes, I did.
Did you see a meth pipe down there and a gem baggie with crystal-like substance?
I believe I saw a glass pipe. I think I recall it was white in color. And then there was, I believe, a small green baggie with a powdery crystalline substance inside.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for, Mitch. I'm waiting for the contradictions that will happen later on. So maybe we'll have some like slam dunks here and there. But I don't know. Maybe we're just being impatient. It's only day 2.
Did you see any evidence of...
I feel like it usually happens later on usually happens later on with the same witness later on in the cross-examination where you get all the contradictions, stuff like that. Not like many witnesses later on, but I don't know. We'll see.
drugs or drug substances on the decedent's mouth
Let's see
or
a bit.
face?
I did not.
Did you swab for that?
The face was swabbed, yes.
With regards to your report, did you indicate that the deceased had possible acute intoxication due to the combined effects of methamphetamine, amphetamine, cocaine, and marijuana?
That is correct.
From your analysis and assessment and examination of the body, did you in any way opine or conclude that drugs had anything to do with the death of Mr. Therian?
It is my medical opinion that the drugs did not have anything to do with the death of Mr. Therian.
Have you had cases where people overdose on methamphetamine,
Yes, I have.
resulting in death?
Yes, I have.
How do you know that that didn't happen in this particular case?
Oh, God.
I know that that did not happen in this particular case because of the extent of hemorrhaging that's present within the decedent's neck and head. In other words, these are antemortem injuries when he still had circulation. In other words, he was still able to bleed. So as a result, I have bruising and contusion.
The witness is like, did you not listen to the direct examination from earlier? Did you not hear what I said about the neck?
Of the neck muscles. I have deep hemorrhages of the soft tissues all the way down to the cervical spine, and I have numerous blown hemorrhages of the eyes and oral mucosa
Sorry, he's just trying to be professional. I'm just his inner spirit yelling right now.
and facial skin. To have these, you have to have circulation. You have to have blood pressure. Without it, you will not get these injuries. You can strangle or stab or punch or hit a dead body as much as you want, but without circulation and without that blood pressure, you're not going to get this kind of hemorrhage.
Do you know if drugs such as methamphetamine could have caused the protuberance of the tongue in the deceased?
Methamphetamine causing protuberance of the tongue?
Yes.
It's not been my experience that it causes that.
When you received the remains in the body bags, was there anything unusual with the manner or way you received the items at the Dane County Medical Examiner's office? Did you have any concerns with what you received?
If I understand the question correctly, did I have any concerns about the manner in which the remains were brought to me or delivered to me?
Yes.
I did not.
Okay. How did you get those items? They obviously were packaged up at the Stony Brook Lane property, correct?
That is correct. I participated in the packaging,
And then can you take me from there how they arrived at the Dane County Medical Examiner's office?
of course.
Thank you.
Again, as the bodies were packaged up, the security seal was placed on the bags to show that the body bags are intact and undisturbed. At that point, we contact the driver. The driver from our office comes up to Brown County, collects the remains, then places them into their van.
I mean, just remember, guys, he is a public defender and he doesn't have a choice, really. I feel like as a public defender, you can't just like not take a case because you don't like it. There has to be like a reason why you can't take a case. Like, I don't know, conflict of interest initially, I guess. And then maybe later on, if there's like some severe, I don't know, butting of heads where they can't represent the client in the best capacity. But I mean, as a public defender, he kind of just has to take this case. So he just doesn't have much to work with.
The van is refrigerated, which allows for as best preservation of the remains as we can, and then the body is taken back to Dane County.
That's
At that
true.
point,
Nothing is
the body
preventing him
checked in
asking
for a
better
secured cooler by
questions.
one
I
of our
don't
investigators,
know.
And then the body is kept in that secured cooler until a fresh
Waiting
time
for the
to perform autopsy
contradictions.
examination, which in this case was the 25th.
Nah, she attacked Mr. Jolly. Mr. Jolly said, "Judge, I don't want to be her lawyer anymore." And Judge was like, "It's okay. You don't have to be a lawyer." So now we got Mr. Frolic, I think.
Thank you. Have you been involved in
Frolicking
cases where
fields.
it's a situation where it's death by asphyxiation, where people engage in choking kind of behaviors?
If I understand the question correctly, yes, I have had cases where people have died from asphyxiation due to choking or strangulation as a mechanism, yes.
All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Oh, we're done.
Thank you.
Sometimes out of curiosity, I'll look up gruesome photos, but I don't know if I could ever look up these bucket photos. I grew up in the age of LimeWire and Kazaa, where you download songs and it ends up being like a beheading video. And I don't know, I watched a lot of crazy stuff when I was in middle school. So I don't know. I think the only things that I can't watch for sure, I mean, the video ones are usually tough, like the animal stuff. Like, oh God, I remember like I actually clicked on this video and it had this like animal thing, and I was like, I cried my eyes out, dude. I was like, cried so hard, and I was like, I ran away from the computer, and I was like, I can't close the window. Fucking, I think I made my boyfriend at the time run to the computer and close the window or something. It was so bad. Oh God.
No redirector.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of gruesome photos, just because, you know, when you're a kid in the 2000s internet, you just download stuff and you're just like, what the fuck is this? Or, you know, you go on websites and you're just like, oh, what's this? And you click on it and you're just like, what the fuck?
Thank you, sir. You can step down.
Thank you, Runner. Thank you, everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the random ISIS ones. No, I'm just messing up the pronunciation of his name. His name is actually pronounced like Frolic or Frolic. I don't know. I just think Frolic is funnier because like Jolly and then Frolic. I think it's like
Case next witness.
Frolic? I don't know. Frolic? Frolic? I'm gonna grab some water after this. All right, who is our next witness?
Before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her, raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
Oh, I don't think they're on camera, actually.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Deputy Bryce Haynes,
Oh, he does.
Haines.
Okay, and Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
All right, can you tell us how you're employed?
I'm employed as a patrol deputy with the Brown County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you been employed in that capacity with the Brown County Sheriff's Office?
approximately 2.5 years.
Oh, I think we get the body
And,
cam footage from this.
Is that the totality of your law enforcement
Be right back.
experience?
I worked for approximately 1.5 years in the village of Black Creek as a police officer.
But then for the last 2.5 years with the Sheriff's Office?
Correct.
And as a patrol deputy, do you sometimes get called out to respond to incident locations in the County of Brown?
Yes.
And you also have occasion to assist other jurisdictions with their own cases?
Correct, yes.
I want to ask you, Deputy, then about February 23rd of 2022. Do you recall if you were on duty on that day?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And were you dispatched to a residence on Eastman Avenue on that day?
Yes, I was.
And what was the reason you were dispatched to that location?
So deputies were requested to assist the Green Bay Police Department in locating a vehicle that was involved with what was dispatched as a suspicious situation. They requested that we look for a gold town and country van.
And do you recall approximately what time that call would have come in to your department?
I was dispatched at roughly 4:15 a.m.
And this is on February 23rd?
Correct.
And was there information provided that this van may be located at that Eastman address?
It was my understanding that the possible suspect had been driving the vehicle and staying at that residence.
And did you ultimately arrive at 2523 Eastman Avenue?
Yes.
And is that in the city of Green Bay?
Yes, it is.
And did you locate that reported gold van in the vicinity of that address?
Yes, it was located on the north side of the building.
Wait, what was rotten.com again? That sounds so familiar.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 80. Do you recognize what Exhibit 80 depicts?
Yes, this is a picture of the gold Chrysler Town Country minivan.
And the depiction in Exhibit 80, does that appear to be consistent with the scene around the Eastman Avenue address that you encountered?
Yes,
on
it
February,
does.
Sorry, on February 23rd?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And
Okay, I'm going to skip over to the body cam footage where they go to her apartment and they arrest her. Sorry, the audio is like a little bit, it might be really loud.
Please go back, please go back.
Ooh, the crunching snow. Okay, I'm going to do normal speed. Is it still a thing?
Nothing. Hey. Is this blood? Does this look like blood to you?
What's that on the hood?
Am I just tripping? Bloody footprint? You see this right here? Could possibly be blood.
That's the gold van they're talking about.
Hey, who did that?
Oh, I saw the Instapot box too.
Hi, Taylor. How's it going? Officer Russell with the Green Bay Police Department. Just make sure you ain't got nothing on you here. With Taylor.
Oh, they got this close to her, and I guess that's how they saw she had like dry blood on her black hoodie.
Taylor, you have one more for you. You have one more for your wrist. Just put your hands behind your back, please. Anything else in your apartment? You got blood on your hands here, too. No, on your hands. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have to. What apartment is it?
Can you guys see the blood on the hands?
Adam 3, come up. On the double. Which apartment? One is what they came back to. Yeah, go. Guys, hurry and get here now.
They should act like people in the movie and taste to see
Watch
the
this window
blood.
right here. Watch this
Ew.
window right here. Gun.
What kind of movies do you be watching? Maybe it's like her fit that like makes her look really young as well. The cap, the hood.
Come to the back of the apartment. That's where we are. You come over here.
Wait, does her hat say? Wait, I think her hat literally says Schabusiness. Wait, she has an engraved hat.
2 more will be fine.
Man, they really love that Schabusiness name.
You have contact with the mail.
Walk out towards me.
Have a seat. Have a seat.
I don't know. I can't tell if she looks 10 years younger. I feel like she kind of looks like she's in her 30s still. Yeah, she kind of looks like she's like in her 30s.
Who else is in the apartment? Be straight up.
I think she just looks way older here, probably because of what she's wearing. She's got like the office attire thing going on, and her hair is like not really like kept.
Tomes? Who else? Just Tomes? Is he armed? Nobody's armed?
Nobody's armed.
You sure?
I'm sure. Police! Everybody get here! Announce yourself now!
Ew, Nacho.
Go ahead.
No, don't be disrespecting Marilyn Manson like that.
Negative, we got enough here.
She is chilling.
Okay, and for the record, 4 minutes of that exhibit, actually the entirety of that exhibit was played into the record. Officer
I think from what I heard for the most part, I think Manson did get cleared. But it's like still like in the pipeline, no? You're talking with him and Evan Rachel Wood, right?
having reviewed that video, do you recognize the video that was depicted?
Yes.
Was that consistent with the body camera worn footage that you were wearing on February 23rd?
Yes.
I'd move Exhibit 81.
Any objection?
No.
Received.
So I want to ask just a few questions then, Officer. There was an earlier part in the clip where you had noted some area of suspected blood. Is that right?
That's right.
And what do you recall observing?
It looked like a couple drops of blood in front of the vehicle, along with a footprint that was within, or that encompassed one of the drops.
And I guess was that pointed out to other officers who were on scene?
Yes.
You mentioned then the lights of the vehicle were activated and sort of flashed. Is that right?
Yes.
And then about 10 seconds later, Mr. Business exited the apartment?
Yes.
At the end of the video, where were you walking Mr. Business to?
I was walking her to my patrol car.
And was she, I guess, put in the back of the squad car?
Yes, she was.
Was there any further questioning or anything done at that point?
The only question I asked Mr. Business was if she knew why we were there.
And then did you ultimately just transport her then to the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes.
The bad part about having my name is either it's Jared Gallery of Jewelry, which is good, or Jared from Subway, which is it. Just tell people your name is Jard. My name is Jard.
When you got to the Green Bay Police
Change your
Department,
name.
what further steps did you take?
Change your pronunciation.
We placed her in interview room 3, I believe, where I had Officer Kenny assist me with taking photographs of what looked like smeared blood on her hands and on her clothing. I also had her remove the sweatshirt that had what appeared to be blood on it, as well as her socks and her shoes.
And then was another officer requested to assist with the further removal of some clothing?
I believe after I left the room, there was another officer that might have been asked to assist with the removal of some additional clothing so that Mr. Business could get temporary clothing because we wanted all her clothes as evidence.
The clothing items that you took, did those stay within your custody and control?
Yes,
And did you subsequently enter them into evidence at the Green Bay Police Department?
I did.
I guess in totality, on February 23rd, in your interactions with Mr. Business,
Jared.
some questions of her?
I didn't ask questions of her. I more like commands like, hey, please remove your jacket, please remove your hat. Let me get your shoes, sit here, just commands, not really questions.
The commands that, your request that you were giving Mr. Business, was she in that time following those?
Yes, she was.
Was she, in some instances, responding appropriately?
Yes, she was.
In the context of your questions and commands?
Yes, she was.
For instance,
The family part is minding their own business. I mean, these two were in the basement. Oh my God, I almost threw a joke in there. The family just probably just minding their own business. I mean, he's like, what, 20 something, had a woman down there. So it's like, you don't really want to walk in on stuff, just in case.
did you ask, if there's
They're doing
someone else in the residence
something. It's like an open
at that point? Did
bedroom.
she provide a response?
She did.
And was there a person located in the apartment?
Yes, there was.
If it was like a teenager, that's a different story.
Thank you, officer. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fraley.
Thank you.
Wasabi.
Officer Russell, good morning.
All right, we have cross-examination now. Update this. I had this customer. I used to work at a sushi restaurant. I had this customer who was like, she ordered a bento box. Or no, was it me? No, it was someone else's customer. Someone else's customer had they ordered a bento box and they're like complaining at like, why did you tell me the chicken bento box was spicy? And the server was really confused because there's nothing spicy in there. She looks down, then she sees the entire gob of wasabi was gone because the fucking customer ate it thinking it was avocado. Oh man, working at a restaurant is so fun. You meet a lot of dumb people.
Good morning.
So you were,
I mean, I don't. Oh, okay. Serious time.
asked to go directly to 2353 Eastman Avenue on February 23rd of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Who asked you to go over there?
I was dispatcher, and Sergeant Bresser also instructed me to go there.
Sergeant Brester?
Yes.
Okay, did you go by yourself?
Several other officers were sent.
Well, when I say dumb, I'm not saying dumb because they ate the wasabi thing, but dumb because like getting mad at the server and blaming them. And also, what Japanese restaurant? I don't know. I mean, Japanese restaurant have like a side of guacamole with chicken teriyaki. That seems like a weird combination. I don't know. When people like just blame others for their own actions, that's when I just get annoyed. It's like, come on. Oh, the edamame pods. Oh no. Oh. The lime Doritos were sent by Fam and Kelly. Never had them before. Oh, they sound really good. I don't know if I ever tried them before. Lime Doritos. Okay, sorry. Getting back to the cross-examination.
2022, correct?
Yes.
Who asked you to go over there?
I was dispatcher, and Sergeant Bresser also instructed me to go there.
Sergeant Brester?
Yes.
Okay, did you go by yourself?
Several other officers were sent to the location.
And what was the purpose of you going over there?
The purpose of me going over there was to relieve deputies that were on scene, along with assist with the overall incident.
Were you going over there to look at a vehicle or talk to people or what? Do you know?
I was tasked, me and other officers were tasked with locating a person who was last seen with the victim, as well as looking at the vehicle as I described earlier.
Okay. So you were asked to go and see if you could make contact with Taylor Schabusiness?
Correct.
Have you been involved in death scene or homicide scene investigations prior to this particular situation?
Yes.
How many?
Death scenes, I can't recall a few, and at least one other homicide scene that I can recall.
Okay. And so on this particular date, you drove over there and you parked your SUV, correct?
That's correct.
And then you walked up, correct?
Yep.
And it was dark and there was a lot of snow on the ground. Is that fair?
It was dark. There was snow on the ground.
I just have a question. When you're in prison, do they give you tweezers or something like that? Because Lori Vallow also had really thin ass eyebrows. How did these women not have bushy eyebrows, but their hair is all like fucked up and shit? Are they given tweezers? Maybe they give tweezers before they go to like court or something, fix the eyebrow hair up a little bit. I'm just a little curious about that.
The apartment buildings provided light to the parking lot, though.
Was it kind of a glared look outside that apartment complex?
Wouldn't necessarily say a cleared look. It was dark, snow on the ground. The lighting from the apartment complex was adequate enough to illuminate the parking lot.
Okay. And is it fair that there are several vehicles all parked in front of the building at 2353 Eastman Avenue?
That is correct.
And did you have a license plate as you walked up?
Yes.
Okay. And on that video, was that you that was shining the light, the flashlight?
Yes.
You found this gold minivan, correct?
I'm sorry?
You found the gold minivan?
I believe before, as we were walking up, the minivan might have been found already.
Okay.
I feel like it'd be dangerous to give tweezers to someone like this. Yeah, apparently when she was having like one of her psychological evaluations, she like put a staple in her arm, which to me just sounds like attention-seeking behavior. And they had to like stop everything and like bring her to like get treated. But who does that? Who puts a staple in their arm? And staples are like this tiny.
You walked around the minivan, correct?
Yes.
The vehicles that were on either side of the minivan were parked fairly close, so there wasn't a lot of room. Is that fair?
There was adequate room for people to get between the vehicles, the minivan and the vehicles parked on either side.
Okay. You walked on the driver's side of the minivan, correct?
I did.
Then you walked around the front of it?
I did.
At some point then, you heard a keyless entry system or some kind of beep?
I didn't hear any beeps. What I saw was the flashing of the parking lights on the vehicle, indicating that somebody might have manipulated a keyless entry system to the vehicle.
Okay. And how many officers were there at the time that you were there?
It was myself, Officer Fisher, along with Officer Whitman, and then Lieutenant Buckman was on the scene somewhere.
And then you, correct?
Yes.
So 4.
I believe other officers arrived while we were on scene as well.
And at some point, you made contact with Taylor Schabusiness on the step outside the door, correct?
I did.
She was under the overhang, is that correct?
She came out of the common entrance for the apartment complex.
And you asked what her name was, correct?
I introduced myself to her and told her, so I introduced myself to her, if memory serves me correctly. I already knew who she was based on a records check while driving to the scene, looking at her mugshots via police records, which are accurate and reliable as they are kept in the ordinary course of business. I knew what she looked like.
Okay. And are you the one that handcuffed her?
I was.
And when you had contact with her, did you find her to be under the influence of drugs?
No.
Did you ask her if she was using drugs that night?
I did not.
You didn't ask anything about drugs at all, correct?
I did not.
Did she seem off as far as maybe being tired or just acting odd?
She did not.
What about her eyes? Did her eyes seem to be closed or like slits?
She seemed normal to me.
Okay. So then she was cooperative.
I don't know. I haven't felt like an ounce of sympathy or regret from her. She kind of just like sitting there just
With
chilling.
you, correct?
She was.
When you handcuffed her, did you notice that she had some cuts on her thumbs or on her fingers?
I did not at that time. I did, however, notice a cut on her finger while we were taking pictures of her at a later time at the police department.
Okay, after you got to the Green Bay Police Department, correct?
Yes.
You were working with Officer Kenny then at that time, and you were having him take pictures with his phone, correct?
He used my department-issued phone to take the pictures.
Okay. Ultimately, you found out that she went to St. Vincent's Hospital to get some medical care for the lacerations on her fingers, or on her thumbs, correct?
I did not know that she went to St. Vincent's to get any medical care.
Okay. Find any knives on her?
I remember retrieving some items from her person. I don't remember if there was a knife there or not.
Any
When I
guns?
searched her incident to arrest, I don't remember if she had a knife on her or not.
Any guns on her?
I'm sorry?
Any guns?
No.
Okay. At some point then, after she was handcuffed, you had some safety concerns, correct?
Yes.
And other officers did as well?
Yes, other officers had safety concerns inside the apartment.
Okay. And so they unholstered their service revolvers, correct?
Sir, duty weapons.
Duty weapons. And then they directed their attention to the hallway of apartment 1, correct?
They directed their attention to an apartment that was on the lower level inside that common entrance area.
And that was Taylor Schabusiness' apartment, apartment 1?
I'm not sure who the apartment is leased to. I just know that she was associated to that apartment per dispatch.
And the other officers were directing their attention to Scott Holmes from apartment 1, correct?
I'm sorry?
The other officers were directing their attention to a person by the name of Scott Holmes in apartment 1, is that fair?
Yes, they were directing their attention to a male inside the apartment.
And he was ordered to the ground at gunpoint, correct?
I remember them ordering him to come out. I don't remember whether he was on the ground at gunpoint or not. My attention was on Mr. Business at the time.
And you had Ms. Schabusiness come in and basically stand on the steps and ultimately sit down on the steps, correct? You gave her those commands?
I did.
And there was a wall blocking the stairs and the hallway, is that fair?
I feel like all we're doing is just having him re-explain everything, but more specifically, I guess.
The stairway was to the right of the hallway, and there was a short wall. I had her sit on the steps, and you can partially see outside in the hallway where I was at, but I couldn't see what was going on by the apartment.
And then at some point then after Mr. Holmes was secured, then you walked Mr. Business to your cruiser, your SUV, correct?
Yes,
And you had her take a seat in the back seat, correct?
I did.
And then you asked her, do you know why we're here, correct?
Yes.
You rolled the window down or something, correct?
I may have rolled the window down.
And did she say a warrant? Yeah, a warrant? Or words to that effect?
Yes.
Okay. And then you rolled the window up and then you transported her over to the Green Bay Police Department, is that fair?
I did transport her to the Green Bay Police Department.
That the gold minivan that you looked at, that belonged to Scott Holmes, correct?
I don't know who the minivan belonged to.
Yeah, like her roommate.
Okay, nothing further, thank you.
No redirect to, I don't think.
State's next witness.
Lieutenant Buckman.
Lieutenant Buckman. How do you spell lieutenant? Lieutenant? Oh shit, how do you spell lieutenant? That looks weird.
Report, so help you God.
B-U-C-H-M-A-N-N.
Okay, then Mr. Lizzie, the witness is yours.
Lieutenant Buckman, can you state how you are employed?
Oh
I'm a
god.
lieutenant for the Green Bay Police Department.
And how long have you been with the Green Bay Police Department?
I've been with the Green Bay Police
Lieutenant?
Department since 2009, but I've been in law enforcement with 2 other agencies since 1996.
Lieutenant.
And you indicated your current position is lieutenant. How long have you been a lieutenant?
Since 2013.
And prior to your practical law enforcement experience, do you have any education and training to be a law enforcement officer?
Yes. I graduated from Loyola University in Chicago with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, and then I attended the Illinois State Police Academy.
It's the worst word in the world. I hate that word. I hate that word. Lieutenant.
Who the registered owner of that particular minivan was?
Yes.
Who was that?
Last name was Thones.
And you indicated you were informed that that van was associated with the defendant. Who are we talking about?
It would be Taylor Schabusiness.
And did you then travel out to the 2353 Smith Avenue address?
Okay.
Yes.
What
I'll
did you do
remember
upon
that.
arrival there?
Well, there were Brown County deputies that had discovered the van, and they had kept the van under surveillance until they were receiving further instructions on what to do with the van. So myself and other Green Bay officers arrived on the scene and took over surveillance of the van and the apartment building until we received further instructions.
What did your surveillance entail?
Sir.
Well, we just watched the
Sergian,
area where
right?
the van was parked at the apartment complex. After a short time, I spoke with a lieutenant that was working the case and asked him what he wanted us to do with the van.
AJ?
And they informed us that
Who's AJ?
they didn't know at that point in the investigation whether Schabusiness was potentially another victim or a suspect, or had the association, what association she had with the victim, or what her role was in the incident. So they told us to approach the van and to try to make contact at the apartment with Taylor Schabusiness and see what we could ascertain from that investigation.
And what steps did you take to do that?
Sure, I'll just do
So myself and a
SGT.
couple of officers walked up towards the van. As we approached the van, we looked inside the windows just to see if there was anything, any people inside of it, or any. We knew at that point they hadn't found the body of the victim yet, so we were seeing if there was a body in the van or anything that would stick out as being obvious associated with the crime. As we were stepping next to the van, we were also looking on the ground for footprints leading from the van. I happened to be on the passenger side. I did not see any footprints in the snow at that point from right outside the van. Then, while we were standing next to
Oh my god, this intense glare. You think she's staring at the witness right now?
the van doors unlocked. We heard them unlock, and then the parking lights flashed, which is an indicator that somebody is using a key fob to unlock the van.
At that point, what did you do?
So
Oh, a
the officers looked at each
friend?
other, kind of
Oh,
thought, well,
God.
somebody just unlocked this van. A couple of seconds later, Taylor Schabusiness walked out the front door. It's a The apartment complex it's got a main door that's shared with the apartments inside. She walked out of the main door of the apartment complex. I recognized her immediately because I already looked up her picture. So I recognized her, and I immediately started approaching her along with other officers. I told her to keep her hands out of her pockets, and another officer put handcuffs on her and placed her under arrest. She had a warrant at that time. Excuse me. She had a warrant at that time, and we knew about the warrant, so I placed her under arrest with a warrant.
Thank you. Did you make any specific observations of Ms. Schabusiness' person when you approached her?
I did not specifically, but I heard officers talking that she had blood on her.
Objection, hearsay. Move to strike.
Now for the truth of the matter?
Okay, I'll sustain the objection. The answer is stricken to the extent that he got it out, so go ahead.
Were you able
Stricken.
to observe Ms. Schabusiness' face when you approached her?
Yes.
And how did her face appear?
She appeared to be in shock or very surprised to see us. I equate it to a deer in the headlights kind of look, or a child caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
Look at her face. She didn't like those analogies.
And you indicated that officers then placed her under arrest, is that correct?
Yes.
Were you present when that happened?
Yes.
And were officers giving commands to Ms. Schabusiness?
Yes.
And was she responding to those commands?
Yeah, she was complying with their commands.
Did she appear to understand what officers
I think that was like a what the fuck face on her
were saying?
face.
Yes.
Did she appear to have any difficulty or trouble communicating with officers or following commands?
No.
After Ms. Schabusiness was placed under arrest, what did you do?
I then asked what apartment she came from the officers. They informed me that it was apartment 1. I immediately went inside the apartment building. We knew that we had to secure the apartment that she was in. Ms. Schabusiness had blood on her hands when she was arrested, so we knew at that point that there was she was obviously involved in the incident, in the homicide. So we had to secure that apartment for maybe other victims or other suspects or evidence that would be inside that apartment. So we secured the apartment. I approached the apartment door and pulled out my handgun and held the door. The door was ajar at apartment 1, and I had other officers come in. We were going to make entry into the apartment to secure it for any other suspects that might be inside for officer safety.
Did you make contact with any individuals when you arrived at apartment number 1?
Yes, the registered owner of the vehicle, Mr. Thomes, he opened up the door to apartment 1 before we went inside or did anything. He walked out into the lobby area of the apartment building, the main corridor. I gave him instructions to lay down on the ground, put his hands out at his side. He followed those instructions. He was handcuffed by another officer for officer safety, and he was removed from the hallway so that we could enter the apartment.
Did you do an initial sweep of the apartment for officer safety?
Yes, we did.
And again, the purpose of that was merely to secure it then and maintain it for future evidence collection?
Yes, it was to check for suspects that might be hiding in the apartment, also to look for victims, and then to just secure the apartment. So we were only looking for people at that point.
On that initial sweep, did you notice anything in plain view?
No, I did not.
Did you notice anything else as you were leaving the apartment?
When I was leaving the apartment, I did notice on the floor in the main area where approximately where Mr. Thomes was laying down at, when I had commanded him to lay down on the ground, I could see like a tissue that had what looked like to be blood on it and a cigarette. And I pointed those out to Sergeant Schilling. Stayed on scene. I pointed those items out to Sergeant Schilling so that he could let the detectives know that those items were there and whether they wanted to collect them as evidence or not.
And after leaving the apartment, what did you do?
So then I walked out of the apartment and I was informed that there was footprints and possibly a few drops of blood in the snow outside leading up to the apartment building. I then had Officer Whitman, who was on the scene, secure that area with crime scene tape so that it would be preserved for when detectives would come later.
No further questions.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fraley.
Thank you. Lieutenant Buckman, good morning.
Good morning.
Couple questions for you, sir.
You spelled Frolic?
On February 23rd of 2022,
Frolic, like
you
that?
were asked to go to the 2300 block of Eastman Avenue.
Yes.
Did you get a call from like at home or what?
Well, they called me at home to report into work. I reported into work and then was instructed by the lieutenant that was at the desk, at the shift commander's desk, to go out to 2300 block of Eastman.
What time did you report into work, do you know?
I think it was like 4:42 in the morning.
Was that kind of like your normal shift, or is that?
No, I would have started at 6 a.m. They called me in early because of the incident.
Okay. What time did you get to the 2300 block of Eastman Avenue? Approximately.
Maybe 10 minutes later.
And you took your own squad car?
Yeah, I took a squad car that was available.
When you got to the apartment complex, did you park near Officer Garth Russell's squad?
I parked at the east end of the complex. I don't remember if I was next to Officer. I might have been next to Officer Russell and Officer Cups.
Oh, true. That is Kiss the Girls. Yeah. True. I like that movie too. That was one of my favorite movies growing up as well.
Remember exactly who was all next to me. And I think it might have changed at different times depending on where we were stationed on the parking lot.
You had to walk up, correct?
Yeah, we parked our vehicles further away and we walked up on foot.
What's the purpose of parking farther away?
When you approach in the car, it's easier to see a car approaching than it is a person on foot. And so you want to have that kind of surprise or stealth to be able to walk up on something. If you don't know what you're approaching, we just had a homicide, so we're obviously concerned about people that might be involved in that homicide in the area. We want to approach on foot. You can hear things better if you approach on foot. You can hear, you don't have the car engine noise and the radio from the inside the squad car and whatnot making additional noise that you won't be able to hear what's going on around you.
And parking back like that, is it true that then you can kind of see the big picture as you walk up to a scene?
Sure.
Okay. You had learned that there was an apparent homicide, correct?
Yes.
And was it true that
Yeah, we're just getting different officers that are giving their different perspectives. I mean, they're all kind of the same thing when they arrested her, so.
you were told to try to make contact with
He
Taylor
sped up a
Beach
bit.
Business?
Yes.
Who told you that?
Lieutenant Bagoon.
Okay. And so you looked up a picture of her to see what she looked like, correct?
Yes, I knew that. I knew her face already because when I was going out to the area, they informed me that Taylor Schabusiness had some sort of relationship with the victim, and so we were going out there because this minivan was associated with Taylor Schabusiness. I didn't know all the details of the homicide because I never went to the scene there. I was just told that this van had an association with Taylor Schabusiness, so when I'm going out there to determine.
Yeah, so he's one of the arresting officers that was at the scene. I think they already talked to maybe 3 at this point. So this is cross-examination right now by Mr. Frolic. And he's basically just going over, how they arrested her, where they parked the cars. I don't know. Crutches now.
Taylor Schabusiness, I wanted to know what she looked like before I got there.
Okay, thank you. Fair to say you'd never met her before, correct?
I don't believe I've ever met her before.
And when you drove to the Eastman Avenue apartment complex, you walked up. Did you see the gold Chrysler minivan parked?
Yes.
Where did you see it parked? In relation to like the front door.
So
Why does it matter? We saw the body cam footage.
if you go straight out the front door, if you're coming out the door of the apartment building, a few spaces to the right. So not far from the front of the apartment building.
Okay.
Someone said that Frolic is trying to hit his minimum word requirement in an essay.
And is it fair to say that there was a long line of vehicles that were parked in front of the complex?
There's several. Yeah, there's several vehicles parked.
And were there vehicles parked on either side of the minivan?
I know there was a vehicle parked on the right. I don't remember if there was one parked on the left or not.
But the way that he's asking, he seems so inquisitive. So is it fair to say there's like a long line of vehicles parked in the driveway? Okay, and you said, and there's cars parked on the left side of the minivan and the right side? Okay, and the minivan, it was gold, right? Yes, okay, it was gold. All right, good, this is good. While the rest of us are like, where are we going with this? Guys, smell baloney, go.
I think there was, but parked on if you're driving into the spot, the passenger side, because it was pulled forward like you normally would pull into a spot, and then on the passenger side was the side that I approached, and that I remember there being another vehicle there.
Okay. When you approached on the passenger side, did you have a flashlight where you looked in the vehicle?
Yeah, briefly.
Did you see anything that was unusual or concerning?
No, I didn't see anything that would spark my attention.
And when you were approaching the Eastman Avenue apartment complex, was it true that you didn't know, that it was unknown whether Mr. Business was a suspect or victim? Is that fair?
Right, we didn't know.
But you and other investigating officers were told to be on the lookout for this van, correct?
Yes.
And you found it parked, correct?
I didn't find it parked. Brown County deputies found it parked.
Then you were told that this is the van that's of concern?
I was told that this was a van associated with Mr. Business.
Okay. Did you later come to find out that the van was owned by Scott Holmes?
Yes, I knew that when we approached it.
Officer Russell was dealing with Mr. Business, correct?
Correct.
And your task was to focus on whoever else was inside of apartment 1, correct?
That's correct.
And you drew your duty weapon, correct?
Yes.
And then you walked down the hall?
Yeah, it's a very short hall to the front of the apartment.
And you ordered Mr. Scott Holmes, to get on the ground?
Yes.
And he complied?
Yes.
Did he get a little feisty with you where he was throwing chairs and wondering or yelling, why are you doing this to me?
Yeah, he didn't really understand what was going on, but he did comply with my orders.
And at least at this point, your investigation was not far enough into it where you could understand what role any of these parties had, correct?
That's correct.
As it relates to the homicide, correct?
That's correct.
And Officer Russell was there, Officer Fisher was there, you were there, is that true?
Yes.
Officer
Cups.
Cups, and Officer Whitman was also there, right?
That's correct.
Officer Fisher was the one that handcuffed Scott Holmes, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Because I feel like if this is like the first time he's interviewing the cop, just to try to get information and collect everything, I understand why the questions are being asked. But like asking in front of a jury, like I'm not really quite sure what information the jury is going to get from this.
And you did a safety sweep of the apartment, correct?
Correct.
The apartment 1, right?
Yes.
And fair to say that you did not see anything in plain view that would be associated with the homicide?
That is correct.
You didn't see any large pools of blood, bloody knives, or body parts in the apartment, correct?
I did not see any of those things inside the apartment, in plain view.
Okay. And then as you were leaving the apartment, when Mr. Holmes was on the floor outside the apartment, there was a small towel-like item, correct?
Yeah, he was no longer on the floor. It's the approximate spot where he was on the floor.
Okay. But it was by him?
It was by where he was.
Okay. Ms. Schabusiness got taken away before Mr. Holmes was exited out of the apartment complex. Is that fair?
I don't know if she was taken away. When I separated from, okay, so Officer Russell put her in custody, put her in handcuffs, and then I entered the apartment building. I did not see Ms. Schabusiness after that. So I don't know at what point they left. I don't know if she was in the back of a squad car, if she had left the scene, or...
And then after this, you brought Mr. Holmes to a squad car, correct?
I did not.
A different officer did?
Yeah, an officer did.
Okay. Is it Officer Fisher?
I don't know.
Then
I was inside the apartment, clearing the apartment, so
Okay.
what happened outside the apartment, I'm not sure.
Okay, fair enough. After that, then did you go check around the
I
apartment
mean, he's like highlighting and stuff like that. Like he's he's doing something here.
complex?
Yes, I did.
You checked the dumpsters?
Yep.
And you checked the parking lot for any indication of evidence?
Yes.
Did you find anything?
I did not.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Oh, thank God. Pneumano ultra microscopic volcanoconosis. It like broke up in the middle. Ha! Got it. All right. How about this? Spell fuchsia.
You redirect. Okay, thank you, officer.
Thank you.
Now we're finished.
We're doing lunch break now. Oh boy.
Anything to take up before we break, Mr. Saunders? No. Not Mr. Freilich? No. All right, then we are in recess until 1 o'clock.
Okay. Well, let's get up, stretch, and oh God. All right. I'm gonna leave you guys here with Taylor. I'm gonna use the restroom really quick. Get up and stretch. Fuchsia. Fuchsia. I haven't seen the correct spelling yet. And don't cheat. I haven't seen the correct spelling yet. I see Rain, KK. Not sure you'd even try. Yeah, fuchsia. Fuchsia. I would have spelled it with an S too. Fuchsia, what a horrible word. Worst word ever. Okay, I do have a question though. Why does she have on a different shirt? Wasn't she wearing like... She was wearing this earlier. Why she change her shirt? What do you think happened? Think she got blood on the other one? Oh God, here we go. Spelled there. You're just evil. I think she just pointed at us, guys. She noticed us. All right, fine. I mean, I think fuchsia was a pretty hard word. Oh, one word that I always mess up. Vacuum. We're next. Oh, run, hide.
Anything to bring up before we bring the jury back in? Mr. Saunders?
No.
Mr. Freilich?
No, you are.
All right, waiting for Drew to come in.
In that capacity.
12 years.
What do we got here?
Okay, then Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
Can you tell us how you're employed?
I'm a patrol officer with the City of Green Bay.
And how long have you been employed in that capacity?
Wait, what's his name?
12 years.
And is that the sum total of your law enforcement experience?
Yes.
Oh, God.
I want to ask you about February 23rd of 2022. Do you recall if you were on duty on that day?
I do.
And did you have reason to assist Officer Russell with photographing an individual on that day?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you respond to take these photographs?
I was at the Green Bay Police Department, and he took me to an interview room.
Okay. And did Officer Russell have custody of an individual?
Yes.
And did you learn who that individual was?
Yes.
And who was that person?
Taylor Schabusiness.
Do you see that person in court today?
I do.
Could you point out where she's sitting for us?
She's sitting at the defendant's table.
And then what she's wearing?
Looks like a black cover with a black and blue blouse.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got great facial hair.
Thank you. I'd ask the record reflect witness identified the defendant.
Okay, we'll still reflect.
And then what were you asked to do with respect to photographing Ms. Schabusiness?
There were, I guess, cuts on her hands and blood on her clothing, which I was asked to photograph.
And did you document, I guess, the exterior clothing areas?
Yes.
Those are photographs that you took?
Yes, they were.
Sorry, I didn't catch his name. Maybe they said it before. He's just law enforcement.
Do you believe those to be?
These would be the photographs that I took of her external clothing.
Thank you. I'd move exhibits 82 through 86.
Any objection to 82 through 86?
Mr. Lincoln commercials.
Exhibits 84 and 85 appear to be the same, so are you simplicity?
Jared.
Okay. Well, what I'll do is I'll hold receipt of objecting to duplication of which ones?
Exhibit 84 and 85, Your Honor. They appear to be the same picture for sweatpants.
Any response, Mr. Saunders?
They're different photographs. One is an overall of the legs, one it focuses on one leg in particular.
Yeah, I'm satisfied these photos are different. Mr. Freilich is right. They are taken of similar areas, but they're differently focused, and the photos are different. So I'm going to overrule the objection. I will receive 82 through 86, and you can publish those to the jury if you so choose.
Thank you.
The outer sweatshirt she was wearing, which had dried blood on it.
And then 83, are we viewing that now?
Yes.
Okay, and what is 83?
The rear of the sweatshirt, which had dried blood on the lower part of it.
And then 84?
Would be the black sweatpants she was wearing.
And then 85?
The left leg of the black sweatpants.
Did you also observe a substance on that area?
Yes, there appeared to be matted blood in the area of the knees.
And then 86?
Would be the right leg of the black sweatpants.
And do exhibits 82 through 86, do those appear to be consistent with the clothing that Schabusiness was wearing as you encountered her on February 23rd?
Yes.
Thank you, officer. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freilich.
Officer Ken, you made some assumptions with regards to what was on those sweatpants, correct?
Correct.
You didn't do any testing, correct?
I did not know.
Do you make comments like that before you verify what the results are?
Ooh, getting spicy. Look at his face.
Practice?
As to what it appeared to be?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
Good answer.
You were given a
This is how you answer in cross-examination, by the way. You just answer it straight ahead. Don't be combative. I know, unless sometimes if they're answering some dumb shit, you want to be a little bit combative. It's kind of funny, but for the most part, I think it looks better if you just answer it directly. Like, yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah, sure.
police cell phone from Officer Garth Russell, correct?
Correct.
And there was some discussion when Mr. Business was in the interview room about bringing her water, correct?
Possibly.
And then you were told, or someone was told not to bring the water, correct?
I don't recall, but it's possible.
Now, you observed cuts on Mr. Business's fingers? Okay, that's okay. Sorry. Could you repeat that last question back, please?
You were told by someone you were told not to bring the water, correct? I don't recall this possible.
Okay. You did observe cuts on Mr. Business's fingers and thumbs, is that fair?
Yes.
Some of the cuts were quite deep, is that fair?
Yes.
You used a cell phone to take the pictures that we just saw, is that right?
Correct.
And then what did you do from there? Did you have to download it, or what did you do?
I returned the phone to Officer Russell, who advised that he would later upload the photos into the case.
It gets the
Were
hose,
you
Nacho.
present at Eastman Avenue on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
And did you go there with Officer Russell and Lieutenant Buckman?
No, I left the station and went there. Officer Russell, I believe, stayed at the station, and I went to assist with the scene there then.
Okay. Were you part of the arrest of Taylor Schabusiness or Scott Foams?
No, I was not part of the arrest.
Okay. You were just there to provide cover?
I came after the fact, I guess to assist with security and
Oh, I wonder if Scott Holmes is going to testify.
look for lack of a better term, body parts.
Okay. Did you find any?
I did not know.
And we're talking about the Eastman Avenue apartment, correct?
Yes.
And did you see the gold colored Town and Country minivan?
Yes.
And where was that?
I believe it was parked on the north side.
Right
of the building.
right in front of the building?
Yeah, in the parking lot on the north side.
Okay. Did you see anything unusual about the minivan?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Officer Kenny.
Redirect?
No, thank you.
Officer Kenny, that was his name. I feel bad. I just have it labeled as law enforcement. Here, let me do him right really quick. Officer Kenny. Officer Kenny. Law enforcement. There you go.
Thank you. You can step down.
All right, now it's gone. Short testimony.
Face her. Raise your right hand. She'll place you under oath.
Okay, who's next?
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. I do. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Okay. My name is Officer Leo Whitman, W-H-I-T-M-A-N.
And the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
What is
Thank
she?
you. How are you?
Hold on, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Littman? Leoman?
Please have a seat and state
Oh,
your name
Whiteman?
for the record.
Whitman? Leah Whitman.
Okay.
My name is Officer Leo Whitman, W-H-I-T-M-A-N.
And the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
Thank you. How are you employed?
I'm employed through the City of Green Bay Police Department.
And how are you employed with the Green Bay Police Department?
I'm a patrol officer.
How long have you been employed in that capacity?
A little over 3 years.
Were you working as a patrol officer with the Green Bay Police Department on February 23rd of 2022?
Yes.
And do you recall being dispatched to a residence on Eastman Avenue on that day?
Yes.
And what was the reason you were dispatched to that location?
I was going to assist in picking up a suspect in a case that occurred on Stony Brook Lane.
And what did you do at the Eastman Avenue residence?
I just held a perimeter spot at first on one of the corners of the building, and then we were told that we were going to make contact with the vehicle that was seen in the parking lot, and I assisted in being I was part of the arrest team with that.
Okay. After, I should say, which individuals were, I guess, arrested at that point?
It was Taylor Schabusiness.
Okay. After that, did you conduct a protective sweep of that residence?
I assisted in it, yes.
All right. And did you look at any other individuals inside the apartment?
Yes, a male by the name of Scott Holmes.
Okay. And when you were done doing the protective sweep, what did you do after that point?
I assisted with putting a crime scene tape around the van, as well as kind of blocking off the entrance to the Eastman apartment complex, and then I started a crime scene log as well for Eastman.
And what is the purpose of a crime scene log?
It's just to protect the integrity of the crime scene, making sure nobody that is unauthorized goes in to the crime scene, and everybody that is authorized to assist in the investigation signs in and then signs out, so we can keep record of who goes in and out.
And was that done with respect to the Eastman Avenue apartment building?
Yeah.
As well as the van that was outside?
Yes.
And both areas were sort of cordoned off by crime scene tape as well?
Correct.
When you were completed with those tasks, did you have any other involvement in the case?
Yes, I was asked to go back to the police department and assist in collecting clothing that Ms. Taylor was wearing.
Okay. And what clothing did you assist in collecting from?
I collected a black tank top, black sweatpants, a black bra, and then purple underwear.
Okay. And I guess, was that done in a separate area that wasn't being monitored, I suppose?
Yeah, we went into a separate interview room where there were no cameras, and my body camera was off, so we could give her privacy while she undressed.
Okay. And the items of clothing that Ms. Schabusiness was wearing, those were the items you listed off earlier?
Yes.
And did you take custody of those?
Yes.
When you're taking
I think it was
custody
me
of
that
items of
loud.
evidence, such as clothing, what steps do you take to ensure the integrity of that item of evidence?
I've ensured that I was wearing gloves, so I didn't get any of my DNA or anything on the clothing, and then I packaged them in a brown paper bag. Due to them saying, I was told by a detective that there was possibly some red matter on there that could have been blood. We put them in a brown paper bag to make sure that if it was still wet, it wouldn't get contaminated by anything like plastic or anything.
That protocol you outlined, is that consistent with your training in how to collect items of evidence?
Yes.
And that's what you did in this case as well?
Yes.
When you collected the, I think you said tank top, bra, sweatpants, and underwear, is that right?
Correct.
What did you do with those items once they were bagged?
I gave them to Detective Kemp.
Okay. And I guess, was he responsible for then entering it into evidence to your knowledge?
Yeah, yep, he took custody of it and entered it into evidence, or the drying rack for clothing that's soiled in either bodily fluids or anything. I'm not sure what he did afterwards.
And was Ms. Schabusiness provided alternative clothing?
Yeah, they provided yellow scrubs, I would call them, for her to wear.
Thank you, Officer. Nothing further, Your Honor. Questions?
All right, how about acquiesce? Can you spell that one?
Examination, Mr. Fairley.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer Whitman,
Cross-examination.
did you observe cuts on Taylor Schabusiness's fingers or thumbs?
Not that I recall, I wasn't looking. I was just focused on getting clothing and making sure she got dressed.
You initially went over to 2353 Eastman Avenue?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. And that was on February 23rd of 2022?
Correct.
And did you ride with anybody?
Sorry.
Did you ride with someone, or did you take your own squad car?
I was in my own squad car.
Okay. And then you met up with Officer Garth Russell?
Correct.
And Lieutenant Buckman?
Correct.
Anybody else?
I think there was a couple other officers there as well.
Was there an Officer Fisher there?
Yes.
And did you park a distance away?
Yes.
And then you walked up?
Correct.
Did you walk up on your own, or did you walk in conjunction with the other officers?
I walked up on my own.
Did you park quite a distance away so you could see what was going on?
Yeah, I parked in, I believe, the northwest corner of the parking lot, so I was still out of sight, but I could see the van and the entrance too.
Wait, acquiesce, aqueous. Is that even a word? Aqueous. Aquaman. I think that's like on my other stream. I have that sound effect.
Eastman, from my point of view.
Were you told to be looking for a van?
Yes.
What kind of van?
It was just a tan Chrysler van with the license plate of 580ZJZ.
Oh, he's writing that down. What are you writing?
At some point, then you walked up.
Mr.
to
Frolic,
the
I
van.
want to know what you're writing on there.
The back of the van had snow on the back windshield.
From what I remember, yes.
Snow on the ground, correct?
Correct.
And when you walked up, it was dark outside.
Correct.
What time was this about?
Oh, I don't recall.
After midnight.
I can't really give a for sure time on when that happened.
Okay. Did you at some point hear anything or see anything with regards to lights coming on the minivan?
Yes, the lights, the flashing lights came on, indicating either the van was being unlocked or locked at that time.
Okay. Did you walk around the van?
That's weird. So I wonder if she knew that law enforcement was outside, and that's why she was fumbling with the keys and unlocking it, or was she already coming outside and she was unlocking it, and then law enforcement happened to just be there?
Yes.
Is that before you heard the lights come on or saw the lights come on? Or
Yes.
after? Before?
Before.
Okay. And this van were there vehicles on either side of the van?
I don't recall.
It's a French Ford?
Were numerous vehicles parked in front of the complex?
Yes.
Did you walk around the entire perimeter of the van?
No.
Okay. Which side did you walk on, the driver's side or the passenger side?
The driver's side.
Did you have a flashlight?
Yes.
Did you use it?
Yep.
What did you do with the flashlight?
I just watched the ground to make sure I didn't compromise any kind of evidence that might have been on the ground at the time.
Did you flash
Did
the
you use
flashlight?
your flashlight to look in the van?
I looked into the driver's seat and that was it to make sure it was unoccupied.
At some point, did you have contact with Officer Russell near the van?
Yeah.
Was he raising his voice as to be careful where you step?
Yes.
And then at some point then, did you see someone come out of the building?
Yes.
Who was that?
It was Taylor.
And what did you do then?
I just assisted with the arrest team.
Okay.
I didn't put handcuffs on, but I was there as a presence in case they needed assistance.
You walked up to the front door where Miss Schabusiness was, correct?
Correct.
She was standing on the porch under a overhang, correct?
Correct.
She was outside?
Correct.
She was cooperative?
Correct.
When you looked at her, her demeanor, was it calm?
Yes.
Did she cooperate with you and the other officers?
Yes.
Was it Officer Garth Russell? Was he the one that put handcuffs and arrested her?
I don't recall.
Did you see Miss Schabusiness fighting?
No.
She was compliant?
Yes.
At some point then, did you see Officer Russell take her back inside the apartment building and go over by the stairs?
I don't recall that.
At some point, did you and other officers become concerned for your safety?
No.
Did you have to draw your service revolver?
We did, yes.
You did?
We did.
You took your duty weapon out?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you hear yelling for a male to come out of apartment 1?
Yes.
And that was Scott Tomes?
Yes.
And were you part of that process?
Briefly.
Okay.
Was Scott Holmes like another lover? Or
Did you
just
assist
roommate?
Officer Russell
Friend?
with bringing Miss Schabusiness to the squad car?
No.
Okay. He did that on his own?
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And
don't know. I'm not sure.
did you assist the other officer that was dealing with Scott Tomes?
Yes.
Okay. After all that was done, then were you told to go back to the station?
Yes.
Who told you to go back to the station? Do you know?
I believe it was Detective Kemp called me.
Who did?
Kemp?
Okay, Kevin Kemp?
Yes.
Detective, right?
Detective, yes.
Did you do a protective sweep?
I assisted with it.
Okay. Did you find any body parts or anything that was cause for concern?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. And you helped with doing the crime scene log?
Correct.
Is that where you log people in and log people out?
Yes.
Did you put up crime scene tape?
Yes.
Where?
It was
Drink some
around
water,
the
guys.
van
Stay
and around the front
hydrated.
entrance of Eastman to kind of block that part of the crime scene off.
You did all that before you left, correct?
Correct.
How long do you think you were at Eastman Avenue?
I don't know, maybe an hour.
Okay. And then you collected these items, the tank top, the sweatpants, the bra, and the underwear, correct?
Correct.
And they were all sealed in a brown paper bag?
I did not seal them. I just put them in the brown paper bag and gave them to Detective Kemp.
Okay, then he dealt with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Step down.
You know what word I hate? Conscientious. Can you spell that one? Hate that word. All right, who's
Right up
next?
this way, and then before you.
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Oh, she's smiling. Who's this?
My name is Kevin Scott.
Okay, and Mr. Jose, the witness is yours.
Good afternoon, Mr. Scott. Can you state for the record how you are employed?
I am a DNA analyst at the Wisconsin State Crime Laboratory in Madison.
And how long have you worked as a DNA analyst?
I've been there for about 10 years.
Is all of your work as a DNA analyst, is that with the State Crime Lab in Wisconsin?
Yes, it is.
Could you briefly address your educational background and training that you've had that qualifies you to work in that capacity?
Yes, I received a bachelor's
Yeah, how did you guys get it right? I hate that word.
science degree majoring in biochemistry from UW-Madison. When I was first hired at the lab, I received approximately 1 year of in-house training at the lab that covered
Okay, he's gonna go through his credentials.
of my statement of qualifications. For the presence of bodily fluids such as blood, semen, or saliva, I then attempt to extract or release DNA from those bodily fluids or from any other source of DNA such as skin cells from touched items. I then attempt to generate a DNA profile. I analyze those DNA results and I make comparisons to DNA standards that are taken from known individuals. I will then prepare a written report of my results and conclusions.
And do you have any sort of estimate as to how many times you have conducted analysis of DNA samples?
I've worked somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 cases, and each case can consist anywhere from one item of evidence upwards of several dozen, depending on the case.
Is it fair to say that in your career you've analyzed thousands of DNA samples?
Yes, I have.
And have you testified in court in the past regarding your findings as to your DNA analysis?
Yes, I have.
Have you been accepted as an expert witness in courts in the state of Wisconsin regarding DNA analysis?
Yes, I have.
For womanly wild.
Mr. Scott, as part of your work with the State Crime Lab, were you asked to assist in an investigation of a homicide case from the city of Green Bay with a case named Shad Therian?
Yes, I was.
And in terms of how cases are identified at the lab, can you talk about what the lab does when they receive a request from law enforcement to analyze for DNA?
Yes, when
A case is submitted to the lab. Law enforcement will bring the evidence to the lab, or otherwise ship it to the lab. Our evidence technicians will give that case a crime lab case number, and each item submitted under that case will get a crime lab item designation. Each item gets its own item letter, starting with letter A. Next item would be letter B, and we'll examine the lab, ask that 10 or link to.
So I'm just getting to the part where they talk about the case.
Specifically identified purpose for the testing.
Generally, that's true, yes.
Your report?
Yes, I did.
All right, you got the case report.
Rock Therian.
Mr. Scott, does the report outline the items that you received from law enforcement for purpose of analysis?
Yes, it does.
And what items were received in this case?
I received a buccal swab standard that was reportedly recovered from Taylor Schabusiness. That was item A. Item B was right-hand swabs reportedly recovered from Taylor Schabusiness. Item C was left-hand swabs reportedly recovered from Taylor Schabusiness. Item D was oral swabs reportedly recovered from Shad Therian. Item E was swab reportedly from a blade. Item F was a swab reportedly from a red substance inside of a box. Item G were swabs from a red substance on a bedroom light switch. Item H was sweatpants. Item I was penile swabs reportedly recovered from Shad Therian. And item J was a swab reportedly from a dildo.
I would note you listed several items that were obtained. Many of those are swabs. One of those items was not a swab. Can you talk about the difference between receiving swabs and receiving an item?
Yes. Typically, the evidence submitted to the lab will either be an item, like a physical item of evidence, such as the sweatpants in this case, or it can be from a sample taken from an item of evidence by the law enforcement agency, which is typically a swab of the item. Swabbing is an oversized Q-tip that is moistened with some water and rubbed up against the item of evidence, hoping to transfer any DNA that's on the item of evidence onto that swab.
Julissa was under the impression she was living with her boyfriend at the apartment, but then she's got a husband. Was she involved in a throuple? Not really sure. Her husband was in jail at the time where the murders happened. So she has a husband, has a kid with that husband. Kid is currently like 2 years old. They don't have custody of course. I think the husband's parents have custody of their 2-year-old. She had sex with Shad, but I don't know if Shad is considered like a boyfriend or just a guy that she fucks with drugs, or like, I'm not really quite sure. I don't know if they have an open relationship. I don't know. We don't know any of those details, or she was cheating. I don't know. I'm not really quite sure. Yeah, I think he's in jail until that article that I read said until like, I don't know, January 2024 or something. So he'll be out soon.
And then we use the cotton head from that swab for our further DNA processing. And depending on the law enforcement agency and how they do things, either those swabs or the full item of evidence is submitted to the lab.
And with respect to item H, the sweatpants, where you receive the actual item, what is your process then for processing and analyzing?
Let's get to the process. Let's get to the results.
The left-hand swabs from Taylor Schabusiness, item C, blood was identified on those swabs. Then from a few other items, the swab from the blade, the swab from the red substance inside the box, the sweatpants, and the swab from the dildo. Presumptive testing for blood was also present. Presumptive testing for blood was positive on those 4 items.
Is it a dirty word? No, it's just annoying to spell.
Can you describe the difference between actually being able to identify blood with one form of testing and
the test that we cause?
Why you make the choice to do presumptive with one and confirmatory with the other items?
It can depend on the sample. If it's positive, yes. From the swabs from the red substance on the bedroom light switch, that test was negative, and I concluded that blood was not detected.
Oh, okay, cool. This is exactly where I want it to be.
A presumptive test was positive due to it can depend on the sample. If the presence of blood is very important to a case, I might choose to perform that confirmatory test, or if for some reason I might think that...
So, like, Shad didn't really live at the basement of his mom's house. He was coming in and out. I'm not really sure where he lived, or if he lived at the apartment where Taylor was arrested at. But Taylor was at the apartment with Scott, and I don't know if that's her roommate. I'm not really quite sure yet.
The presumptive test was positive due to one of those things that might cause a false positive result. I might choose to do a confirmatory test. It could also just depend on the amount of sample I have available to me.
Were there items where either a confirmatory or presumptive test for blood was conducted where blood was not located?
Yes. From the swabs from the red substance on the bedroom light switch, that test was negative, and I concluded that blood was not detected on those swabs from the light switch.
And are there other types of presumptive testing that can be done for other substances?
Yes, we can also test for saliva and semen.
And did you conduct any presumptive testing for saliva in this case?
Yes, I did. I performed a presumptive test for saliva on the penile swabs from Shad Therian. That test was positive, and I concluded that presumptive testing for saliva was positive on those penile swabs.
Is there a confirmatory test for saliva like there is for blood?
We do not have one in our lab.
So there's merely the presumptive testing for saliva, and that is what you did on the penile swabs?
Yes.
And did you do any testing for the potential presence of sperm?
Yes, I did.
And where did you conduct that test?
I tested the penile swabs from Chad Therian, and I did not identify sperm cells. I concluded that sperm cells were not identified on the penile swabs.
And those are all is that all of the screening tests that you did prior to DNA analysis?
For bodily fluids, yes.
Okay. And just to confirm, you do that prior to the DNA analysis?
That's correct.
Okay. Subsequently, did you then perform DNA analysis on the items that you received?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Just briefly, before we go into those specifics, can you describe for the jury what DNA is?
Yes, so DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid.
Okay, we'll skip through this
Criminal
part. DNA get from
DNA
mom,
to
dad.
controls to see if those nearly so if those other cells such as skin the same fluid your DNA comes from, your DNA will be the same throughout your body.
Now, turning back to the DNA analysis that you conducted.
Now, the only time you can have the same DNA as someone is if you have twins. And it has to be, what was the term twins again? Where it's like you share the same cell. It's like not fraternal. Fraternal and what's the other word for twin? It was fraternal and something else twin.
In this case, can you
In that case,
describe
you commit a crime and you got a twin, you can blame it on them. That's their DNA, not yours.
the autosomal STR DNA analysis that you conducted in this case?
Could you please?
Is it identical? Oh, really? Identical? Fraternal and identical twin. Oh, I thought that term was going to be a lot more scientific. Identical.
Could you please clarify your question?
Sure. Well, what is autosomal STR DNA as opposed to other types of DNA like YSTR DNA analysis?
Yeah, so at our lab, we have two different types of DNA analysis available to us. The more common one is referred to as autosomal STR DNA analysis. Autosomal refers to the DNA that everybody will have, both males and females. Everybody has 23 pairs of chromosomes in their body. 22 of those are referred to as autosomal chromosomes, and the last pair are referred to as the sex chromosomes. So males will have an X and a Y sex chromosome, and females will have two X chromosomes. When we perform the autosomal analysis, we generate a DNA profile from any DNA that's present in that sample. The other option available to us is YSTR testing. YSTR testing generates a DNA profile only from the Y chromosome. So since only males have a Y chromosome and females do not, that YSTR testing will essentially ignore any female DNA that's present in a sample and only generate a profile from male DNA that's present. This is very helpful in samples in which there's a lot of female DNA and a very small amount or relatively small amount of male DNA compared to the female DNA. So if that male DNA is relevant to the case, we might want to perform this YSTR testing to try to help us determine the DNA profile from that Y chromosome. Now, unlike autosomal DNA profiles, YSTR profiles are not as discriminating because they are not unique to any one individual. While most males will generally have different Y profiles, it is possible that unrelated males could just happen to share the same Y profile by chance. And we do expect that all paternally related male relatives, so male relatives who share a father-son type relationship, we would expect that they would also share the same Y profile as well.
So prior to doing your DNA analysis in this case, is there something that you need to do to prepare the samples to be analyzed?
Yes. So once I have my item of evidence, I will take my sample for DNA analysis and then extract or release the DNA that's present in that sample. This is done by adding some water with some chemicals and heating it up in order to break open those cells and release the DNA. I then purify the DNA sample.
Maybe she's got a pee or
removing
something.
everything else that's not DNA. And once I have my purified DNA extract, I will then quantify that sample to see how much DNA is present. If there is a sufficient amount of DNA present in that sample, we will then try to generate a DNA profile. And depending on how much total human DNA or male DNA that's present in the sample, we will then choose at that point whether we attempt to generate an autosomal profile or a Y profile.
As you began your analysis of the individual items in this case, did you note items that appeared to be sort of what you might call standards for the individuals that were involved in this case?
Yes, I did.
And which items were those?
So item A was a buccal swab standard reportedly from Taylor Schabusiness. A buccal swab is a swabbing of the inside of somebody's cheek, hoping to gather DNA from that person's mouth.
Yeah, that would make sense, Paige, because Brian Koberger would share the Y chromosome that his dad gave him. So that's probably how they knew that it was paternal DNA.
We then process that buccal swab standard in the same manner as an item of evidence to generate a DNA profile, and we use that DNA profile as that person's DNA profile for the purpose of comparisons. I also received oral swabs, item D. Those oral swabs were from Chad Therian.
And were you able to develop single source profiles for both item A1 and item D1?
Yes, I was.
And what is a single source profile?
So when we generate a DNA profile, that DNA profile will either be single source or from just one individual, or it could be a mixture of DNA. So that DNA profile could have DNA from multiple individuals.
Which of those are more easier to work with when doing comparisons?
Typically single source profiles are easier, as we can just do a direct comparison between that single source profile and the profile from the DNA standards in order to see if they are consistent with each other or not.
So once you developed those single source profiles, presumably both for Taylor Schabusiness and Chad Therian, did you then conduct comparisons for subsequent items that were analyzed?
I I think she's just in la la land right now, and she's not even listening. I think she's listening here and there, but like she's probably thinking about something else, and she's laughing and reflecting on something else. I don't know. But maybe the Lord next to her, maybe they gotta watch out.
Yes, I did.
And specifically as it relates to item B1, what was item B1?
Item B1. To back up a little bit, item B were the right-hand swabs from Taylor Schabusiness. When I took a sample from that swab, I just cut a little bit of the swab off for DNA analysis. That cut.
You thought Letitia was gonna be bolted to the desk? Remember her antics during trial? Dude, Letitia was a fucking pussy. Okay, she ain't got no guts.
From the swab was called item B1 for the purposes of tracking within our system. So item B1 is.
That's why she murdered a defenseless kid instead of actually confronting his father and duking it out with his mom. She's a fucking pussy.
It's also from the right-hand swabs from Taylor Schabusiness.
She's a loser.
And what did your analysis? What were the results of your analysis with respect to that item B1?
I developed a 3-person mixture. So 3 different individuals contributed DNA to this mixture. At least one of those 3 individuals was male. At that point, I analyzed this DNA mixture using a computer program called StarMix. StarMix is a tool that we use at our lab to help us interpret DNA mixture profiles. It works by modeling the DNA mixture by trying to determine the most likely individual contributor profiles that, when mixed together, can explain the mixture that we observed or that we detected from the item. So at the end of the interpretation, what we have is a list of the most likely individual profiles that can explain this mixture. Once we have that list, we will then compare the DNA profiles from the people thought to be involved in the case in order to see if they do have one of those possible profiles. If they do not have one of those possible profiles, they are excluded as a possible contributor to the mixture, meaning that DNA mixture cannot be modeled using that person's DNA profile. Therefore, their DNA is not present.
How tall is Letitia?
If their DNA is one of the possible profiles, then we will get a likelihood ratio. And what that likelihood ratio is a level of support for the strength of the comparison. Essentially, the higher the likelihood ratio is, the more support there is that person's DNA is present in the mixture. And the lower the number is, the more support there would be that person's DNA is not present in the mixture.
Bye, Deb.
So for this particular sample, the right-hand swabs from Taylor Schabusiness, I analyzed this assuming a 3-person mixture using StarMix. I also assumed the presence of DNA from Taylor Schabusiness. Since this was a swab from her hand, we would expect to find DNA from her. It did also appear that her DNA was present in the mixture. So when I analyzed this mixture, essentially I told that computer program that one of those 3 contributors is Taylor Schabusiness, so then it would model the other 2 contributors. So once we had that interpretation and made the comparison to Shadtherian, I found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe this DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness and Shadtherian and one other person than if it were a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness and 2 random unknown people. That provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Shadtherian is present in the mixture.
Now, the way in which you report this data as a ratio, is that the standard process when you have DNA mixtures? That is, does the lab actually tell someone that a person's DNA is present, that it is the source of DNA, or does the lab always report it out as a ratio like this when you have a mixture?
It will depend on the type of mixture and how much DNA each contributor contributes. But when this StarMix computer program is used, then yes, this ratio is how we will report out all comparisons.
Okay. Is there any way to sort of quantify for the jury or describe how big of a number 1 quadrillion is?
1 quadrillion would be 1 followed by 15 zeros. It's also 1,000 trillion.
Okay. Now, was that 1 quadrillion, at least 1 quadrillion times, is that the exact number of the ratio in this case?
No, the numbers can go much higher. We cap that likelihood ratio at 1 quadrillion.
Okay, I've never heard of quadrillion before, actually.
Just to keep that
when
number
they do the DNA comparison
down
thing.
in a range that's more recognizable.
I think
So
I have.
possible that in this case the likelihood was even greater than 1 quadrillion. You simply will never report a number that's higher than 1 quadrillion.
That's correct.
And did you follow that same process for the left-hand swabs from Taylor Schabusiness in item C?
Yes, I did.
And were you able to develop a mixture in that case as well?
Yes, I did. From the left-hand swabs, I developed a 2-person mixture, so 2 different people contributed DNA to that mixture. Again, one of those 2 people appeared to be Taylor Schabusiness, so when I analyzed this mixture using StarMix, I assumed the presence of DNA from Taylor. When I compared the DNA profile from Shadtherian to that mixture, I found that it was at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness and Shadtherian than if it were a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness and a random unknown person. This also provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Shadtherian is present in the mixture.
And item B and C, the 2 items that we just talked about with respect to the DNA analysis, again, were those the 2 items that you had tested for the presence of blood as well?
Yes, blood was identified on those 2 items.
With the confirmatory test?
Yes.
And so again, the result in terms of the 1 quadrillion times, that's essentially the maximum number that you could reach, and that was in item C1 as well.
That's correct.
Let's move on to item E. What was item E?
Item
Oh man, the cross-examination for this is just gonna be a repeat of all this, I bet.
E was a swab from a blade.
And what sort of analysis did you conduct with respect to item E?
I developed a single source male profile, so just a DNA profile from one male individual. I then compared that male profile to the profiles I developed from the standards in this case, and I found that that profile is consistent with a profile from Schabusiness. Now, anytime we make a direct comparison between two profiles and find that they are consistent with each other, I perform a statistical analysis on the evidentiary profile in order to estimate roughly how rare or how common that profile is in the general population. If that profile is more rare than 1 in 7 trillion individuals, with 7 trillion being roughly 1,000 times the world's population, if that profile is more rare than 1 in 7 trillion, I will state that that individual is the source of that DNA. So for this particular sample, the swab from the blade, that single source male profile, I concluded that Schabusiness is the source of that DNA.
And item E, is that a test that, or is that a swab that you also did a presumptive test for blood on?
Yes, that test was positive for the presumptive test for blood.
Moving on to item F. What sort of testing was conducted on item F?
Item F was a swab from red substance inside of a box. I developed a two-person mixture, so two different people contributed DNA to that mixture. At least one of those two was male. For this particular mixture, one of those individuals contributed the vast majority of DNA to the mixture, and I was able to determine the major male contributor, which is the DNA profile from that one male individual who contributed the vast majority of DNA to the mixture. I then compared that major male contributor profile to the profiles from the DNA standards, and I concluded that Schabusiness is the source of that major male contributor profile. Now, there was a minor contributor as well. However, the amount of DNA that we detected from that minor contributor was very low, and it was not suitable for comparisons.
That the idea that there might be a minor contributor that contributes such a small amount of DNA to a mixture, is that something that you encounter regularly in your DNA analysis?
Yes, we do.
Just generally, how is it possible that small amounts of DNA can be found on swabs of certain items? How do we transfer our DNA from one place to another?
Object, calls for speculation, foundation, Your Honor.
Overruled.
So just to clarify, are you asking like how DNA transfer occurs?
Correct.
So when we think of DNA transfer, we tend to think of it in terms of primary transfer and secondary DNA transfer. So primary transfer would be the direct transfer of DNA to an object. So if I handle an object, such as my water bottle here, some of my DNA might transfer to the water bottle through that direct contact. That would be primary transfer. Secondary transfer is also possible, in which DNA is transferred through an intermediary object to an object that I never directly handled. So if some of my DNA is on this water bottle and it comes into contact with another object, it is possible that some of my DNA might transfer to that second object, even though I never had any direct contact with it.
In that DNA transfer that you talked about what is possible, does DNA always transfer when someone handles an item?
No, not necessarily. There are a number of things that can influence how much, if any, DNA is transferred, but just because an object is handled, that doesn't necessarily mean that enough DNA will transfer for us to be able to detect. It can vary by the person as well. Two different people could handle an object for the same amount of time, and we might only detect DNA from one and not the other.
I think you mentioned earlier certain substances like blood, semen, saliva tend to be good conveyors of DNA. Is that true?
That's correct. Bodily fluids, such as blood, semen, and saliva, are very good sources of DNA.
So are you familiar with the term touch DNA?
Yes.
What does that generally refer to?
Touch DNA generally refers to DNA that is transferred to an object through touch or through skin cells that are left behind on that object during handling.
And generally, if we were to compare touch DNA as opposed to the transfer of the bodily fluids that we suggested earlier, which are more effective at transferring DNA from one place to another?
Typically, bodily fluids would have more DNA than touch DNA, but of course it could depend on how much bodily fluids there are or how much touch DNA is on the object.
Thank you. After that educational aside, I'll transfer back to the report, and I would ask you to discuss item G in the analysis that you conducted on item G.
Item G was swabs from a red substance on a bedroom light switch. I developed a three-person mixture, and at least two of those three individuals were male. And I analyzed this assuming three individuals using star mix. When I compared the DNA profile from Schabusiness to this mixture, I found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Schabusiness and 2 other people than if it were a mixture resulting from 3 random unknown people. This provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Schabusiness is present in the mixture. I then compared the DNA profile from Schabusiness
Was I muted? Damn it. I said, sorry, I had to go use the bathroom. I'm drinking so much water. And then also, Letitia Stalk is, she had her trial recently. So she lied so much that people start calling her Lie-Tisha. And then they called her Letitia because like during trial, she would hide behind a box of tissues while people were testifying. She was just so embarrassing. We suffered from severe secondhand embarrassment just from watching her. And then also, did I miss anything? I had to use the bathroom.
And also found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Shadtherian and 2 other people than if it were a mixture resulting from 3 random unknown people. This also provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Shadtherian is present in the mixture.
And then moving to item H, what was item H?
Item H was the sweatpants that I examined in this case.
And what did you do to then further evaluate those sweatpants prior to doing DNA analysis?
I examined the sweatpants looking for staining that appeared reddish-brown color. That could be blood. I did observe staining, reddish-brown staining on the sweatpants, and I ended up taking 4 different samples from 4 different reddish-brown stains.
There she goes smiling.
And again, did you do presumptive testing for blood on that item?
Yeah, yes, I did. All 4 of those stains were positive for the, or they were presumptively positive, so presumptive testing for blood was positive on those sweatpants.
And 4 different swabs that you generated then, we'll take those one by one. Can you first address item H1 in the analysis you conducted on H1?
Item H1 was the first sample I took, a swabbing of a reddish-brown stain on the right leg of the sweatpants. I developed a 2-person mixture. One of those 2 appeared to be male. One of those individuals contributed more DNA than the other, and I was able to determine a major female contributor, which again is that DNA profile from that one female individual who contributed the most DNA to the mixture. And I concluded that Taylor Schabusiness is the source of that major female contributor DNA. I was also able to determine a minor male contributor DNA profile, and I concluded that Shadtherian is the source of that minor male DNA, so the lesser contributor of DNA to the mixture.
Yeah, and did you conduct a similar analysis on item H2?
Yes, item H2 was a swabbing of a reddish-brown stain on the left leg of the sweatpants. I again developed a 2-person mixture, and one of those 2 was male. I was able to determine a major female contributor, and I concluded that Taylor Schabusiness is the source of that major female contributor DNA.
Oh, Vegas, congratulations. Oh, that's exciting. Oh, man. There's so much good food in Vegas. Depends on what you like.
I was also able to determine a minor male contributor, and I concluded that Shadtherian is the source of that minor male contributor DNA.
And again, those source attributions, is that because it's more than 1 in 7 trillion times more likely that it would be them than some other person?
So that 7 trillion number is not a likely ratio.
What kind of pasta is that? Puttanesca? What is that?
So the probability of randomly selecting an individual from the population in general, that probability is more rare than 1 in 7 trillion. The probability of randomly selecting a profile that would match that evidentiary profile by chance.
Now moving to item H3, which is the 3rd swab from the sweatpants, you conducted a similar analysis? The result ended up being a little bit different, is that right?
Yes, this one was a little bit different. Again, I developed a 2-person mixture. At least one of those 2 appeared to be male. For this particular mixture, I analyzed using star mix, assuming a 2-person mixture. When I compared the DNA profile from Taylor Schabusiness, I found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness.
I wonder if her parents are in the courtroom. You think they're supporting her, or they're just like, nope?
And 1 other person than if it were a mixture resulting from 2 random unknown people. This provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Taylor Schabusiness is present in the mixture. I then compared the DNA profile from Shadtherian, and also found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Shadtherian and 1 other person than if it were a mixture resulting from 2 random unknown people.
Anchovies.
That also provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Shadtherian is present in the mixture.
And Mr. Scott, can you explain why with this 2-person mixture you used the star mix to conduct your analysis as opposed to the sorts of source attributions that you did with the previous mixtures?
Yes, with the previous 2 mixtures, there was enough of a difference in the amount of DNA that was contributed by both, in which I was able to easily determine the profile from the major contributor and the minor contributor. With this 3rd swabbing, the swabbing of the reddish-brown stain on the left leg, H3, there wasn't as clear of a difference between the contributions of DNA between those 2.
And then the final swabbing of the sweatpants, item H4.
Oh, a little bit.
What was your analysis as it related to that item?
This item H4, another swabbing of a reddish-brown stain on the right leg of the sweatpants. I developed a single-source male profile, and I concluded that Shadtherian is the source of that DNA.
Move on to then item I1. What was item I, and then tell us what item I1 is.
So item I was the penile swabs from Shad Therian. Item I1 is the cutting that I took from that swab for the purposes of DNA analysis.
And what sort of analysis did you then conduct on that item?
I developed a single source male profile, and I concluded that Shad Therian is the source of that DNA.
And with respect to item J, what is
Pepper
that?
flake.
Item J was a swab from a dildo.
And what sort of analysis did you conduct on that item?
I developed a 3-person mixture. At least one of those 3 individuals was male, and I analyzed that mixture using star mix, assuming 3 individuals. When I compared the DNA profile from Taylor Schabusiness, I found that it is at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe that DNA mixture profile if it is a mixture resulting from Taylor Schabusiness and 2 other people than if it were a mixture resulting from 3 random unknown people. That provides very strong support for inclusion, or very strong support that DNA from Taylor Schabusiness is present in the mixture. I then compared the DNA profile from Shad Therian, and I received an uninformative likelihood ratio. So uninformative just means that statistical values in that range have been observed both for individuals known to be in a mixture and individuals known to not be in a mixture. Therefore, no conclusion will be made regarding the presence of DNA from Shad Therian to that mixture. Essentially, there is no strong support that his DNA is there, and there's no strong support that his DNA is not there.
Is that what Jim Carrey, Kelsey?
And then YSTR DNA analysis you conducted in this case?
Yes, it is.
And you talked earlier about the YSTR DNA and conclusions that that there is YSTR DNA analysis that can be done. Did you utilize that in this case?
Yes, I did.
And what items did you test for using the YSTR method?
So using that YSTR method, I tested the oral swabs from Shad Therian for use as a standard for comparisons, and I also tested the swab from the dildo. So that swab from the dildo had a large amount of female DNA and a relatively small amount of male DNA. So I decided to perform this YSTR testing on it as well.
And with respect to item J1, what was your YSTR testing conclusion?
I developed a mixture of at least 2 males. So at least 2 different males contributed DNA to this mixture. This mixture is suitable for exclusionary purposes only. So I cannot make an inclusionary statement, or I cannot say that somebody is consistent with the DNA in this mixture. I can only make comparisons, and if there are enough differences between the mixture and the individual standard, I might be able to say that that person's DNA is not present, so they would be excluded. Otherwise, if they cannot be excluded, they would be inconclusive.
That was a weird movie. Wasn't he trying to get married to like the little girl at the end of the movie or something? It was so weird. I'll probably watch it though, but that was such a weird movie.
So for this comparison, I compared the YSTR profile from Shad Therian to this mixture from the swab from the dildo, and I concluded that the possible contribution of DNA from Shad Therian is inconclusive due to the complexity of the mixture.
Mr. Scott, the
I think I watched when I was in like high school.
conclusions that you testified here to today and the conclusions that are contained in your report, are those your opinions to a reasonable degree of professional responsibility?
I believe so.
I would move for the admission of the exhibit, Your Honor. I think it's 88.
Good afternoon. As to the testing and swabbing of the
Cross-examination time.
Are you saying that you could not confirm whether or not Shad Therian's DNA is on that item? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. He had an uninformative conclusion for the autosomal results and an inconclusive conclusion for the YSTR results.
If that item was touched on someone's body, would it be likely that DNA would show up on that item?
DNA can transfer to an item, that's possible. However, it is also possible that an object could be touched and we would not be able to detect enough of that person's DNA to develop a profile.
If I shook your hand, would my DNA likely transfer to your hand and vice versa?
It's possible.
You tested a light switch, correct?
I tested
a profile from a light switch?
Yes, I had a swab that was reportedly from a light switch.
Do you know which light switch it was?
It was from a red substance on a bedroom light switch.
Okay. And it's true that blood was not detected on that light switch? That's item G?
Correct. Blood was not detected on that item.
But you don't know what location, correct, where they came from, which light switch, what address?
If I remember correctly, I thought it was from Taylor Schabusiness's apartment, but I don't have that information in my report.
That would be at Eastman Avenue? On Eastman Avenue? Do you know?
I would have to check my my notes that I have with me to see if that information is available. I don't remember offhand.
You tested some penile swabs from Shad Therian, correct?
Yes.
And what was the purpose of that? What was the purpose of the testing?
They were submitted to me.
Okay, but you were looking for DNA, correct?
Yes.
His DNA?
I was looking for any DNA that was present on the item.
Okay. And sperm cells were not identified on the penile swabs from Mr. Therian. That was item I, correct?
That's correct.
Yep, let's just repeat everything all over
So
again.
when you do DNA testing, you just test whatever you're asked to test, correct?
Typically, we do have the ability to choose which items that we want to test, and occasionally, if a case has a probative result, we may not continue testing other items depending on the circumstances of the case. But in general, I would test most of the items that are submitted to me.
Okay. I know that you found some very strong support for inclusion as it results from the right and left hand swabs of Taylor Schabusiness, correct?
That's correct.
And basically, are you saying that you found DNA from Shad Therian on Ms. Schabusiness's hands? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that there's very strong support that DNA from Shad Therian is present on those swabs.
Okay. And if people are hanging out, going out for dinner or using drugs or whatever they're doing, and they have physical contact in some way, shape, or form, DNA can be transferred, correct?
That's possible, yes.
You did look at swabs from the inside of a box, right?
That's correct.
That was item F1?
Correct.
And the major contributor to the inside of the box was Shad Therian, correct?
That's correct, yes.
No DNA from Taylor Schabusiness was found in the box or on the box, correct?
So there was a minor contributor, however, it was not suitable for comparison, so that could be from anybody, including Taylor Schabusiness.
Okay. If I, just hypothetically speaking, if I picked up a box and put it in the back of my car or put it downstairs in the basement or wherever, would my DNA likely transfer to the box?
It's possible.
When you refer to a minor contributor, what does that mean? Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, so in a profile that has a major contributor and a minor contributor, the major contributor would just be the DNA profile from that one person who contributed the most DNA to the mixture, and the minor contributor would be the profile from the person who contributed the lesser amount of DNA to that mixture.
Okay. And when you talk about DNA being found, you're not necessarily saying it's blood, saliva, semen, or anything. You're just saying that it's DNA, correct?
Correct. Typically, when we generate these DNA profiles, they would typically be from any source of DNA that's present on the item, whether it's skin cells or blood or saliva.
Okay. And hypothetically speaking, if I have people over to my residence and have a get-together, and people touch the light switch, maybe they go in the bathroom and use the switch, would their DNA likely transfer to the light switch?
It's possible.
Is that how sometimes you can have a two or multiple person mixture? Is that how that results?
If there's DNA from multiple individuals on the item, then there could be a mixture, yes.
All right, these questionings are okay.
Okay, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Redirect?
Sort of a small point of clarification. As it related to item F, which was the swab reportedly from a red substance inside a box, you didn't actually do that swabbing yourself, correct?
Correct. I received a swab from the law enforcement agency.
And the swab itself specifically denoted that it was from a red substance inside the box, correct?
Yes, that was the information that was given to me.
Typically, if you saw that, that would not be suggestive that the entire outside of the box would have been swabbed and included in that as well, correct?
I would assume it was only from the swabbing of that substance inside the box, not the outside.
Thank you. No further questions.
Awakenings? What is Awakenings about?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're excused.
All right, next witness.
Okay, state's next witness.
State called Olivia Sassman.
Have a seat.
So help you God. Yes. Please have
Your right hand, she will place you under oath. There you go.
Court, so help you God. Yes. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Olivia Sassman.
Okay, then the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
Hi, Ms. Sassman. How are you employed?
I currently work for DCI, the Division of Criminal Investigations, and I am the Evidence Program Manager.
DCI, is that a state agency?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Did you previously have employment with a different state agency?
Yes, I used to work for the State Crime Lab in Madison.
Okay. And how are you employed with the crime lab?
I was an evidence specialist.
What does that mean?
That means that I received any evidence that came into the lab. I also released evidence once we were done testing it.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Can you
Check it
describe
out.
the process, I guess, how the Wisconsin State Crime Lab
Thanks, Wasted.
receives items of evidence?
Yeah, so law enforcement agencies can either submit evidence in person or they can mail it in through USPS, FedEx, UPS. And once we receive the evidence, we enter it into our laboratory information system. And we
Oh, man. I didn't know that. Could you imagine mailing in evidence and it gets lost? I thought they would have to like hand deliver it. I guess maybe it depends on what kind of. No, I feel like really interesting.
Create a case. And then, as part of the receipt process, is there also, documentation that's completed with respect to the condition of some of those items?
Yes. So agencies will send in a transmittal that lists all the items of evidence that they are submitting, and we provide them with a receipt. If there is something wrong with the evidence packaging, we will make a note of it on the receipt.
That crime lab as part of a receipt of evidence in a case?
Yes, this is the receipt that we provide to law enforcement agencies once we're done entering their case.
Okay. And I should have asked, you being employed with the Wisconsin State Crime Lab, were you employed in that capacity in March and April of 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And then with respect to Exhibit 89, does it indicate who from the lab would have received the items of evidence that were submitted?
It said that I received them.
Okay. And is there also an area to sign and date that?
Yes.
What was the date of that receipt at the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
March 10th, 2022.
Thank you. And does it indicate in agency, or I guess the Wisconsin State Crime Lab's case number?
Yes, it does.
What is that?
M22636.
And does the receipt indicate how the items were received by the crime lab?
It says they were received in person.
Right. And then does it indicate who submitted them?
Nathan Kolinsky.
Okay. Is he with the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, he is.
All right. And then how many items were received by the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
10 items.
Okay. Are those items A through J?
Yes.
All right. Are those items that kind of get designated by the crime lab?
Yes.
All right. And then, so basically, Exhibit 89 is a receipt that the crime lab received these items on that date.
Yes.
Okay. And I think earlier you also mentioned part of your responsibilities were also releasing evidence. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And I guess when are items released from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
We release the items when the analysts are done testing them.
And I believe in front of you, or sorry, to your left, is Exhibit 90. Is that still up there?
Yes.
Do you recognize Exhibit 90?
Yes, I do.
And what is that?
That is an evidence release form.
And does that just indicate that the previously mentioned items A through J were returned to the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Does it also indicate who released those from those crime lab?
Yes.
And who would that have been?
I released them.
All right. And is there also a signature and date on that?
Yes.
What's the date that they were returned?
April 21st, 2022.
And again, those are documents that you would believe you would prepare based on your signature and time and date?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I move Exhibits 89 and 90. Is there a...
No.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fraley.
Your Honor, do I have Exhibits 89 and 90? There. No, thank you. Ms. Sassman, good afternoon.
Correct.
You work for the Division of Criminal Investigations, otherwise known as DCI,
Yes, I do.
and that's part of the Wisconsin State Crime Lab,
No, it's part of the Department of Justice,
Okay.
but we're separate from the crime lab.
part of DOJ.
Yes.
And your role is to be the evidence specialist?
At DCI, I'm the evidence program manager. When I was at the
Okay, so she just like handles it. Like the evidence comes into her, they process it.
crime lab, I was an evidence specialist.
Okay, so you supervise other people?
No, I'm at DCI. I'm in charge of things like audits and scheduling those things and making sure all the evidence rooms are running smoothly.
Okay. Back in March and April of 2022, you were the evidence specialist, is that correct?
Correct.
And that job was to do what? Track evidence and keep it in proper custody?
Yes, we would receive the evidence as it came in. If the analysts needed the evidence, we would release it to them, and then we would release it to the agencies once we were done with the analysis.
Exhibit 89 is here, and it's the receipt of physical evidence. You saw that, correct?
Yes.
Do you have it up by you?
I do.
So you received items A through J, is that correct?
Correct.
And these items were in sealed manila envelopes, correct?
Some of the items.
And the items that you received were basically buccal swabs or various swabs from different items, is that fair?
There's also a pair of sweatpants, but everything else is, and a dildo.
Okay. You
Hey,
received all
Paul.
that?
Yes.
What's up?
When you get this this evidence, where do you put it?
It depends on the type of evidence that we receive.
Well, I'm talking about this case.
For swabs,
Yeah.
we would put them in the freezer for storage.
Okay.
For the sweatpants, we would put them in our general storage.
Okay. And at the DCI, Department of Justice, you have like a evidence room where you keep things?
At DCI, yes.
Okay. And is it secure?
Yes.
Locked?
Yes.
And are you responsible for who takes items out and who puts items in?
At DCI, it depends on the location. We have multiple DCI offices around the state.
All of the items that we're talking about, were they kept in Madison?
Yes, they were kept at the state crime lab,
Okay.
not at DCI.
Oh, at the State Crime Lab, okay. But were you working there at the time?
I was working for the crime lab, yes.
Okay. Can other people have access to these particular items, or is it only analysts?
So the only people that have access to the evidence room are other evidence specialists and supervisors.
Hey, Paul. Well, you didn't really miss much. It was Cross-examination with the detective. Not much going on there. The medical examiner testified and went through the chart of like the extensive amount of injuries and all the stuff that was done to Shad. And then after that, we have a bunch of law enforcement testify, the ones that were able to arrest Taylor Schabusiness. There's like body cam footage of her being arrested. Not much going on there. Yeah, not too much DNA analysis.
Okay. So an analyst cannot access
And yeah,
them.
a lot of
If an analyst wants
chuckling
to
from Taylor.
do testing on these items, what do they have to do? Do they have to confer with you and get approval from you?
They have to contact us, and then we will provide.
She was laughing when they were debating whether or not to show the jury the photo of Shad's head in a bucket. So,
them with the evidence.
Okay. And is that what happened in this particular
no
case?
surprise.
Yes.
When an analyst wants to do testing, do they do the testing on one day and then put it back?
Usually, no. That's a better question for the analysts. They tend to keep the evidence until they're completely done with this.
Could they keep it for days on end or not?
Yes, they can.
Okay. And so when they go home at night for, after work, where do the items stay?
The analysts have their own secure locations to store the evidence.
Okay. When you received these items, do you inspect them to see whether they got damaged in the mail or if there's any issues with the packaging or labeling or anything like that?
Yes. So we will check the evidence packaging to make sure there's no tears or damage. And then we if there are labels on the packaging from the agency, we will make sure it matches the transmittal.
Okay. Have you ever seen items that are received by the state crime lab that are damaged?
I've seen damaged packaging before.
When you got these items A through J, were any of the items, the packages damaged?
No, they were not.
Okay. Everything was intact?
Yes.
Anything about the items that you received that were cause for concern?
No.
I'm sure in your experience, you've seen labels that are mismarked and things like that, correct?
Yes.
It happens sometimes, right?
It does.
Did that happen with any of the items that you received with regards to this case?
No, it did not.
And then is it protocol then to fill out this form and identify the item and then describe what it is?
Yes.
Do you fill out this form?
Yes.
And then do you sign it as the recipient?
Yes, I do.
And you received items A through J on what, March 10th of 2022?
Yes.
That was at 11:01 a.m.?
Yes.
With regards to Exhibit 90, the evidence disposition-release form, is that a form you prepared?
Yes, it is.
And does this evidence disposition release form contain all of the same items that are on the other one? Or does it contain more?
It contains more.
Why are these two forms different? Why do they have different items?
So the evidence receipt form, that is all the evidence that was submitted to the lab on March 10th. The evidence release form is all of the evidence that's being sent back to the agency, and that includes a DNA packet that the analyst creates, as well as all the extractions from the analysis that they completed.
This Exhibit 90, did you sign this evidence disposition form?
Yes, I did.
Did you type it up?
Yes.
And was it dated April 21st or April 22nd of 2022?
So I created it on April 21st, 2022.
And then someone else signed it on April 22nd of 2022?
Yes.
Why is that?
So we returned the evidence through Speedy, which is a courier company, and so Green Bay Police Department would have received it on April 22nd, 2022. And that is their signature.
So after...
I wonder if Speedy is a company that only handles like evidence. Nah, they must handle other things, right? Who lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin? And you guys have heard of Speedy before?
After all the testing was done and all these items that the Wisconsin State Crime Lab received, Speedy Delivery Service was used to transport back to Green Bay to the police department?
Yes.
Oh, it's Speedy. Spelled Speedy. Cute. Better overnight delivery, a lower price in the Midwest area. Speedy. Restricted items. Because I feel like if you wanted to mess with a case, you could like stake outside of the evidence crime lab and wait for like a Speedy employee to drop off the packages or something and like intercept through there. I don't know. I just thought the law enforcement would just hand deliver it themselves. Interesting.
Why didn't
Rhode
someone
Island?
from the
MA,
State
what
Crime
is that,
Lab
Massachusetts?
Deliver it to the Green Bay Police Department?
It is not our
Montana?
policy to deliver the evidence back to agencies. We either ship it back or they have to come in person and pick it up.
Did you call the Green Bay Police Department to ask them to come and pick up these items once they were done being tested?
No.
Okay. Why not? Would that be something you would do?
Generally, we always ship the evidence back unless it's for an agency that is near the crime lab in Madison, or if it contains a lot of large items, like, for example, like a rifle, which would be much harder to ship back.
Was everything shipped back shipped back to the Green Bay Police Department on April 21st of 2022, or was it a different day?
It was shipped back on April 21st, 2022.
And is it true that the Green Bay Police Department received these items the next day on April 22nd of 2022?
That's what they wrote on the form.
Okay. A day later?
Yes.
So we don't know where this stuff was sitting for a whole day, do we?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further.
Redirect?
No.
Thank you. You can step down.
Oh, I forgot all about our spelling bee, guys. Oh, you know what's a hard word to spell? But you guys probably know because it's always like a
Turn your face around,
tough
raise your
one.
right hand.
Onomatopoeia.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God.
All right, who's next?
Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Can I speak right now?
Yes.
My name is Alexander Gannon.
Okay, the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
So I introduced you as AJ. Is that a preferred nickname you go by?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your proper name is Alexander.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So is it okay if I call
AJ?
you?
That's fine.
All right. So AJ, how old are you?
25.
Do you live in the Green Bay area?
Yes.
Did you grow up here as well?
Yes.
Did you go to high school and middle school here?
Yes.
AJ, do you know somebody by the name of Shad Therian?
Yes.
And how do you know Shad?
I've known him since middle school.
And what middle school did you go to school with him at?
I think I saw him before a couple times in like an media, but we mainly ran up at Bayview.
Bayview Middle School?
Yeah.
Okay. And throughout schooling, and I guess now you're an adult,
Oh, you know what? I didn't see her reaction when he came out. Hold on. I wonder if she knows him. Oh, that looks like a chuckle and a laugh and a giggle. Sorry, I'm going to pay attention to Taylor really
Step
quick.
up here, and before you have a seat, turn your face her and raise your right hand.
Onomatopoeia.
Truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name
Oh, she is definitely smiling right there.
for the record.
Should know him?
Can I speak right now?
Did they make eye contact?
My name is Alexander Gannon.
Okay, the witness is yours, Mr. Saunders.
so I introduced you as AJ. Is that a preferred nickname you go by?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but your proper name is Alexander.
Yes.
Okay. So is it okay if I call you AJ?
That's fine.
All right. So AJ, how old are you?
25.
Do you live in the Green Bay area?
Yes.
Did you grow up here as well?
Yes.
Did you go to high school and middle school here?
Yes.
AJ, do you know somebody by the name of Shad Therian?
Yes.
And how do you know Shad?
I've known him since middle school.
And what middle school did you go to school with him at?
I think I saw him before a couple times in like an media, but we mainly ran up at Bayview.
Bayview Middle School?
Yeah.
And throughout schooling, and I guess now you're an adult, did you keep in touch with Shad?
Well, after about maybe it was the first year I moved into my apartment was when I started really connecting with a lot of people.
Well, 25 would make sense because that's the age range that she's in. She's like 25, I think. Yeah, she's 25.
From that I ran into her, I've talked with, and Chad was one of them.
So there's a reacquainting period, I guess?
Yes.
All right. AJ, do you also know somebody named Taylor Coronado or Schabusiness?
Yes.
And how do you know her?
Since middle school.
Similar to Shad?
Yes.
Did you remain kind of friendly with Taylor as well?
Yes.
Sorry, is that a yes?
Yes.
Sorry.
Friends of
so,
both.
AJ, I want to ask you about February 21st of 2022. It was a Monday. Do you recall the date I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know when this happened, but I don't know.
Sure. So do you recall a day where you were, I guess, hanging out with Shad and Taylor?
Okay, I didn't. You were saying the date, but I didn't.
Sure.
I didn't have context. So.
Sure. So I want to ask you then. I'll say it this way: at some point, did you become aware that Shad had passed away?
It was only after when the day before I was heading out to vacation to see my parents.
Okay.
My dad specifically.
All right. And was that in February of 22?
No, it was like a week after. I think it was. So it was in February. No, I went. I had vacation in June, but I don't remember. I'm sorry. I have a lot of mental problems.
Sure.
So it's hard to keep a constant catalog of memories.
Sure. So are you referring to when you learned that Shad had passed?
All I knew was it was a week. It was a week.
Let me tell you something. If I was ever on the stand, I'd be fucking up too, okay? Because not only is a lot of people are watching, it's a stream, you're up there, Shabiz is looking at you and she's fucking scary. And then you gotta, who remembers things like this from a year and a half ago? So I get it, dude. I'd be that way too. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm crying. Get me off of here.
The day after, a couple days after, I had.
But I'm assuming he probably gave a deposition and he probably should have reviewed that, maybe.
I was going to
the Eastman apartment buildings because that's where I knew Taylor was at the time. And ironically, the same day that I went there, the police were knocking on my door specifically to try and get into reach for me with the situation. And the only thing that I knew at the time was basically they asked if I knew the whereabouts of Shad and Taylor. So like that's like the closest thing I can remember. It's just
Sure, and I know we're talking about something a long time ago, and dates may be a little fuzzy. Is that fair?
Yeah, it's sure you don't.
So that time you were talking about where law enforcement was asking you some questions. Do you remember telling them about a time you were hanging out with Shad and Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. I was drinking a little bit belligerently, so it's the only time that I looked at like the clock was like before I left my apartment. So it was like after 10:30, 10 around that time frame. And
PM?
like basically it was like I just decided to stop dissociating a lot, and I felt bad for not talking to a whole lot of friends that I used to talk to, like Taylor and Chad. So I just hit up Taylor randomly. I was like, hey, like, what's up? You want to hang out? And then basically I went over to the apartments, and when I got there, we were just chilling, chopping it up, like how we always do.
Chopping it up.
Basically, I was.
What does chopping it up mean? You know, I feel like if you're going to testify in a trial where your friend got dismembered, chopping it up is probably not a good term to use. Maybe. But I've never heard of the term chopping it up before. I think that's probably why Taylor's laughing right now. Oh, Lord. Oh, my God.
Always do. And basically.
Laura's like, shut the fuck up, Taylor.
I was like, Taylor was asking like, do you wanna hang out with Shad? She was asking me like for consent to hang out with Shad, to bring him over, and I was like, yeah, that's fine.
My God.
And so
Could I stop you right there? I'm sorry. I just have a quick question. So when you said you were at the apartment, which apartment is this?
the Eastman, the Meadowview East apartments.
Okay. Is that kind of where you?
I feel so bad for her Laura right now. He's like, I want to quit, Judge. I don't want to represent her anymore. Tell her, shut the fuck up. Oh, it's okay. He's nervous. He's up there. He's not really thinking about his words. It's just, it's not really that. It's just.
Thought Taylor was staying, or whose apartment was it?
It was it was the same apartments that
It's okay, AJ. You got this.
So it was like. I'm sorry. What?
Sure. So the apartment is on Eastman that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I interrupted. You were with Taylor, and then she brought up hanging out with Shad.
Yeah.
Did you meet up with Shad that night?
Yes, I did.
And where were you sort of hanging out with Shad then?
We picked him up, went back to the apartments, and was just chopping it up.
Is that the same apartment you were just talking about?
Yes.
All right. And I want to date myself. Chopping it up. What does that mean?
Yeah. What the fuck does that mean? Come on, you're testifying. I mean, like, using slang like that while you're testifying. I don't know. Oh, this guy's just.
Oh, it's just like kicking it, talking about whatever,
okay.
Just small talk or anything. Just kind of having conversation.
Is it a pretty good, chill atmosphere?
Yeah, there's a jury.
It was a good vibe.
No major issues or anything that stick out to you?
I never saw one thing that night.
Kind of Shad was acting normal?
Yes, he was.
Taylor was acting normal?
Yes.
And you said this was about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night?
This was when I went to the apartment, like around that time frame.
And this is still the apartment on Eastman?
Yes.
Okay. And then at some point, do you leave that apartment?
I left. I did leave. I left.
Does the cross-examination get messy?
Probably like at least maybe like a couple hours, maybe until like 1, 2 in the morning. I don't know for sure. It's like I said, I only looked at the time before I left the apartment, and I was a little drunk. So.
Okay. But at some point, you left the apartment. Were Shad and Taylor still at the apartment when you left?
From when I saw it, I don't know, but that's yes, from when I saw it.
And then after that point, had you ever seen Shad again?
What?
After that point, after you left that apartment, had you ever seen Shad again?
That's what I was thinking, Halsey. I was thinking like maybe they were like cutting cocaine or something, but we haven't heard of cocaine in this case. That's only when I hear chopping it up, that's what I'm thinking, like cut up the drugs.
No, ironically, I hit him up the day after, or like a couple days, like the first week into the situation, and I call him, I message him about a song that he posted on his Facebook, which was like some. It was like
he says he means like hanging out and kicking it back.
I just like randomly sent him a message that day. I was like, yeah, that shit's dope. And then I was like feeling a little when I don't have people talking to me a whole lot, I get a little anxious, and then I'm like, hey, what's up? Like I'm a little concerned immediately.
Okay.
But like I didn't realize until after I talked to my friend, mentioned to me specifically about what happened.
And I'm sorry, I'm jumping around in here. I want to go back to when it was you and Taylor, and you went to go pick up Shad. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How did you pick up Shad?
Me?
How did you and Taylor go and pick him up?
Okay. Well, We took a minivan.
Who drove?
Taylor.
Do you know whose minivan that was?
No.
Okay. Was it a minivan that was at that apartment that you were at?
Yes.
And you went to Shad's house to pick him up?
Yes.
Thank you, AJ. I have nothing further. Thank you.
Mr. Freilich, do you have any questions?
Yes, I do.
Cross.
Mr. Gannon, good afternoon. You knew Taylor and Shad since middle school?
Yes.
And you went to school at Bayview Middle School? Yes?
Yes.
And then did you go to high school together as well?
A little bit until the freshman year.
Okay. Did you go
I went to 3 different high schools in my freshman year.
Okay.
So it's
Why does it matter the name?
That's okay. Did you go to high school with Taylor Schabusiness
yes.
at Bayport?
Yes.
And you kind of knew her pretty well, correct?
Yes. Enough to associate with her.
You were friends with her?
Yeah, to associate and be friends with, yes.
And was it your understanding that at least in high school, Shad Therian and Taylor Schabusiness kind of were boyfriend and girlfriend? They dated a little bit?
Yes. I don't know how the connection between them, but it seemed like at the time after the breakup with Corey, it seems like that's like the only person that she always chill with sometimes. That's like whenever I see Shad, so more times over, especially when he's like chilling, I see Taylor or a couple other friends in that circle.
Okay, so that's sort of right. I said like longtime boyfriend, best friend type of thing. Oh, okay.
Okay.
They're pretty cool people.
Sure.
Pretty
did
cool
you
people.
sometimes go over to Shad Therian's mother's house, Tara Pakinich on Stony Brook Lane?
Yeah, the year that I moved out, I visited a couple times, at least a handful of times.
Okay. Would you go over there to maybe eat or play video games and watch TV?
We wouldn't do a whole lot, but I just came. Typically, I was like the runt that would just be chilling with the whole pack, basically, of dogs that we're chilling with. You know what I'm saying? So
You just kind of hang out with the group?
Yeah, just hanging out with the group.
Okay. All right.
So.
Okay.
Were you guys playing video games?
Would
though? Like,
you
what were guys
sometimes
doing?
go over to Shad's father's house, Michael Therian's house?
Yes.
Okay. And was it such that Shad Therian, he lived with his father, Michael Therian?
At the time that I heard of, yes.
So you had been to Shad's father's house and Shad's mother's house, correct?
Yes.
And fair to say that you'd been over to the apartment on Eastman Avenue where Taylor Schabusiness was living, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And sir, you'd go over to that residence to kind of chill or hang out, listen to music, watch TV, whatever, correct?
Yeah.
You had Taylor's phone number?
I had her Facebook.
Okay. And as far as Shad Therian, you had his phone number or Facebook information?
Yeah, I had his Facebook at the time too.
Fair to say that all three of you, yourself, Mr. Gannon, Taylor Schabusiness, and Shad Therian, you all had each other's contact information, correct?
Oh, jeez.
Yes, but after a rough pact with a friend, I was chilling. I just started dissociating, and I just I do that a lot for the past 10, 20 years. I just I feel like people don't. If there's a sort of discrepancy, I just cut you off. It's block you or whatever. And then that's the reason why the day before that situation with the murder, I hate Taylor because I just wanted to associate again.
Okay.
So.
Now, Taylor Schabusiness has a father. Do you know her dad?
Yes.
Okay. His name is Arturo Coronado. Is that correct?
Yes.
Had you been over to Arturo Coronado's house?
Yes.
And was that with Taylor?
It was not the. This was maybe a year or so before I visited. There's been very few times since I personally talked to Art. So.
Okay. But had you been over to Art's house with Taylor in the past?
Yes, I have.
So you kind of knew Taylor pretty well, fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And you knew Shad very well, correct?
Yeah.
Was it such that there were times when maybe you'd be hanging out with Taylor and Shad where they would be using marijuana together?
Prior
Yes,
Wait. No.
It's not.
Your Honor, I'll withdraw.
Thank you.
Questions withdrawn. Okay, ask another question, Mr. Freilich.
Did you see Taylor Schabusiness on February 23rd of 2022?
February 23rd?
Yes.
No.
How about the day before on February 22nd of 2022?
No.
You saw her on February 21st of 2022, correct? That was a Monday?
I don't know what day that was.
Okay.
That's just a little bit too out of my polymath. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. But you did all hang out together and you drove over to Michael Therian's house. Is that your testimony?
Michael Therian?
Yes.
I think all I remember. I don't know.
Okay.
So
You're not good with dates, correct?
I'm better with dates, just not recently up for the past 5, 10
Okay.
years. So
That's fine. So prior to you being told that Shad Therian was deceased, the days before you were told that, you were hanging out with Shad and Taylor, correct?
yes.
And did you notice anything odd about Taylor as far as her mannerisms, her eyes, her speech, anything like that?
No.
Did you have any feelings that she was acting weird when you had contact with her? Bizarre?
No.
Had there been occasions where you've seen her and you felt that she was acting very odd or
Object,
unusual?
Judge. Relevance.
Mr. Freilich?
Well, I think it goes to his observations of my client, Your Honor.
Well, then you need to narrow down for a time frame for him. So I'm going to sustain the objection. Ask another question, Mr. Freilich.
Okay, sure. Mr. Gannon,
Yep.
in the week before you had contact with the police where you talked to the officer, had you saw Taylor Schabusiness in that period of time, is that fair?
Yes.
And when you saw her, was it just one time or was it several times?
It was only one time.
Okay, and that one time when you saw her, did you observe her to be acting in any kind of bizarre manner?
No.
Okay.
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you, sir. You can step down. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what is this, break time? Short break. Short break. All right, get up and stretch. We don't really get a break though. No breaks for us. Oh, get up and stretch, please. Oh my God, get some good stretches in. Drink some water. Use the bathroom. Yeah, I wonder if they're gonna get anyone else to testify that knows them. Or maybe she was normal. Just a troublemaker.
Truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
My name is Craig Pakala, C-R-A-I-G, P as in Paul, A-K-K-A-L-A.
All right, Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
Officer, how are you employed?
I'm a detective with the City of Green Bay Police Department.
And how long have you been employed in law enforcement?
Approximately 30 years.
And is the entirety of that time with the Green Bay Police Department?
No, it is not.
You have prior law enforcement experience in a different jurisdiction?
I missed his last name. What was it?
I was a police officer in the state of Michigan.
Okay. How long have you been with the Green Bay Police Department?
Approximately 24 years.
In your current assignment as a detective, how long has that been for?
Approximately 8 years.
And I want to ask you about February 23rd of 2022. Do you recall if you were working in that capacity on that date?
I was.
And were you called in to assist in an apparent homicide investigation on that day?
I was.
To where were you dispatched to, or where did you respond to?
My initial response was to the Green Bay Police Department at 307 South Adams in Green Bay.
And what did you do when you got to the police station?
When I arrived at the station, I was soon thereafter asked to respond to 2353 Eastman Avenue to assist officers who were on scene there.
What was the reason you were dispatched to the Eastman Avenue residence?
Shortly before my arrival at the Green Bay Police Department, and I was contacted at approximately 4:45 in the morning. Shortly before my arrival there, I was advised that they located the suspect involved in the incident and also a vehicle that she was driving at that address.
And when you got to the Eastman Avenue address, what did you do?
When I first arrived at the address, I made contact with two different supervisors, one of which was Sergeant Jeff Schilling, and the second one was Lieutenant Tom Buckman, at which time they informed me of the status of the scene.
When you arrived, had the area sort of already been secured by other officers?
Yes, it had.
And can you describe how it was secured?
Officers, prior to my arrival, they noted some red substance in the snow along a sidewalk trail, and that area had some cones by it, or they're soon about to put cones by it. The entrance door to the apartment complex itself, and then within the complex common hallway, they had evidence tape securing that area.
And were some
What,
officers
you don't want to
also
be alone
providing
with your business?
security or monitoring of the crime scene to see who was entering and leaving?
There were.
What did you do, I guess, after speaking with those initial supervisors who were on scene?
After I spoke to the officers and supervisors that were present, I determined that we would need a search warrant to proceed with the search of the interior of the apartment, which was apartment number 1. I took note of the description of the building and area to be searched, including the apartment. I also took some preliminary pictures of the exterior of the building, including the suspect vehicle and the entranceway to the apartment, which was number 1.
And I want to ask you about some of those pictures.
Apartment complex, as previously described, that is the north side of the apartment complex. The main entrance to the apartment, 2353, to the common area, is on the right side of the picture. That has some evidence tape in front of it. And that is a picture of 3 vehicles parked in a southbound direction. And I was informed that the middle vehicle, which is a van, was that in which the suspect arrived to the scene in.
And Exhibit 80, as you're looking at it, does that appear to fairly and accurately depict that area and those vehicles as you encountered them when you arrived on scene?
That is correct, it does.
Okay. And that's a photograph that you took as well?
I did.
Waiting for a warrant to authorize the search of the inside of the apartment, is that right?
That is correct.
Was one then obtained?
I did obtain a warrant.
Okay. And did you then participate in the search of that Eastman Avenue apartment?
I did.
And what apartment number was the subject of the
Stomach
search?
feels
Number
weird.
1.
All right. And, I guess was that reported to be the apartment where Mr. Business and Mr. Tomes were residing?
That is correct.
And I guess what was generally your role in searching the apartment?
My role in searching the apartment was to look to evidence or look in areas where evidence that were listed in the warrant may be found. I did receive information of the type of crime that was committed at a prior address, so I listed those items which would be used in that particular crime, and we searched the apartment for those type of items.
In the course of your occupation, have you received training in searching areas such as apartments for items of evidence?
I have.
And have you received training in collecting physical evidence such as DNA and blood and other substances?
I have.
And in the course of your 30 years in law enforcement, is that something you've done in the past?
Yes, I have.
In this case, when you were sort of searching the residence, were you wearing any special attire?
I was.
Can you describe what that was?
I believe I had on some protective wear on my feet, but I also wore rubber gloves at any time I handled or collected evidence, especially that containing DNA.
The steps you took were consistent with your training and experience?
Yes.
All right. So I want to then show you what's been marked.
On the east side of the hallway, the common entrance. As you walk in, there's a kitchen to your right, which is kind of an open kind of concept type kitchen. To your left is a bedroom, or I'm sorry, to your left is the living room. The living room has a window showing the parking lot, which was indicated in this picture. As you proceed east, there is a bedroom located on the furthest east side of the room in the north corner, and there's a bathroom to the right of that bedroom.
I'm going to show you exhibits 91 through 92.
Do we get to see it by chance?
Look through those. 2022 on Eastman Avenue?
Yes, they do.
I move those exhibits, Your Honor.
Any objection?
I guess not.
91 through 94 will be received. Any objection?
Are we looking at exhibit 91 projected?
Yes, you're looking at exhibit 91.
All right. And what does 91 depict?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, what does 91 depict?
91 depicts the
I'm actually curious though. Is anyone here from Wisconsin? Is that actually like still used?
bed located in the bedroom of
term?
apartment number 1 at 2353 Eastman Avenue.
Okay. And then
Kind of interesting what regions use different like slangs and stuff.
That depicts a cell phone that was on the bed at the time I took the picture.
And is that consistent with the area that you recovered that cell phone from?
It is.
For instance, it wasn't moved from its location to your knowledge prior to taking this photograph?
That is correct. It was not.
And then did you collect that cellular
Was it
device as part of
iPhone?
your evidence collection in this case?
Android?
Yes, I did.
I also then want to move then to 93.
As you walk into the
Oh, my! Wait, is that the light switch that they said that like looked like it was like blood on there? Why is the light switch so busted up like that? Jesus.
bedroom, would be to the left or to the north.
And it's the same bedroom, I guess the sole bedroom in that apartment that we looked at earlier?
That is correct.
All right.
Oh, the
And then,
sole bedroom. Wait, there's only one bedroom in that apartment. So maybe she doesn't share the apartment with the other person, or I don't know. Maybe he's on the couch.
Exhibit 94, what does this depict?
Exhibit 94 is a close-up of image 93 of the light switch, and I also have scale indicators on there showing the location where I took the picture.
Okay.
I collected a swab of a potential DNA sample of the red substance on that light switch.
And how did you collect that DNA sample?
I collected that by way of using a sterile swab in a prepackaged container, so to speak. For this particular swab, because it was dry, I added distilled water to the end of that cotton swab, and then I simply rubbed the swab on there, and then I packaged that swab and sealed it at the seam.
And the swab that you collected and the procedure you just described, is that how you're trained to do it?
I am.
Okay.
Submitted into our evidence department.
Is this exhibit 92?
It is.
You indicated that phone was collected by yourself, is that right?
That is correct.
When you enter an item of evidence such as this into evidence, I guess is it assigned a unique identifier of some kind?
Oh, are they going to go through her phone and like phone history?
When we enter an item of evidence, we create a number showing who collected it or who processed
Do we
it
get
into
search
evidence.
results?
Yes.
And
Did
was
she
that
Google
done
dumb
to your knowledge
shit?
for this phone?
Yes.
And do you recall what the number was offhand?
No, I won't be able to recall that.
Okay. Are there a lot of numbers that you're keeping in your head with respect to the exhibits you collected?
That is correct.
Would you have documented that or memorialized that in your details?
I would have,
Okay.
yes.
Would that assist you in refreshing your memory and what the exhibit number for that item is?
It would.
Nah, she probably doesn't use Google. She probably used Bing or something.
5 are my
Item
22-209 computer number that's associated to our reporting system. 004 is merely a item that I collected associated with my computer number, and that is just a sequential order. That's
Sorry, I'm just looking
Thank
for.
you, Detective Pacala. Good afternoon.
All right,
Good
those are the
afternoon.
evidence.
Sir, you
With pictures of.
were contacted by your Lieutenant Pagoon, on February 23rd of 2022 to come into the station. Is that correct?
All right, here we go.
Regarding
Cross-examination.
an apparent homicide, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the information that you received was that a mother discovered something in a bucket in her basement, correct?
That is correct.
There are different officers or investigators or detectives already involved, correct?
Yes, sir.
That being Detective Like, Detective Groff, Detective Kempf, correct?
That is correct.
And you gained information that someone by the name of Stephen Hendricks had called Brown County Dispatch at about 3:25 a.m. to report this. Is that fair?
That is fair.
And then while en route to the Green Bay Police Department, you heard other officers calling out with a need to possibly go to 2353 Eastman Avenue. Is that fair?
That is fair.
So when you got to the station, you were briefed by Lieutenant Bagoon, correct?
He was one of them, yes.
And were you told to go over to Eastman Avenue?
Yes, sir.
And so did you go there by yourself?
I did.
Okay, and you met up with other detectives, correct?
At the scene at that time, I was the only detective at the scene.
Okay. There are other officers there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Officer Garth Russell was there?
I don't recall Garth
He
Russell
is
being
writing
there.
a book about this.
Do you know who else was there?
The two that I made contact with were Sergeant Jeff Schilling and Lieutenant Buckman, Tom Buckman.
And what time did you get to the Eastman Avenue apartment complex?
I don't know the exact time, but it was after 4:45 and still in the hours of darkness during that day.
All right. And there's snow on the ground, correct?
There was.
It's cold outside, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you made your way up to the front door of the apartment complex, correct?
I did.
Had individuals already been arrested by the time you got there?
They had, yes.
Okay. All right. When you walked up, did you see crime scene tape at all?
I did see tape in the doorway entrance, yes.
Okay. Later, did you see crime scene tape around the Town and Country minivan?
I don't recall that.
Okay.
Does she look greasy? I can't tell.
All right.
She don't look greasy to me.
And then your plan was basically to go into apartment number 1 at this apartment complex to conduct a search, right?
That is correct.
And did you have a search warrant at the time?
I did.
Okay. And so then you walked into the unit?
No, I didn't have a
Following the
search
search
warrant
warrant,
at the time. Ooh, you
And,
got me.
The bedroom and
Case
living room
throw.
windows face the parking lot, is that correct?
The living room window for sure does face the parking lot. I'm uncertain on the bedroom window.
Were any individuals inside of apartment number 1?
No.
And so you walked around and started looking for things, correct?
I began my search, correct?
You searched the living
Kitchen
room and the
knives,
kitchen?
butter knives.
I
Bread
searched the bedroom area.
Okay. There's one bedroom there, correct?
Correct.
Maybe not a
In the bedroom
butter
area,
knife.
did you find any
Paring knife.
body
That's what
parts
it's
of human
called.
remains?
No, not outright, no.
Okay.
A
Did you
close
find
up?
anything
No.
of evidentiary value in that bedroom?
I believe I collected items of evidentiary value, yes.
What did you collect? A telephone?
I collected 2 cell phones.
Okay. Where were the cell phones?
Where are they now?
No, where were they?
Oh, one was depicted on the bed in one of the images, and the second one was in a purse.
Okay. Exhibit 91, that photograph depicts a bed, correct? Gray comforter on it, correct?
It does.
And there's a
Okay.
phone cord there.
Correct.
Okay.
There's some other device, I don't know if that's a fan or something else. Is that true?
Correct.
And then Exhibit 92 is just basically a close-up picture of the comforter, correct?
Correct.
Exhibit 93 is a light switch, correct?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And that light switch is on the wall in the bedroom of Unit 1 at 2353 Eastman Avenue?
That is correct.
That light switch is cracked, correct?
It is cracked.
And there's smear marks on it, correct?
Yes, I would describe those as smear marks.
You looked at those smear marks. Was that an issue for you? Like, as far as, were you concerned about what that was?
I was concerned due to the marks and the coloration. I felt it was a value for evidence to collect that, yes.
You could see the comb marks in her hair. Oh no.
And did you collect it then?
I did.
You had no contact with Taylor Schabusiness on this particular date, correct?
No, sir, I did not.
All the contact with Ms. Schabusiness was with Detective Groff and Detective Kempf, correct?
From the best of my knowledge, yes.
You never talked to her at all, correct?
No, sir.
You never saw anybody in the gold Town and Country minivan that was parked, correct?
No, sir.
You saw, that's true, right?
Yes, sir.
You never saw any people inside the van when you walked up or when you left, fair?
Fair, I did not.
And you never saw that gold Town and Country
I'm sorry. His questions are rough, man. I just not like nothing burger. All right, next witness.
What do you do as an evidence tech?
So
Evidence
our job
tech.
is to, once the officers package and seal the evidence, they hand it over to us, and our job is to keep it safe and
Elements of that.
And I think that just shows her period interest, that this is an intentional act, because she has interests that are outside the norm.
Oh, what happened? Oh no! Oh no! We went to the live. Oh shit! Oh no! Right here. Okay.
That capacity as an evidence tech?
about 6.5 years.
All right. In addition to maintaining custody of items, is it also the case that you're responsible for transmitting certain items to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
Yes.
And that's for, I guess, further testing by them?
Yes, yep. We send it out to the crime labs, and then the crime lab also mails it back to us. We receive the packages back.
And how is it that items are sent to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
They are either mailed, or in certain cases, we will drive them down and we do a physical hand drop off with the crime lab.
Is there any documentation that memorializes that transmittal?
Okay, so evidence tech. Is he the one that handled that evidence?
Selection in your review of this exhibit, are those items that you would have been transmitting to the crime lab?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And are you aware of how you transmitted those items to the crime lab?
I believe for this one, they were dropped off. We drove down, and the Madison lab has different rooms you can go in and handle
personally.
So,
So I just want to get straight to it.
light duty officer, sometimes it's my coworker Gene, depends on whose rooms where they're there with a little similar to it. Pick them up. Correct, yes.
Any issues at all with sending the materials down?
Oh, this is just like him just talking about how he received the evidence. Sorry, it's already in cross-examination.
Transmitted those items to the crime lab.
I believe for this one they were dropped off. We drove down, and the Madison lab has different rooms you can go in and like hand over evidence, and then they'll give you the receipt.
So it just shows like the chain of custody.
Drop them off.
So in this instance, you personally delivered them to
Yep,
the
we drove them down.
When you are transmitting items, in this instance personally, if there's an issue with transport, if there's a disruption of the evidence, is that somehow noted?
Yes.
And was that done in this case?
No, it was not.
So there's no belief in your part that any of the items were tampered with or manipulated in any way?
No.
Apart from the transmitting, I think you mentioned earlier one of your responsibilities is to I guess, oversee the storage of evidence in the police station itself. Is that right? And can you describe the Green Bay Police Department's evidence room for us?
So we have several rooms that are throughout the basement, and all the rooms are generally the same. They're all locked rooms. They have an alarm system, a keypad entry system, and then they have cameras and motion sensors. So there are only, I believe, 5 people inside the department, including myself, that have access to these rooms. It's a very tight control. Our belief is that the fewer people that can get in there, the more secure the evidence is.
So I guess is it the case that any member of the Green Bay Police Department can just go in the evidence room?
No.
Is that something that either yourself or your colleague would be present for or supervise?
Yes. If there's anybody outside of the 5 of us that wants to be in there, we have to escort them in the rooms, yes.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Cross-examination, Mr. Freeling.
Do I address you as Mr. Kalinsky or Evidence Kalinsky?
Mr. Stein.
Okay. So these items were transmitted down to Madison by who?
That would be, I believe, myself, and then there are normally 2 of us that go with. Sometimes it's a light-duty officer, sometimes it's my coworker Gene, depends on who's free at the time.
Okay. And then do you have to park and physically carry these items into the state crime lab, or how does that work?
Correct. There's a parking right across the street from the door. You walk inside, walk upstairs, and they go on these little...
Okay. He talks about chain of custody. Evidence hasn't been tampered. Next person.
Of 2022.
And so that's
Who is she?
Designated on the...
Oh, sorry. Hello. New person.
Okay, ma'am, just step right up over here. And then before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
Oh, this is going by so quick.
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter, now before the court, so help you God. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
She looks happy and chipper.
My name is Jean Rakers.
Okay, Mr. Saunders, the witness is yours.
How are you employed?
I am currently employed as an evidence technician with the Green Bay Police Department.
Oh, she's a
How long have you
technician.
been employed in that capacity?
For the past 4 years.
And, is one of your colleagues, Mr. Kalinsky, we just saw?
Yes.
All right. You work in the same role as him?
Yes, I do.
You have the same
And their
job
boss testified
responsibilities?
earlier.
All right. I want to ask you about Green Bay PD case number 22-209240. Is that a case that you remember being involved in?
Yes.
All right. And I want to show you what's previously been marked exhibits number 90. And it's used for.
It itemizes the evidence that is sent between agencies. So in this instance, these are items that were returned to the Green Bay Police Department from the State Crime Lab in Madison.
And does the form indicate which items were returned to your department?
Yes, it's the State Crime Lab assigns a letter to each piece of evidence that's designated on the form, and then our evidence exhibit number is also stated on the form.
Okay. And does the form indicate who would have been the person taking receipt of those items of evidence with the Green Bay Police Department?
Yes, my name is signed on the bottom, and I indicate that I received it on April 22nd of 2022.
And so it's your belief then in reviewing that document that you received those items of evidence?
Yes.
Okay. I move 95.
The objection, Mr. Freeling.
No. Ms. Rikers, you've been working for the Green Bay Police Department for 4 years as a evidence technician, correct?
That's correct.
And you work with evidence tech Nathan Kalinsky?
Yes.
You work in tandem, correct?
That's correct.
Your role in this particular case was to send items or receive items or both?
In this instance, I received the items that the Crime Lab sent. When they're delivered, I personally receive the box that they're delivered in, and I ensure that the seals are all intact. Then I open the box and verify that the items on the list on the transmittal are indeed the items I'm receiving back.
Okay.
And this exhibit number 90
Yes.
indicates that you received all of these items back on April 22nd of 2022, correct?
That's correct.
These items were sent from the State Crime Lab on April 21st of 2022 by Olivia Sassman.
Yes, the State Crime Lab in Madison.
Do you know why it took a day for you to get these items back?
Yes, that's generally the turnaround time. They're sent on one day, we receive them the next day. And again, the boxes that we received are sealed. We verify that the seals are intact before we open it and verify the contents of them.
Okay. Next witness.
Ma'am, if you want to just step up right over here, and before you have a seat, if you could turn and face her and raise your right hand, she'll place you under oath.
Shaghettios? I had Shaghettios the other day.
Kendall Danelski.
Okay, and then Mr. Jose, the witness is yours.
Ms. Danowski, can you state for the record how you are employed?
I'm a certified forensic computer examiner with the Green Bay Police Department.
And what is a certified computer forensic examiner?
I basically take
wait, do we get Google sources or anything like that? Oh.
all digital devices that come through the police department and
Oh, shit. Oh, no. Oh, God. It's muted. Why? Sorry.
Have you been employed in that capacity at the Green Bay Police Department?
almost 7 years.
Do you have any sort of educational background or training that is related to that position?
I do, yes. Training and certifications are very important for this position to keep up with the ever-changing technology. So a couple of the more valuable ones that I've had over the past couple of years, I'm certified through IASIS, which is the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists, as a certified forensic computer examiner and a certified mobile device examiner. I'm also certified through SANS as a GFCE, which is another crucial training and program that we have to go through. I'm also certified through Celebrate as a Celebrate certified mobile examiner, and I'm also certified
certified through Magnet as a Magnet certified forensic examiner. And lastly, I'm certified through ACE as so I get to use a set of software to perform.
Your typical practice that you will, can you?
We're just going through
Green Bay Police
credentials.
Department?
It increases every year, but roughly yes.
22. Typically, how many devices you analyze or how many devices you download in this case?
Here we go.
I would say 10 or more.
I like the shirt that she has on, actually.
And was one of the devices that you were asked to download a device that was attributed as belonging to Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes.
What's on there?
When you conduct a forensic download of a phone, do you use any paperwork to
Scooting
outline the
up
work
for
that you
this.
did with respect to that particular device?
I do, yes.
What is that called?
For every phone or computer that comes through my office, I create a cell phone or computer analysis worksheet.
Hi, Sarah.
Or where does that number come from?
That comes from evidence, so every case number is assigned to a case, and then the evidence within that case gets an exhibit or evidence number.
So when an officer collects,
I figured, Sarah.
Correct.
How's your day?
Then that is
You working the
piece of
night shift
evidence
today?
That was assigned to you for download.
It was, yes.
Does the cell phone analysis worksheet for that particular piece of evidence, does it outline the process that you used to conduct a forensic download?
It does, yes.
And could you describe for the jury what process you used in this case?
Yes, so for this particular phone, I put the phone in the correct settings for extraction, where it could communicate with my computer. From there, I hooked it up to the Celebrate 4 PC adapter, and then I use the Celebrate 4 PC extraction software to perform that extraction. Once that extraction completes successfully, I bring that into
No, she does not. No, she doesn't, Madison.
Celebrate Physical Analyzer, which is that software program that parses the data for me.
Are you able to determine when you do an extraction whether or not the extraction was successful?
I am, yes.
I don't see it.
I can compare the data on the phone after the extraction completes successfully to verify that the data on the phone is matching the data
She's got like surfer girl vibes, I feel like.
in the extraction, and also the program will show that the extraction completed successfully, or it would indicate if it did fail.
So for this particular device, in addition to doing the extraction and looking at the information on the extraction, are you able to manually manipulate the phone itself?
Yes.
So that's how you're able to confirm that the data is consistent on the device and on the extraction?
Correct. That is always done after an extraction to make sure not to manipulate any data before an extraction.
In addition to conducting the extraction, did you do after the extraction was done, did you do additional manipulation of the device itself to obtain any evidence from the device?
Yes, after that extraction completed successfully, I manually navigated the phone and took additional screen captures using that same set of software.
And what is the purpose of doing those screen captures?
With certain types of extractions, some applications or data might
She
not always
surfs
be
the
extracted
web.
or parsed
Oh,
correctly.
God.
For example, Google Photos might not always be extracted or parsed with that type of extraction I was able to.
Oh my God, please don't tell me. They just brought Google Photos. Did she take pictures?
So then I go in after that extraction
Business.
completed successfully and manually navigate the phone and then take screenshots of those certain applications that were not included in the original extraction.
And for this particular device, did you then conduct a closer analysis of the content of the extraction, or was that tasked to another person?
I went through and verified that the data was parsed correctly and that everything that officers and detectives might need were captured with the screen captures, but after that, that data was passed on to
Can you guys hear okay?
You know specifically which detective was tasked with viewing the report from the extraction of this device?
Detective Luberta.
And you mentioned that certain data may not be captured by the extraction. Can you explain why that might be the case?
So certain types of extractions can extract different things. So there's different levels of extractions. For this one, I was able to get a full file system, which will capture a lot of application data, but it isn't a full physical like Facebook Messenger chats. So I went through and captured screenshots of those.
Oh, Facebook Messenger.
In addition to capturing screenshots, did you advise Detective Luberta in any way about some things that she could do to obtain additional data that's relevant to that device?
I did, yes. So when manually going through a phone, the phone stays in airplane mode. So that means I'm not connecting to the network and no incoming text messages are coming in, no incoming chats, things like that.
Oh my God, I don't know why the audio's going in and out, so I keep adjusting it. So just bear with me. I'm trying to fix it because their audio is like going in and out.
I'm not connecting to the network or internet. So I can only sometimes see a limited amount of data when I'm manually navigating. So I can always tell them, like for instance, Google Photos, I can only get to a certain date without being connected to the network. So then I would say maybe it would be a good idea to get a Google search warrant for that additional data that I might not be able to see.
Physically on the device?
It does, yes.
All right, let's see what
And
they
then from
find.
there on,
Into the UFED reader program?
it would be accurate, yes.
Off of a cell phone?
Correct.
It's 97.
Oh, do they wait? Oh, is she just the one that? Wait, wouldn't? Do they not talk about? So they talk about extracting Facebook Messenger, Google Photos, but are they not going to show
In the
it?
regular course of your duties?
Yes.
And were you comfortable that when you took the data from Google and put it into that format that everything performed correctly in this instance?
Yes.
And again, did you do the analysis then once it was placed into that more readable format, or is that something tasked to Detective Luberta as well?
Passed on to Detective Luberta.
Device tell you what date that particular photographs, for example, are taken? Or is that information always accurate when you put it into the UFED reader program?
It would be accurate, yes.
Are there instances in which you manipulating the device or taking it off on that date, the date that you manipulate the phone would also capture?
It could update some dates and times, yes.
No further questions at this time.
Cross-examination, Mr. Fairley.
Thank you. Ms. Danelski, good afternoon.
Hello.
So your role was basically to extract data off of a cell phone?
Correct.
Do you know who the cell phone belonged to?
This particular cell phone belonged to Taylor Schabusiness.
And you only looked at and examined one phone, correct?
I extracted multiple phones, but I didn't go through every single extraction.
Oh, who else's phone?
Your testimony and Exhibit 91 deal with this phone that you're talking about belonging to Taylor Schabusiness, correct?
I believe this is Exhibit 97 or 91.
It's 97.
97.
97, okay. So basically, you were looking to extract data off that phone for you to turn over to Detective Jenna Liberta, correct?
Yes.
Oh, is Detective Liberta going to go over it? I don't think they've
You
testified
were
yet.
looking for searches, correct?
A magnitude of things, cell records, call logs.
Okay, let me just ask. I just want to ask.
Sorry to hear
We're
about
looking
that.
for searches, like what this person was looking for on the cell phone.
That would be included, yes.
Okay, and then you were looking for photos, correct?
Correct.
You were looking for iCloud photos, correct?
Well, in airplane mode, correct.
Okay, and then you were looking to see a Jeep.
Oh, I can't wait to see that come in. Okay, so who's going to testify about that one? Maybe her? Oh, wait. Okay, here's a close-up. It doesn't... Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look greasy to me. If anything, her looks kind of dry. Bye, Tam. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Is it your internet?
You solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter now before the court, so help you God. I do. Please have a seat and state your name for the record.
Jenna Liberta, Luberda.
Mr. Lozada, the witness is yours.
Good afternoon, Ms. Liberta.
Good afternoon.
Are you currently employed in law enforcement at the present time?
I am not.
And had you previously been a law enforcement officer?
I was, yes.
The decision to no longer be in law enforcement, is that a voluntary decision on your part?
It was.
And talk to me about your previous law enforcement experience.
Sure. I started as a dispatcher, actually, in 2007. In 2011, I was sworn in as a police officer at the Green Bay Police Department, where I served for 12 years.
And what roles did you have with the Green Bay Police Department?
I started as patrol officer, was there for 7 years, and then I moved to the detective division for almost 5 years, just shy, and then I left as a lieutenant on the afternoon shift patrol.
Were you working as a...
There's no way you can go like to the police academy and just go straight to detective, right? Like solving cases. You actually have to like do like police, and then like if you're good enough, you go to the detective.
investigator with the Green Bay Police Department in February of 2020?
Because what if you want to solve crimes without doing the patrolling shit? No.
Yes.
And as a detective with the Green Bay Police Department in February 23rd of 2022, did you assist in a homicide investigation involving the decedent Shad Therian?
Yes.
What was your initial role in that investigation?
My initial role was to go to the place where the suspect in this case was apprehended, and there was a van involved, and basically take ownership of the van and everything that happened with the van.
I wonder what
And
after
the
you should
location,
quit.
was that on Eastman Avenue?
Yes.
And when you arrived, did you ultimately go to that scene on Eastman Avenue?
I did.
And when you arrived, what did you observe?
I observed several other officers there. I observed the van in question, and that was pretty much it. It was pretty much just calm by the time I got there. It was just the van and other patrol officers.
And what did you do to conduct further analysis or investigation relative to that van?
I received information that the van was involved prior to me getting there, so I knew that there may be potential evidence in the van and that we needed to secure that evidence. So I returned to the police department to write a search warrant.
Did you ultimately obtain a search warrant for the
I
van?
did, yes.
You know who the registered owner of the van was?
Yes.
Who was that?
Scott Thome.
THOMS?
Correct.
And once you got the warrant for the van, what did you do?
Once I got the warrant for the van, I returned to the Eastman address and I called the city contracted wrecker or towing company, and then we towed the van to our evidence storage unit on Broadway Street in the city of Green Bay.
Did either you or another member of the Green Bay Police Department follow the towing company as it brought the van to the storage facility?
Yes, myself and Detective Bray.
When you arrived at the Green Bay storage facility, what did you do?
We put the van into the secured area of the storage or the evidence unit, and we left.
And what, did you return at some point in time to that van?
Yes, around 3:30 in the afternoon.
Why was there the delay between dropping the van off and then returning later?
Yeah, we knew that there were potential body parts in the van, and the forensic pathologist was currently at the home, and we wanted to wait for him to go into the van.
So then when you returned about 3:30 in the afternoon, did you have contact with the forensic pathologist?
Yes.
And what happened at that point?
At that point, our forensic unit
Man, I would not eat that egg. That sounds so nasty.
started taking pictures and swabs of the outside of the van, and then we opened up the hatch or the back of the van, and the forensic pathologist took some items out of the van. We didn't discover anything in the back, but then we went to a box behind the driver's seat where he located body parts.
And who was taking the lead in terms of actually removing items from the van and then having contact with the human remains?
The forensic pathologist, Vincent Tranquita.
What was your role on that scene at that time?
I was observing.
And the forensic unit was present and photographing?
The forensic unit was processing the van, yes.
Once the forensic unit and the forensic pathologist had an opportunity to complete their search of the van, what did you do?
I talked with the doctor, and he told me that he believed that all
I object, that's hearsay.
I wasn't asking specifically for what anyone told you. What did you do with the van afterwards?
The question's withdrawn. Go ahead and ask your next question, Mr. Lozada.
The forensic unit finished processing the van and we left.
In addition to processing the van on the scene, did you subsequently have a further role with respect to this investigation?
I did.
And what was that?
I looked through one of the cell phones that was located at the Eastman Avenue address, I believe that belonged to Taylor Schabusiness.
Now, when you say you looked through the cell phone, did you look through the device itself?
I did not.
What did you review?
Our computer forensics person who was in here just before me downloaded the phone to what's called a UDRF file, and then we're able to view the contents of the phone that way.
And is using that type of what they call it, a UFED report, is that something that you review regularly in the course of your duties as a detective with the Green Bay Police Department?
Almost every day.
So you're familiar with reviewing those reports and then locating the information that might be of interest in an investigation?
Yes.
And is that what you were asked to do with respect to a phone that was believed to belong to Taylor Schabusiness?
Yes.
What sorts of things were you looking for when you reviewed the extraction of that device using the computer forensic program?
I was looking for search history on the internet. I was looking for photographs. I was looking for phone calls, text messages, messaging application chats, things of that nature.
Did you notice anything of evidentiary value?
There was some search history that I found interesting, like internet searches that I found interesting, yes.
And what was that?
There were searches, things of like...
Your Honor, I would object. Relevancy. I mean, searches on the phone. People search, research, look at all kinds of different things. I would argue that some of these things, I believe, could be inflammatory and more prejudicial than probative.
I'll overrule the objection. You can go ahead and answer the question.
things such as flaming pentagram, Jeffrey Dahmer, things like that. KKK, I believe, is one of them.
And Detective, did you note the dates and times of the respective searches that you believe are relevant?
It was around the time of the homicide.
In the days shortly before?
In the days shortly before, yes.
And do you recall when you reviewed that, did you prepare a report regarding your observations?
I did.
If you were able to review your report, might that refresh your recollection as to the specific searches and the dates and times of those searches?
It would.
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 98. Can you review that document?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to Exhibit 98.
Okay, I know. I was listening on my phone. Wait, so she searched KKK
details,
Jeffrey
2
Dahmer on the
pages.
day of the murder?
But there are dates going back to December 12th of 2022, and we're talking about an alleged incident on
What was the other thing? There was one thing that she mentioned that I missed. Was it skinning or something?
2/22 or 2/23 of 2022. So I've got an issue with that. I'm also going to reserve a motion outside the presence of the jury.
Okay, well, I think all she's been asked is to review the report, so I don't know yet what she's going to be testifying to. So I'll reserve ruling on your objection, Mr. Freilich, but I'll turn back to the state. Go ahead, Mr. Jose.
Your Honor, I want to say that another objection would be on grounds of relevancy. So, thank you.
I'm going to reserve those objections.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead.
And Ms. Luberta, does reviewing that report refresh your recollection as to the nature of some of the searches that you observed?
Well, what was the context of it? Was it just like KKK Jeffrey Dahmer? Like, did she actually write more words into it?
On the extraction from Ms. Schabusiness's phone?
Yes.
And specifically as it relates to February 12th of 2022 and February 13th of 2022, did you note anything, was there anything noteworthy with respect to searches?
Objection relevancy to that question?
Overruled. Go ahead and answer if you can.
Yes, she searched Jeffrey Dahmer. And then she searched cadaver definition, Jeff Boyardee, blow-up doll customized face.
What?
In particular, Jeffrey Dahmer, did you note that there were several searches that were related to Dahmer?
Objection relevancy.
Overruled. Go ahead and
Who's Jeff Boyardee?
Can you repeat your question?
Were there several searches related to Jeffrey Dahmer and other items on the device that were consistent with Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes.
What other...
Oh, wait. Chef Boyardee is Jeff Boyardee? Did she meant to do Jeffrey Dahmer? And she wait, why did she look up Jeff Boyardee? What?
Portions of the extraction also showed an interest in Jeffrey Dahmer.
Objection relevancy.
Overruled.
She wanted
There
some
was
SpaghettiOs or something?
I wrote another search warrant for her Gmail account, the Google account, a bigger search that you can do to get more information stored on the cloud. And in that extraction of that information, there were more references to Jeffrey Dahmer and searches for Jeffrey Dahmer pictures.
Jesus.
things of that nature.
On the device itself, did you also locate
Well, that explains a bit.
photographs of Jeffrey Dahmer?
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Yes.
Do you know what a device screenshot is?
Yeah, yes.
What does that term generally mean?
A screenshot.
Oh, never mind. Jeff Boyd is someone else.
Screen, basically, a
Just
copy of the
kidding.
screen.
And do you know if there were screenshots that were prepared in this case by analyst Danelski for purpose of?
You know, I actually did see that on a YouTube thumbnail that she had an obsession with Jeffrey Dahmer. I don't remember what YouTube channel covered that, though. But I saw it on the thumbnail.
Your analysis?
Yes.
And did you review those screenshots as well?
I did.
And in reviewing those screenshots, were there also several mentions of Dahmer and Dahmer-related interests?
Yes.
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
Yes, there were.
Was this just a one-off, one or two photos, or were there several photographs?
Same objection, relevancy.
Overruled.
There were several.
Now, you mentioned that you subsequently did a search for information, a search warrant for information from Google. Can you talk about the process you utilized to do that?
Yes, so from the device itself, we could find out how many Gmail accounts that she had, and there was a total of 5. So from those 5 Gmail accounts, we can write a warrant to Google for more information that's not technically stored on the phone, but in cloud.
And did you draft such a warrant?
Yes, I did.
And ultimately, did you obtain a warrant from the court for that search?
Yes, I did.
Did Google subsequently respond to your warrant and provide information from those Gmail accounts?
Yes.
And what happened then when you received the information from Google?
I was able to, so Google provides it in a way that's hard to figure out. So Analyst Danelski is able to put it into the same computer program to allow us to look at that information.
And once you then reviewed the information in the program, do you know the name of the program?
It's the same one that you have.
The Cellbrite that you fed reader?
Cellbrite, yes.
Okay. When you reviewed the information in Cellbrite, were you able to find similar information regarding an interest in
I want to know what her usernames are.
Jeffrey Dahmer on the Google search?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled.
Yes.
Do you know, does Cellbrite give you the opportunity to parse out certain relevant things and generate a report that only includes certain items that are of interest to the person creating the report?
Yes.
Are you familiar with those reports from Cellbrite that allow you to do that?
Yes, I am.
Do not communicate with anyone about this trial or your experience as a juror
Oh!
while you were a student.
All right, jury's leaving.
People watch that trial on TV with Attorney Boyle and Attorney Wendy Patrikas in Milwaukee County. The state is trying to link my client with Jeffrey Dahmer by offering these exhibits. Additionally, the other Cellbrite exhibits that Mr. Lissay wishes to produce and proffer to the court as an exhibit are, could I see those please again? They contain references to Satanic Bible, Flaming Pentagram, Satan, Jeff Boyardee.
She does look up Jeff Boyardee.
Jeffrey Dahmer, cadaver definition, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt, Jeffrey Dahmer walking in all sexy in court.
What?
Rare Jeffrey Dahmer GIF, GIF, and things of that sort. And some of these items, search items,
laugh.
date from 2/19 of 2022, going back to 2/6 of 2022. And I would argue that although 2019 of 2022 is fairly close in time to the alleged incident, the other ones are not. But I would argue that this information is highly prejudicial, and any probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice. I believe, and I would argue on behalf of my client, that if this information comes in, she's going to be painted in the worst light possible with probably, maybe, the worst killer in human history. And
I mean, she was already painted in the worst light possible. The Jeffrey Dahmer thing is just like a bonus, but honestly, it was already bad.
I don't believe that is fair, but the court has to make that call. But I'm just making the arguments on her behalf. I don't think it's necessarily relevant. There's other information here that the state can rely on, but they do not need to go down this road. This is going to be a trial within a trial. It's going to create a sideshow. This is not the Jeffrey Dahmer case. It is not. This is different. The other Cellbrite extraction report also contains various pictures of what is reported to be Jeffrey Dahmer. And it seems like there are 27 data files here. Some of them my client. They're little thumbnail pictures here. But if the jury sees this, I have a concern that they're going to immediately think that my client is in that category, just like him. I don't know, but it's
too late.
I think it's unduly
She's already pretty
prejudicial.
bad.
I think it's unfair, and I would ask that the court consider these arguments on her behalf, that this information not come in. I don't believe it's necessarily relevant. People do searches on the internet all the time. People do dumb things. They search for weird things. They search for odd things. But I don't see how
But the context is this was searched the day of the murders, right?
this is even relevant to what
The
we're
days
talking
of-
about
the
in this
days of the
particular
murder?
case. And I'd argue that the court at least consider an oral motion from me for a mistrial, because the state is going into this issue of Jeffrey Dahmer, going down this road to try and paint her in the worst light possible and create a sideshow. So I'd ask that you consider a motion for mistrial because this information has already come in. Thank you very much.
Denied.
Your Honor, I think the information is relevant. The state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Schabusiness intended to engage in this conduct, that she intended to kill Chad Therian, that she intended to dismember his body. Her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer is relevant to this case. She, I assume, is going to argue either that she didn't intend to do this, or certainly is going to argue in the second phase of the trial that she had some sort of mental illness that caused her to do this.
Mhm.
The state's position clearly is that no, she did this because she wanted to do this. This is something that interests her. Frankly, we haven't seen her interview yet, but I anticipate that her interview is going to be consistent with that this is something that interested her, that she liked what she did in this case. And her interest in Jeffrey Dahmer and the things that he did and the awful things that Attorney Freilich talked about, her interest in him is relevant to that point. It suggests that she had an interest in these things. It is not something that was done solely because of the methamphetamine, or that was done as an accident,
Chip,
or was
where are
some
these
sort of
stocks
reckless
dropping?
behavior, or that was the result of a mental illness. It's the state's position that she did so because she was interested in that, and for that reason, these things are highly relevant.
I haven't seen the photo. Can I see the photo?
You got it.
Wait, it's a picture. It's like a selfie of her with like what?
Your Honor, I would ask that you consider taking a look at the two Celebrate documents as well, because they've got thumbnail photos on them.
So we'll mark all of these so we know what we're speaking of. Any particular preference as to order?
Yes, this one first.
Okay. Cellbrite report, that'll be 100. Is that a different way of saying motive?
I think it is. I mean, I do think that it is motive evidence, because it's suggestive of the fact that once she went down this road, that she enjoyed this, and that she did this for her own pleasure and out of her own curiosity and interest. Which, again, I think we haven't seen the interview yet, but there are several statements within the interview that are consistent with that.
How are they going to show the interview?
And I would note the court has seen the video. The court has had the benefit of seeing the interview. It has not been presented to the jury.
I believe my client told Detective Groff that Mr. Chad Therian and her were buddies.
So?
Okay, how does that go to what I'm looking at here? I agree with you. I think she did tell him that. I recall her saying that. How does that go to this, though, Mr. Freilich?
Well, the state is trying to talk about intent to kill, and that she wanted to do this and all of that. I'm letting the court know that these two people were friends. They're buddies.
So? She still killed him. She beheaded him.
So I'm having a little bit of a difficult time. I'm looking at Exhibit 99. That one seems pretty straightforward as far as timestamps, because there's a column for timestamps. And I can see what appears to be dates of searches. Exhibit 100, it may be on here, but I'm not laying my hands on it. The only date I'm seeing would appear to be the extraction date, although I don't know that. They're all dated March 8 of 2022, which is after this event. So I guess I'm concerned that I'm
I
not
feel like
reading
he's not going to. Has anyone watched the end of this? I feel like he's not going to decide today.
this correctly.
Is he
I want to make
just
sure
like,
that I
tomorrow?
address all the issues that Mr. Freilich has brought up, including timing. If we're talking about something that, for example, one of the events that I noticed on here appears to...
I just want to get to the decision.
What date these items were downloaded, what dates they really pertain to.
And then, Mr. Lizet, when I look at Exhibit 99, I'm looking at various what I'll call searches. And when I look at page 2 of 99, the Jeffrey Dahmer references seem to commence at item 14. Above that, there's references to other things. I'm particularly interested in your assertion as to relevance of searches about Satanic Bible online. I see that specific search once. The next, that's number item 1. Item 2 is Satanic Bible. It's a different search, but it's similar. Item 3, Flaming Pentagram. Where's the relevance of that?
And I think that just shows her pure interest, that this is an intentional act, because she has interests that are outside the norm that would suggest this type of conduct.
That's completely speculative, Your Honor. I mean, people have a right under the Constitution, First Amendment, to look at things. I just don't see the relevance here for that.
The most relevant, I think the cadaver definition search was also somewhat relevant. I mean, it shows her interest in shows an interest in death and corpses, which part of the mutilation of this body, the defleshing and the things that happened to Shad after he died, I think are consistent with that highly unusual interest in things like death and cadavers and things that Jeffrey Dahmer did.
Well, here's what I'm going to rule. First of all, I do think that searches. First of all, it's been referenced by counsel that obviously Jeffrey Dahmer is a unusual figure in the history of the state, and certainly the acts perpetrated by him were difficult for the community to comprehend, and he's again a very unusual figure, and I think the public has a general sense of what that individual was about because he received a great deal of publicity. I'm looking here and I see from looking at these reports there was a great deal of interest demonstrated in that, and I think that's relevant. I do.
Okay.
And so I'm satisfied that regarding the references to him that that's appropriate testimony.
Okay.
I'm not as satisfied as to some of these other items. I see
I think the Dahmer thing is the most important one to let in. The rest, meh, who cares?
2 searches for Satanic Bible references. Looks like 3 for Satan. Looks like 2 perhaps for pentagram, and I'm not necessarily satisfied that those particular searches relate to anything particular in this case, other than to make someone look bad. And that's not what this case is to be about. So I'm satisfied that regarding Exhibit 99, those references aren't relevant. What can you tell me, Mr. Lizzie, about the Jeff Boyardee?
That's actually a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on a can, so it's sort of a meme that involves Jeffrey Dahmer. I think the picture is actually in the other exhibit. It's probably very small.
Jeffrey Dahmer on a can?
Brief word here on witness regarding timeframes, because I want to make sure that there's a relevant time frame for this testimony. So I'm going to permit the limited testimony that I've indicated. I'm going to allow then exhibits 99, 100, and I'm going to allow 101 as well. I think it's relevant.
The question is he going to allow Jeffrey Dahmer's butt?
To this case as well. I have not delved as deeply into 100, but the ruling is going to be the same. It looks like photographs. Mr. Lizzie referenced earlier that he believes the reference to Jeff Boyardee, maybe the photos may be in the other exhibit, that is, the references in 99 may have the photos in 100. And I believe I see that at item 8 on 100.
If I recall correctly, I think all of the photos in that exhibit in 99 or 100 that has the photos, I think all the photos are Dahmer related.
All right. I'm going to allow those references in.
All right, Dahmer's butt coming in.
I see item 15 there. I don't know what that's. I can't read it. It looks like some sort of text on page 3 of Exhibit 100. But I'll reserve ruling particularly on that. And when I say ruling on it, I'm authorizing these exhibits to be testified to the extent that I've already authorized, and not any further than that. The only real issue is, what will be redacted if this for some reason goes to the jury, and what the witness will be allowed to testify about. For example, when I reference item 15 and 100, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to want to know what that is before she's permitted to testify about it. So that's the ruling. But Mr. Freelich, you had something else you wanted to add. Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to clarify and make sure I understand, Your Honor, that the meme, it's a meme. It says Jeff Boyardee. I looked at it. Are you saying that can come in? I would argue and ask the court to reconsider not allowing that in because it's a meme. There's all kinds of memes out there, and it really doesn't mean anything.
Oh, I get it now. Jeff Boyardee. It's like Jeffrey Dahmer made Jeff Boyardee, but with like probably human remains or something. Okay, I've never seen that meme before.
Well, except that if it's a Jeffrey Dahmer meme, I think it comes under the ruling that I made. So, and that's I observe that in item 8 on Exhibit 100. I see that meme. But
yeah, I didn't get it at first. I thought she was fucking hungry or something, looking up some SpaghettiOs, and she was just hungry.
Here's what I'll indicate, Mr. Freelich. There's going to be a brief voir dire of this witness tomorrow morning, and I'll give you a chance to ask about that.
Okay, Your Honor.
And then
she was after the recipe.
At this time, I'm ruling that those are coming in, but I'll hear from you after the voir dire portion.
Okay, Your Honor, and I totally respect the court's ruling and all of that, but I'd like to make another motion, and that would be that I think it's Exhibit 101 with the picture of my client and the phone, with a picture of Jeffrey Dahmer on the phone. Would the court consider
let that in?
Including that on grounds that it's really duplicitous. If the Celebrite, text references of Jeffrey Dahmer are going to come in, then why do we need to have that picture of her with?
Because she took a picture with it and she's fucking sick.
The phone, because it's a phone. It's just a picture of him on a phone.
It's just a picture of him. No, there's
understand
context
all
in
of
this.
these arguments, but I would argue that picture, the actual
Let
picture,
it in.
not
Let
necessarily
it
relevant, and it
in.
would be duplicitous. I think the jury would get it, if the other stuff comes in.
No, let it in.
Mr. Lizzie, any response to that?
Your Honor, I think for the same reasons that the court noted earlier regarding photographs, I think sometimes photographs are just a more powerful way of being able to view that than simply a description. And particularly seeing the smile on Ms. Schabusiness' face as she's next to Jeffrey Dahmer, I think is relevant and admissible. And I'm not offering to publish all of the other photographs that are specifically listed in there. We selected one photograph to be able to publish, essentially.
First of all, I see that I believe that Exhibit 101 is different than Exhibits 99 and 100 for this reason. 99 and 100 demonstrate searches, an interest in getting information about and learning more about and spending some of your time thinking about a particular individual. Exhibit 101 communicates something different, and I'm satisfied that it's an appropriate exhibit to receive into evidence for the reasons that have been set out here. I think demonstrating that interest in this individual, nothing else. It demonstrates the interest that she had in this kind of behavior. But in addition, I think, and I referenced it earlier.
Wait, the victim Shad Therian kind of looks like the actor that played Jeffrey Dahmer in Netflix. Sort of.
Used, I think that is a motive concept, and for those reasons, I'm going to admit that.
I mean, at least in this one picture with the cabinets behind him.
And what I want to do
Who's
is
the actor that
I'd
played
like
Jeffrey Dahmer in
ask the
Netflix
state
again?
to see if you can get that witness here by 8:15, so we can start that voir dire process.
Oh yeah,
before the
Evan
jury comes in,
Peters. Is his name right?
If I understand how things work, we'll probably run past 8:30 with that, and the jury will be waiting for us. So we can get that witness here by 8:15 to start that process.
Evan Peters.
Okay, so I ruled on those issues, and you can agree or disagree with them, but those are the rulings I made. Anything else for the record this evening, Mr. Saunders?
Maybe just like this picture right here.
Mr. Frail, anything else for this evening?
Your Honor, I'd ask respectfully if the state could give me a
Right?
copy of Exhibits 99, 100,
Am I
and 101,
stretching?
and then I'd like a copy of the exhibit that's going to be presented to the court with the
Maybe she watched the Netflix special and she was like, "Oh my God, Shad looks like Evan Peters." Was living on her
Redactions.
fantasy.
So as far as
I don't
redactions
fucking
go,
know.
I think my ruling, I'm not going to take pen in hand this evening and make those redactions. What I can tell you is, Mr. Lizet, were you intending on publishing 99 100 to the jury in their entirety? No. Okay. So the redactions will occur if it goes to the jury. It's not going to be published to the jury, so I don't think we need to take pen in hand. They're not going to be testified about at all. But so the redactions, I'm ordering that these exhibits can only be testified to the extent that I haven't prohibited the references that I made, and that's specifically on page 1 of Exhibit 99, items 1 through 9. So again, I'm not going to take a black marker. So when you ask for a redacted version, you're not going to get it. If it comes to the jury requesting for it, and then we argue whether they should get it at all, if I order that it goes to the jury, then that would be redacted and there would be the use of a black pen. Mr. Fraley.
I understand. Your Honor.
Yes.
I did reserve that motion. I'd make a motion for mistrial because the state went
I like this judge. He's on time. He's clear.
off on this
Concise,
tangent sideshow of
straight to
Jeffrey
the
Dahmer.
point.
I ask you to consider that.
If it's relevant and
He's got a
admissible
nice
information, I
tie.
hardly see it as a basis
Oh,
for
it's like a
mistrial.
Picasso tie
I'm
or something.
satisfied. So, Mr. Fralick, I appreciate the motion. I'm satisfied that the ruling that I made today, first of all, I'm satisfied that the exhibits that I'm receiving are relevant. And so I'm not going to grant a mistrial based upon that because I've received them as relevant. Short of that, nothing else has been testified to. So I ordered that some of these items in here I don't believe are relevant. And I believe to bring them in, for example, searches for Satanic Bible online, I think those are more prejudicial than probative, those references. And so I've indicated I'm going to exclude those references. And so they haven't been testified to about yet. So
Oh yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer is also Wisconsin, Milwaukee.
mistrial on those grounds because no one's referenced them yet. Other than there was one reference made.
That's what I
will
was
note that
thinking,
there was
Jen.
one reference briefly made to that, but it was in a very offhanded summary kind of a fashion. The point is, I don't want any further references made to how many searches there that occurred for those types of pentagram, Satanic Bible, anything of that nature, Satan. There's no more need to go into that. There was a brief
Okay.
reference made to it. I'm satisfied that is the ground for a mistrial in this case, but I'm not going to let further inquiry be made regarding that. So, Mr. Fralick, your motion is denied, but it's duly noted.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good. Then with that, we are concluded for the evening. We'll see you at 8:15 tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. That's the end of the court day. Oh, he's whispering something I can't hear. All right, guys, that's the end of day 2 for Taylor Schabusiness. I think my dog kicked my camera again. All right, so we had a lot of police officer testimony, the ones that arrested her, the ones that got the evidence collected, the ones that took her phone, processed it, got the internet searches. She had some internet searches for Jeff Boyer-ID, which is a meme that we learned today. Jeffrey Dahmer walking sexy in court, Jeffrey Dahmer's butt. Yeah, she's just really fucking sick. What else was there? Medical examiner went up and had a body diagram to go over the extensive injuries, wounds, everything about Shad. There was a body cam when she was arrested. But that's day 2 for Taylor Schabusiness. Day 2. He had a lot of female fans who sent him explicit pictures and money in prison. He used to write back for it, trade pictures with other inmates. Jesus. I don't know. People are fucking weird. I think some people just have rescue syndrome where they're like, oh my God, poor this person. Society's hating on you. It's okay. I'll be the one that rescues you, because they think they have no one else. And so they want to be the only person that's like important in their lives. I don't know. They probably just need some therapy. All right, y'all. Thank you for hanging out. We had, 4 hours of, 4 hours today. Not bad. We'll be back again maybe tomorrow. We'll see. Usually what I'll do is I'll watch the trial and then I'll try to timestamp anything that's important and then we'll watch it together. But other than that, thanks for hanging out here. I don't know what else to say. It's a dark case. Dark case, sick person. It's a chef, so the meme like at least shows body parts in the food. Yeah. I didn't understand what it meant initially. I thought she was just trying to lick up spaghetti. Oh, look, this is baby Steve. Oh, this is Steve when he was a baby. Okay, sorry. I have to go to the vet now. I gotta go to the vet where Steve passed away at, and then we gotta settle our bill with them. So thanks for hanging out here. It was nice chatting with you guys. If you're new here, feel free to join the Discord, just a hangout spot. We have a true crime channel. We want to talk about true crime stuff or post new case or updates in there. Feel free to join. But other than that, I have other social media stuff as well. I have Instagram. What else is there? I don't know, Instagram, Twitch, all the same moniker. So thanks for hanging out. I know I miss Stevie so much. He's going to turn 11 and, well, he was supposed to turn 11 next week. Oh, my poor Bubby. He should have lived way longer. Someone yesterday speculated in the comment if she was into black magic. Good instinct. Oh, I missed that comment. See a Nacho. Wait, Nacho, I don't see a message. I just see like, I think it like fucked up on your name or something. I don't know. Yeah. Steve says thank you. Yeah, I missed a little guy. You know, I got Cheryl here. Cheryl's just hanging out and stuff. But yeah, I appreciate your guys' thoughts and everything, as always. Have a great one. Take care. Go outside, stretch, you know, get some fresh breath air. You know, don't have your mind clouded in the macabre all the time. And go out and do something fun. Hang out with a family member. Give your fur babies, your pets, all the love, because you never know what's going to happen. I think what really mind fucked us was like, I was streaming the day that he was finishing up surgery. She said it was going to be fine. And they called us when I was like streaming Final Fantasy. And she's like, oh, you know, Steve's been out of surgery. We didn't call you guys right away because he's fine. He's been good. He's stable. And, you know, we're going to feed him in a couple hours. We're going to walk him. We're going to discharge him in 2 days, take him, you know, give a cone. He'll be back in a week to do his checkup, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, oh, okay, Steve's good. Cool. Cause like, you know, she said the surgery was like, it was like a very like low risk surgery or something. But, and then she called us back like 10 minutes later. It was like, well, your dog's like dying. We don't know what happened. It's like, I don't know. I think that like mind fuck of that was like, that was really hard to deal with. Ugh. Anyways, yeah, I miss Stevie. Stevie's giving you all the doggy kiss from the afterlife. Yeah, if you guys have any pets that passed away, you know, tell them to take care of Stevie. I'll tell Steve to not be so bossy and share his toys, you know, because he likes to boss dogs around and stuff like that. Yeah, so yeah, give your pets all the love. You never know. And your family members and your loved ones and your friends and stuff like that, you know, be nice to people. But anyways, y'all, it was nice chatting with you guys as always. Have a great day. Take care. And I will see you guys all tomorrow. If you guys missed the live stream, I'll have the live stream live. Usually what happens is the live stream goes private, but I just have to switch it to public. So just give it a second or so. All right, y'all. Take care. Have a good one. And I'll see you.